back to back to back, no rest.
All that CrossFitter?
No.
Battle ropes.
It's just here first. When you talk about it, it's like the only thing you can compare it to is that style. But no, I don't do all the stupid fucking movements that just ruin your shoulders.
What kind of gym do you go to? Is it like a big warehouse with like pull-up bars and that kind of stuff, boxes?
No, that's what I'd prefer to go to. Sadly, I go to like
regular gym?
Corporate bullshit, yeah, Globo gym.
Globo?
Yeah, you ever seen Dodgeball?
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Globo gym.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
You know, that corporate bullshit gym.
I thought that's what I was picking up on.
Now, my brother-in-law and I, in our old house, is when we built, because he lived around the corner from me. And we had the garage built out, which was awesome. That's how I prefer more than anything is just work out in a garage.
Yeah.
You know, that like come to Jesus light when you go, you can go that hard in that gym, you know what I mean?
Sure.
That kind of a gym. But my new house, when I moved out to the north so I could actually have some space for everything. And I think we're going to transition everything into this garage, but we haven't done it yet.
Garage gyms are the best.
It's
I love
the best,
my garage
dude.
gyms.
Yeah, Brady's just got his all put together, huh?
It's the best.
You've been putting it to use?
Once I got back this last week, I've been getting back at it again. 2023 is coming up.
You look like you've lost some weight.
I weighed no joke, when I got back from the last hunt, I weighed 174 pounds. I started at like insane. 188 this last year, and then once I started getting into the hunting season and started doing more cardio and stuff, I just lost every single bit of muscle.
You would have been the best 145er MMA ever. You could make 145 so easy in your fucking 6'5".
You would be a rail at 145.
Dude, some of these, you'd be like Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker's 6'3".
I just can't gain weight and stay it. That's why I'm writing an article right now about my New Year's resolutions. It's like literally I'm trying to talk about I need to figure out a way to gain muscle weight and keep it throughout the whole hunting season.
Have you ever tried to gain weight?
I mean, he says he has, but then he's microwaving tilapia.
Yeah, rice and steaks. Brown rice and steak. This thing going to put weight on your bones.
I'll throw Cody on the bus. He always jokes with me all the time. He's like, Brady, you eat a donut. And I'm like, you don't understand. That's not the weight I want to gain. It's just eating freaking donuts all the time.
You should try it.
He tells me to eat donuts.
You need just add a stick of butter to everything.
I was here listening about your crazy coffee the other day in the podcast.
Yeah,
I mean, you guys were talking about your
super coffee.
Super coffee.
Put a stick of butter in your coffee, Brady.
Yeah, but
I only do 1 tablespoon. Just a stick of butter is a little.
Every year, and I try to gain it back all winter, and all that wasted time. Well, not wasted time. I enjoy working out and lifting, but then I just lose it all.
Yeah.
Gotta eat more, man.
It's good to have you back.
It's good to be back.
You look thin. It's time to put some weight on you.
Time to put some weight back on.
Yeah, he went from hunting sabbatical to this absolute fucking adventure of a hunt. And now he's 174 pounds.
Which we're here today to talk about. We're going to talk about Brady's biggest adventure. We should call this Brady's Big Adventure, like Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Do you guys remember Pee-wee?
Hell yeah, I remember Pee-wee.
Brady's Big Adventure. But before we get going, we're going to hit you with a promo. So anybody that's looking to sign up for a GOHUNT Insider research account, which if you're not a member, you should be a member. And that's just a shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug, but you should be a member. We are headlong moving into application season. Yep. We're just prior to Christmas. As soon as I get over Christmas, I'm looking at applications. And I already 100%. Am anyway.
Oh, I've been thinking about it for a while. I haven't dove in yet, but man, I've been surface level going through Insider trying to figure it out.
Yeah. I've been writing application strategy article for Wyoming elk. So I've been headlong looking at different units and looking at some proposals that they maybe have coming down the pipeline in 2024. So I've been digging deep into application strategies. So
seems like there's a lot of changes coming.
Oh man, I was thinking about that today on the way down.
Like
so you've
got
Utah, Utah brand new elk plan. Yeah. The issue that Idaho just had, I think you probably see some changes there.
Let's hope.
Yeah, Wyoming's definitely, they've got a Wyoming task force that's looking at some pretty significant changes for their plans. You've already got a 90-10 split. They've got once in a lifetime now for what they're calling their big 5 species. But yeah, I think 2023, 2024 for sure, you're going to see some changes. And it seems like there always is, but
just seems more than usual right now. To me, at least.
Yeah. I think you're spot on, and that's one thing I was thinking about on the way down today. Is nothing ever really stays the same within the hunting world, and it's largely because a lot of this is you have the science part of herd management, but then a lot of that is socially driven, right? The number of applicants, what people want out of a hunt, whether they want quality, opportunity, those kinds of things, and as such, those state agencies have got to change, which is why I think it's more important than ever to stay up on those things. You have to stay with them.
Which is why I need an insider account.
Which is why you need an insider account.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, we put all that in application strategy articles. You got draw odds. We've got draw odds for Wyoming, Arizona, New Mexico, a bunch of the other states. Utah will be coming soon. So we have a promo podcast. If you use the promo podcast 100, right? So one promo podcast 100. We're going to give you $100. It's 100 points back in the Go Hunt Gear Shop that you can use towards the purchase of any gear that you want in the gear shop. So I would say now is definitely, it's the best time to sign up for an account. Start digging deep, do the research, get yourself 100 points back to the Go Hunt Gear Shop, and pick up some gear that maybe you didn't get for Christmas that you actually wanted.
And with Insider membership, you get access to GoHunt Maps. So I use GoHunt Maps a lot during the app season, trying to look at where that public land is in the unit I'm trying to apply for. So I think those go hand in hand together with each other.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit misunderstood is how important maps are right now. Obviously not like boots on the ground e-scouting, but man, like that surface level looking at where is the country that I can hunt, like where's it situated in these units I'm comparing that I can draw, with this, that, and whatever. So yeah, I mean, it's to have this all connected it's awesome.
Yeah. Maps are super important. So get yourself a Go Hunt Insider membership. Use the podcast 100 promo. Do it now. Now's the time to do it. So Brady, you're back. Where have you been?
Oh, man. I've been all the way across the world. So I actually dropped a waypoint when I was over in hunt camp. I thought it was really cool because I was still using GoHunt Maps when I was over there because you can still use it in other places that we just don't have layers, but I can still have satellite imagery.
You still have offline maps, everything.
Yep, so I was dropping waypoints and stuff like that. So where our camp was to my house in Las Vegas, 7,311 miles away.
Whoa.
That is mind-boggling to me, how far away I was.
Yeah,
I think the time difference was like 13 hours.
So you're almost exact opposite of us.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I've been in Tajikistan for quite a while.
Not just Tajikistan.
Yeah, not just Tajikistan. So
I have so many questions for you that I've been holding off because I knew we were going to do this podcast, but I have so many questions.
Yeah, travel logistics were crazy. So basically I flew from Vegas to Minnesota to meet up with my dad. So I wanted to make sure I had a little bit of window in there. So, because this flight from Vegas to Minnesota was not a connecting flight with everything else. If I lost my bags from Vegas to Minnesota, I'd be screwed for the rest of the time. So.
And this is a good point too. It's something I'm super happy for you and your dad because having experiences like this as a father son. I mean, it's incredible.
Pinnacle.
So you got to do this with your dad, which I think is the coolest goddamn thing ever.
Yeah,
a real true adventure with your dad doesn't get any better than that.
I want to go back. How did this come to be?
So to go way back, I actually was asking my dad while we were there because I knew a little bit about the backstory, but I wanted to hear more of it. So I actually filmed my dad talking about this too, which was cool. My dad picked up, he said it was from one of his friends, gave him a bunch of old Outdoor Life magazines way back in the day when he was 16 years old. The first one he picked up and opened up, he'd never read an Outdoor Life before. He's 16 years old. There's an article in there about Marco Polo sheep hunting. And he said from that day on, that's the dream hunt he's wanted to do his entire life. And it took him from 16 years old to right now in his life, he's 63, to finally make it happen. And he invited me on this hunt, which was mind-blowing to me. So
that's so badass, though. That's before YouTube and before Instagram.
Yeah. So that's
like the true once-in-a-lifetime dream. You know
and you can imagine back then, too, logistically how crazy it would have been to go to Tajikistan.
Oh.
Way back in the
day. I don't even want to think about it. It's bad now. In 2022, I don't want to think about it back then.
So it's been his life dream. I've obviously known about Marco Polo for quite a while as well, and I've always thought that is literally the pinnacle of mountain hunting. Everyone knows I am literally addicted to mountains. I'm addicted to the craziness, the adventure, pushing my body. That's why I do all the crazy. That's why I think why I'm a mule deer hunter is because I can't go on sheep hunts every year because mule deer gets me as close as I can as sheep hunting as possible because I get out in that terrain. I get that budget. Yeah, and I can just see, I can go into mountains, I can experience everything that I would on a sheep hunt, but I'm not hunting sheep, I'm hunting mule deer. And that's all that stuff, just the mountain adventure. That's why my mule deer sabbatical was so crazy, because I just put myself in a crazy place. I love the struggle and love going big and hunting big, nasty mountains. And then Marco Polo has always also been on my mind. I just never know I could actually do it. And then having this come to fruition, hey, I'm going to be a sheep hunter. We started planning this hunt 3 years ago. And to have it finally be here and now it's over, it's still so hard to put into words. I literally can't describe how amazing this hunt was. If I literally could have dreamt how this hunt would have went, I don't think I would have dreamt it as well as it. The outcome of it.
That's awesome.
It was so amazing. Everything about this hunt was perfect.
I think the most common thread between Western hunters and hunters as a whole, for that matter, is like that adventure side, just not knowing what to expect. You know, wake up before the sun comes up, brand new day. You have no idea what's going to happen. I think that that allure of the unknown and that adventure, like whether you're going in, you know, a whitetail hunter, you're going in the backyard, or you're going in a backcountry hunt in Colorado, like there still is that unknown of the adventure that's about to happen. I mean, two different adventures, obviously, but there's just that unknown thing in your head. So I would imagine, I would imagine there's not very many hunters who don't know about Marcos and the Argali species and all that, right?
I think people know what one looks like.
Yeah.
That's kind of the extent of it.
And
I mean, if you ask me right now, I don't know anything about them other than what they look like. Are you drawn to them?
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah,
so I think everybody, if they see it like that magazine, or you see nowadays a YouTube video or a story on Instagram from Brady when he goes in depth about what happened on his hunt, like I find it hard to believe there isn't anyone out there, or that there is anyone out there that's not like attracted to it, that's not super into it when they see it. I mean, it is the pinnacle of.
They are the longest horned sheep species in the world, and
it's the pinnacle of adventure, the pinnacle of the unknown. Like everything that we are drawn to and that we do when we talk about and what we get excited about, like it, in my opinion, doesn't get any bigger than.
Do you know if they exist anywhere else?
I mean, they're in Afghanistan, they're in Kyrgyzstan.
Okay.
There's a good population, and
isn't Kyrgyzstan like a smaller species of them?
Yeah, it's like the I can't remember exactly what it is off the top of my head right now. I should know.
Because I don't know shit about them either.
I don't know either.
But I know you got to travel a hell of a long ways to get to them. I know it's an unbelievably crazy adventure. I know Tajikistan is the Iraq border, which is like
Afghanistan.
Or sorry, Afghanistan border. And then I have heard that there's a subspecies smaller.
There's a little smaller one. We actually saw one of the other species while we were hunting. It's actually right next to the ram I killed too, which is really cool. So there's a smaller species that doesn't drop down. It drops down like pretty deep and has more mass, but it doesn't have the big long double curls that come out.
It's interesting.
But if you want to hunt the biggest Marco Polo,
that's Tajikistan.
Tajikistan's the biggest Marco Polo.
I've heard that.
Kyrgyzstan has a good population as well, but they're not as big.
So how did your dad find this hunt?
So my dad's been, he goes to SCI every single year.
Okay.
He's at the stage in his life now where he wants to do a bunch of bucket list hunts.
Sure.
So he's trying to cross, a bunch of these stuff off while he can.
And good for him. He's pulled it off. He can do it. That's awesome.
And he's been talking to a bunch of people at SCI for over years, jumping on phone calls, meeting with them in person. And finally, we landed on the outfit we went with was Hunting Consortium, which they're a big name booking agency. Like Shocky's used them before, and all these, they do so many different hunts all across the world. That's basically the booking agent. So what was really nice for that was like they handled and helped us through all the permit process, because this is not just like, hey, we're booking, here's money, and then here's your plane ticket later on. You're going to go. Like it's a long process to start to think about.
Let's be real. It's unfriendly territory.
Yeah.
So I would imagine, this is what I have a lot of questions about. I would imagine there is some shit you got to go through to make sure you're good, right?
Yep.
Because I know even going to Mexico, crossing the border, my paperwork has to be dialed with the weapon and the bullets that I'm taking. When I leave, the bullets got to match, and because they're really careful about that stuff crossing the border, which they should be with what's going on. I would imagine going to an unfriendly territory that's massively more unfriendly. I would imagine there's some stuff.
Yeah, even going through the rifle permits, like you said, you have to have your rifle serial number written down exactly, and that makes me super nervous because I had to make sure I see it. I had to text them a picture of it, and also had to write it down, and then they give me the paperwork back. And I have to also look at the paperwork right away to make sure it matches, because now it's on me to make sure they filled out their side of the paperwork correctly. Because if there's one number off on there and you're going to an international hunt, that gun is going to get confiscated.
Mexico's the same way. And I have good handwriting. Like my wife, I have very good handwriting for an adult male who, doesn't take very good penmanship.
When's the last time you
Seriously.
tried to write something?
I write all the time. I don't type. I only write.
Really?
So all my notebooks, everything I write, because then it stays in my mind better if I write it out.
Yeah.
If I type it out,
I tried to write something not too long ago, and I'm like, I lack the ability to.
I always write.
To write.
I'm a writer. I'm old school writer. But my handwriting is never worse than when I'm filling out one of those paperwork. I'm like trying to make a 2.
Nervous.
I'm like, that doesn't look like a 2. I got to, can I not? Because I'm so concerned about making it perfect so they can't misinterpret what number I just wrote or like which letter I just wrote on the serial number. My handwriting is complete shit when I have to fill out one of those things.
So that's why I'd also fill out a visa application for Istanbul, Turkey, and a visa application for Tajikistan. And then later on, we found out we didn't need the Tajikistan one. But anyway,
visa, why visa?
I don't know. We needed to actually to be in that country for a little bit of time. We still needed a visa. So we had
just
to
a better checkpoint of understanding who's in the country.
So we had to fill all this paperwork, and like you said, it makes you super nervous because it has to be perfect. So I'd do this top part perfectly. I start getting down the bottom. Still, like, in my train of thought, like, I need to do it perfectly. And all of a sudden I get to, like, the last little thing I have to do, and I mess up. And I have to tear that paper up and do it again. Like, this happened multiple times because I just want to make sure everything's perfect. And through the whole process, so I kept communicating with them, hey, all my ducks in the row, do you have everything I need? And earlier, too, I also had to reapply for my United States passport because mine was going to expire when I was going to be out there. So I had to also do that.
While you were there, it was
No. It would have expired on the hunt if I didn't renew it ahead of time.
So to come back would have been a problem.
So 2 years ago I had to renew it early to make sure it was all good.
That could have been fun.
That would have been really
You could have been trapped in Tajikistan with no return passport.
That'd been great.
Just become a Sherpa.
I told the guys when I was there, I'll stay there and guide.
There you go. Did you, when this plan started to come together, were you planning on hunting, or was your dad just planning on hunting?
Well, at first I was like, I can only, I was like, my dad's like, yeah, he brought this up to me that he was going to go to shoot a Marco, and I was like, dude, that's awesome. And he was like, I really want you to go with. Like, do you want to, shoot an Ibex? Like, I would love to shoot an Ibex. I could easily start saving enough money for an Ibex. Ibex is still going to hurt like hell. Like, the cost of an Ibex is still not very cheap, but I could start saving up.
Priorities.
Yeah, and then we ended up going to Montana, and I took him deer hunting, and on that hunt, that was 2 years ago. He's like, you're only going to go to Tajikistan once in your life. Like, you're never probably going to go there again. Yeah. I'd really love if you take a Marco Polo. And I was like, I can't afford this by any means at all. And he was really cool about it. It's like, well, to make it fair with your brothers, we're going to set up a payment plan thing where no interest. You said to pay me back whenever you can. Like,
God, that's awesome.
Whenever you can start kicking me money, like, just do it that way. And I'm like blown away. Like,
it's a good dad right there.
Like, are you serious? Like, this is what's gonna happen? Like, no, I want you to do this. Like, you've never killed a sheep. I want to do this with you as our not our last big hunt, but like, it's good. It's like the biggest hunt we'll probably ever go on together.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll share those memories. So like, I want you there, and I want you to experience everything, and I want you to also take a Marco Polo.
Mm-hmm.
God, that's awesome.
So like, then it's like, you had that thought in your head, like, I'm going to be a sheep hunter, but you still don't know anything that's going to happen coming up. You just know eventually I'm going to be a sheep hunter.
What'd you get him for Christmas this year? Because that's pretty good.
Absolutely nothing. Nothing. He's already told me absolutely nothing.
So first installment back on your loan.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like that whole process was just mind blowing. That I found out while we're in Montana that I was eventually going to be a sheep hunter, trying to wrap my brain around it.
And not only a sheep hunter, it's a Marco.
Yeah,
I've literally
starts with that.
I literally just spoiled myself by starting at the pinnacle of all sheep species. And it's like what people say: once you taste sheep hunting, you're addicted. Yeah. I am literally addicted. And what I love too about, like, everyone knows my background, how I love to read, and I have a biology background like you, Trail. So like I dive into everything about the species. So I picked up every single book possible about Marco Polo hunting, and not just even Marco Polo hunting, but I read a bunch of like biology reports about the species too. I wanted to learn everything I could about this animal before I would step foot over there.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a giant list of books. Some of these books were published in like the early 1900s, like super old books that were like, they cost like $150. Some of these books, they're really hard to find. But I was like, I want to know everything it is about this, about the travel, about all these old people's hunt stories, just to immerse myself in it before I even went over there.
Any of those ex-legends ever kill Marco? Fred Bear was the guy that killed the big doll. I always forget his name. He's
Jack
on
O'Connor?
Jack O'Connor. Any of these guys ever kill Marcos? Do you guys know?
I honestly don't think.
I have no idea.
I don't either.
I really don't. I think I'm sitting in the presence of probably like one of two, guys that I've ever personally, been around that have actually been over there and hunted Marco Polo.
I agree. Like while you're talking about these books, that's where my mind went. Is like, I wonder if any of them had ever ventured there.
Yeah, it's like one of the coolest ones is East of the Sun, West of the Moon by Theodore Roosevelt, and I think his brother, it's like Hermit Roosevelt. Really cool book. Super old book. Has a bunch of sheep stories in it. Another really good book was Sheep Hunter's Diary. It's this guy who basically had been mountain hunting sheep in Ibex for 30 plus years, and he had a bunch of stories of hunting in China. Obviously hunting in Tajikistan was one of them, so I read that like multiple times, just, like learning about all the elevations and what they're dealing with and all the cool camps and the shepherds and all that stuff. Like I had a pretty good idea of what I was going to get into. And then also, like you said, like in the last podcast, I heard you say like we were throwing back videos the whole time. Like I literally have a playlist on YouTube called Marco Polo, and I have every single Marco Polo video saved. I don't care where it was country-wise. I've watched every single Marco Polo film multiple times just to fully immerse myself in what I was going to get into. Like
I'm not a jealous person. I'm very happy for people to succeed and do things. I had some jealousy while you were over there. So while you were there, I can't even tell you how many Marco films I watched while you were there. I'm like, God damn it, this guy's over there doing this for real.
Yeah.
Oh, holy shit.
Like
I literally watched, I can't tell you how many I watched, because every time I would wake up, I'm like, man, I wonder what Brady's doing. Go watch a video.
Freezing. That's what I was doing.
That's awesome.
So yeah, and then back to like the whole like preparation for it. Like you said, you have to have the ammo dialed, so we can only take 40 rounds of ammo over there.
That's it?
40 rounds.
That's it?
40 rounds per person. And so in my mind, it's like, well, 40 rounds, that's a lot. Like, I practice all year round. Like, literally, I made it on one of my Instagram posts. Like, everything I did this year, shooting-wise, was leading up to this hunt. Like, I kind of kept this hunt under wraps for a while because, it's a big hunt. It's really expensive. It's kind of out there. Didn't know what people were going to think. So, but, like, everything I did, my body, my shooting.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you care?
Honestly, I don't. It's like if people want to hate about it, it's like whatever.
This is you and your dad. Who gives a shit what people think?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why anybody would. I mean, regardless of how it came to be, or you know, I mean, what an adventure!
It's literally more. It's not really a hunt. It's like you said, it's an adventure. Yeah. Everything about it is new to me. I've never left North America before. I've literally never left the North American continent.
That's really I did not know that about you.
Yeah, I've been.
That makes it even more interesting.
I've hunted in Canada and I've hunted in Mexico and obviously hunted in the United States and.
Yeah, but you've never flown across the ocean.
I've never left the motherland.
Wow, I did not know that about you.
Yeah.
That makes this even crazier. So this 40 rounds thing, like, seems like a lot.
Yeah, it seems like a lot, but like when I think about it.
But then you start going to, like, what if my gun gets fucked up and I got to start shooting it? What if, what if
I have a story there too.
Oh, no. Okay.
so like I brought like extra rounds. Like we're gonna jump around in this story.
Extra more than 40?
No, I brought more than 40 to Minnesota.
Oh,
so this is the thing. So like I flew to Minnesota on the 22nd. We had 2 days. We didn't leave until the 24th to fly to Chicago. But in between there, we had an early Thanksgiving with my family, my mom, my brother's wife.
I've said this about his family since day one. His mother, saint. Absolute saint. They've been hunting over Thanksgiving for. All I want in my family is a tradition of hunting over Thanksgiving, and your dad has pulled that off, and I gotta sit down.
We set that precedence, and you can never break it.
I've got to understand how we did it, because I'm doing it.
This is the first Thanksgiving we've ever spent together as a family. No joke. Like, maybe in high school, but still, I was always duck hunting, or we were doing something back in the day during high school. First Thanksgiving ever as a family, and we celebrated it 2 days early, so it's not actually on Thanksgiving because we hunted every year. And since I moved out west, every year I would take my dad, my brothers to Montana. So we celebrated early Thanksgiving. So I brought extra rounds so I could shoot my gun in Minnesota. I want to validate that first flight. Even though I'm going to get some time over in Tajikistan to validate, I wanted to validate. So me and my dad went out to
real quickly, because all this change in elevation is where my mind's going.
Yep.
What did you have? What did you bring with you to dope and check? And
well, my SIG 8K rangefinder, it basically calculates all the atmospheric for me. So
you were good with just that.
Yep, and that's why I always tell people too, like 100-yard zero on a gun is way better than a 200-yard zero, because 200-yard zero you end up having a little bit more environmentals impacted. There's a little bit more wind, and when you get to elevation, it could change things a little bit. But 100-yard zero, whether you're at sea level or whether you're going up higher, is going to be so perfect.
Yeah,
but
it's
then
half of 200.
Yeah, it's everything after that. And so I had my SIG 8K rangefinder, and I had my Kestrel 5700 Elite.
For wind?
for wind. And all that stuff too also has my ballistics data in it. So my SIG and my Kestrel are perfectly matched. I matched the feet per second with it. So when I get to Minnesota.
So you had no stress going to Minnesota first
No stress
shooting.
going to Minnesota. I shot 100 yards. It was perfect. I went out and shot like 400 yards. Well, actually, when I got to Minnesota, I did have to, I think I bumped it up a click. That was it, just a quarter MOA. My dad shot his gun too. It was shooting great. But the thing about my dad's gun, let's jump into this real quick, is his gun. So there's this like weird phenomenon with guns that when I set up a gun, I shoot basically 200 rounds through my barrel to break it in and season it. Because if you do a bunch of load development beforehand, there's a spot in a barrel life, usually around 150 to 200 rounds, that your barrel will speed up. It's just a weird thing. Like everything gets broken in. All of a sudden, it speeds
just
up. It could be the exact
smoother?
same load, exact same powder. It'll speed up at that point.
I wonder
How
what
much?
that phenomenon is.
Mine, I think, did like 75 feet per second.
So it's pretty
Good amount.
pretty decent.
And so
That is pretty decent.
So my dad has a 28 nozzler, and he handles.
Do you know what the phenomenon is?
I can't really exactly remember. I probably should because I load to prevent that.
That's interesting. I haven't heard that.
So like that's why a lot of people say don't do load development until you reach that point, because if you do load development beforehand, all of a sudden you're gonna have it speed up like my dad's gun did. So my dad's a 28 nozzler. We've been using it for several years, but he doesn't put a lot of rounds on it because it's dialed. Like literally it's perfect, shoots perfectly. But his gun sped up when we were in Minnesota. All of a sudden he was getting hard bolt lift and pressure signs. Like he literally had to take his bolt and yank it up as hard as he could to get it out. It was still shooting good, but his barrel had just sped up to the point where now all the pressure in his load, his feet per second went. We didn't put
Does
the
it ever
chronograph
go?
on it.
Do you know of any other time it goes up more than 75? Like our
No,
guns?
once it hits that, it's pretty much will stabilize at that.
Is he
level.
getting high
But
impact
will
point at that?
Yeah, so it's speeding up, and so it's going to change how it shoots, but also then it's changing some of the, like it's going to start blowing out primers, and it's going to give ejector marks in the bottom of the brass. So while his happened there, he's like, well, I don't have enough time to change this right now, because to make it back even again, you can just drop like 3/10 of a grain off there and kind of bring it back down, and then that pressure will go away.
So my question though is like, so you said they'll speed up about your gun.
Mine
sped up
is
about
75.
70.
Sometimes it could be 20, it could be 50.
Could it ever be 150?
Probably could, yeah, easily.
Is your impact point not changing though?
It's going to change because it's going to
slightly,
go a
yes,
little hotter.
it's
yeah.
faster.
So my
yeah,
dad,
it's a smidge hotter.
my dad had to make his a little bit adjustment too. But he's like, man, my brass.
So he did it through the math of the load.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
So he's like, man, it's super hard bolt lift. He actually did have a primer fallout. So it was basically like, Dad, you're burning your brass right now, because he bought brand new ADG brass. And I'm like, you're just burning your brass right now, because once you get that hard ejector mark on there, it's basically, it's torching where that primer goes. So you're gonna have a loose primer when you put it in there. So he's like,
Nobody wants a loose primer.
No. So he's like, I don't have enough time to change this.
Especially when you're going to Tajikistan on your hunt you've been waiting for since you were 16 years old.
So we were trying to figure out.
Was your dad stressed?
He was stressed.
Was he stressed?
He
seems like a very
there.
calm.
He's very calm.
Very calm guy.
He's the guy too that learned everything about reloading, and he also knew this was going to happen eventually, but it happened literally that morning, and then we had Thanksgiving like that night. So like he didn't have enough time to go back home, reload, come back out, and shoot again. So like, I'm just going to deal with this when we get out there, and hopefully it'll be okay. So we loaded a bunch of same rounds at the same thing.
Your dad, I've been around your dad at what, 2, 3, 4 times a year since the day you started with us, right? He seems like the calmest, collected, just like super down to earth, very like thoughtful, just kind of like, you know what I mean? Just very grounded individual. Was he not that, or was he still himself?
He was still himself.
Really?
He was still himself, but he's
God.
like, what's going on? And I try to explain it to him again. And he's like, well, we don't have time to change this. I'm going to let this just ride. And I'm like, yeah, if all else fails, we have my gun there too. Like we have 2 guns. So we have 80 rounds between 2 guns. So like, I'm not like 40 rounds to me is a lot, because almost every animal I shoot 1 round or maybe 2 rounds. I shot a few more of my elk this year, but so I'm like, we'll be able to deal.
So when you're there at home, are you reloading rounds there?
My dad was,
decreasing the grains?
No, he didn't want to decrease it, because we didn't want to go back to the range and redo everything. Because it was still shooting good. He just had to lower some stuff, but the pressure signs was a little bit concerning.
Can you define shooting good? Like it was still within a...
Oh, yeah. It was still, 3/4 of a minute group.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So it's still right there. Like his gun, it definitely shoots better because it's a custom gun, and he hands loads everything for it. But like, we didn't want to change things because it was shooting good. And then later on, that kind of added some stress to the hunt when we get further
I can't
on the
imagine.
story.
Can't imagine.
So yeah, that was like
So it did lead to something.
Did lead to
foreshadowing
something later on.
here.
Yeah, foreshadowing.
Interesting. That's what the whole like we'll take care of it when we get there. Oh shit.
Yeah.
That would have been.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going on an elk hunt, that's one thing. But
One
if you're
thing.
going across the world,
Yeah.
it's entirely something different.
Yeah, if we had one more day, he was
And
like,
you can only bring 40 bullets.
Yeah.
It's like once you're there, if you do have to,
Yep.
you know.
yeah.
Make some adjustments. So you flew from Minnesota.
Then we had Thanksgiving. The next day, we basically also took all of our gear, laid it all out again. So I had all my gear packed from Vegas to over there. But once we got there in Minnesota, we basically opened up all of our gear, put everything all across the floor, and started going
inventory.
took inventory of what we really need and what we really don't need.
Was weight a concern?
We took 6 bags total. That includes the gun cases. So I had my Sitka Nomad and I had the Yeti Panga 150 liter.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad had a Nomad, and he fit all his stuff in his Nomad. Then I had the gun case, and we put both our guns in my gun case. And
Ooh, both guns in one case.
I know that's the one thing I was nervous about because
that
like
makes
if it
me-
gets lost.
Pucker a little.
But
Yeah,
also,
for
but,
sure.
So here's the thing though too. Like when I flew from, I don't know what it is with airlines right now, but they gouge you on freaking everything.
Everyone's gouging everyone on everything right
So
now.
everything.
But there's no inflation. How dare you guys
Yeah.
say
So-
that?
so I-
You guys don't know what you're talking about.
So I
There
flew-
is no inflation.
So I flew Delta from Vegas to Minnesota, and I checked in. Obviously, I had my Yeti bag, my Nomad, and the gun case. $220.
Holy shit.
I was like, whatever happened to first check bag free? They're like, yeah, we don't do that anymore. I'm like, oh
This
gosh.
my brother-in-law and I were talking at the gym the other day. The best saying right now is market adjustment.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's market adjustment. What the fuck does that mean?
That means
market
that
adjustment.
you pay more for everything.
So-
But like you're not paying more. I'm the only one paying more.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause
yeah,
you-
everybody. I mean, the consumer.
Yeah.
Just a trickle down effect.
So it's
market adjustment.
$220 to find my bags to Minnesota. That was more than my plane ticket.
That's crazy. That's unbelievable.
My 3 check bags were more than my plane ticket cost. That
Wow.
is outrageous.
That is outrageous.
That is crazy.
So that's why when we got there, we're like, we're gonna
What was the total, if you don't mind me asking,
total.
to like plane luggage to get there? What was like the travel expense?
Oh, I don't know, ungodly.
$5,000.
Really?
Yeah, the tickets over there are crazy. I think the
Really?
tickets were $4,000.
Mm-hmm.
To get there,
Yeah.
like just the seat on
The
the
seat
plane.
on the
to
plane,
get there. Yeah. Holy shit.
And so every time we flew, because then from flying from Minnesota to Chicago, that was another giant expense. And then for some reason, it wasn't like because we had to go from Delta then jump on an international flight, so it wasn't a weird
So you had
connecting
to-
thing. So we had to pay for our bags again.
Yeah, you had to leave the domestic, right, and then go
Yep.
through the international, like
Yep.
recheck everything.
So we had to pay. So we had to pay again all the baggage fees in Minnesota, and then we also had to pay baggage fees again in Chicago.
Holy shit, man.
So we get screwed over multiple times. So back to like organize all of our gear. I brought a bunch of clothes for my dad, some extra Sitka insulation layers, extra gloves, and started looking at inventory. What do we really need? What we don't need? My dad's like, I already have a bunch of international charge cords. You don't need to bring yours. And I already brought mine to Minnesota. So we start like separating out gear, trying to like make these bags as light as they can. One of our bags ended up being crazy. It was like 70 pounds.
My weight question though is more like how we pack for a backcountry hunt, where everything that's going into your bag is like very weight conscious. Were you thinking like that, or was it
very,
a different
very weight conscious as well? Because
for the hunt,
for
not for the luggage, like for the hunt?
For the hunt, yep.
Yeah.
So everything was dialed. Like, do we really need this insulation piece, or do we really need an extra
Yeah,
pair of
yeah.
pants? Like, even the clothes I was wearing, I literally wore these same pants in a different jacket, and this is like my travel gear.
Mm-hmm.
And I wore an extra pair of boots in case I needed them, and like not an extra pair of shoes or anything like that. Like trying to fully wait on the plane, but also then when we get there too, I don't want to have extra gear in camp and not know where my stuff is.
Did they give you a gear list?
They did give me a slight gear list.
Like, are you taking a knife? Are you taking game bags? Are you
Well,
taking?
yeah,
That's a really good
and that's
question.
and that's the crazy thing, because I thought about, like, I had all my gear packed. Let's do a gear list video before I leave,
Mm-hmm.
because we always do that with all of
Yeah.
our hunts. But like, we know what we're bringing on the hunt perfectly.
Well, you know
For
what
the-
you're
for-
up against.
Yeah, for this hunt, I had no really clue. So
Yeah,
even
I
though
wouldn't either.
even though there was some gear list stuff out there, and they give you, it's basically like, bring some insulation layers. These are the good quality
Did
brands.
they tell you what kind of temperatures you're going to be looking at?
Yeah, last year at the same time we were there, it was -40. That's Fahrenheit.
Montana tomorrow,
Yeah, exactly.
-44 in Missoula tomorrow. Thank
Yeah.
God I graduated.
Yeah.
Holy
Minus
shit.
40.
-40 last year this time. So that's why we were like, we need all these insulation layers. I had these like, outdoor research ultimates that are basically like almost for Everest type stuff.
Yeah.
And like we had, a bunch of different
Did you
insulation
bring down
pants.
booties?
No, I didn't. No, I just had 1,000 gram.
That's a trail special right there. The down booties.
I'd just be living in those.
Yeah. So like, we had to prepare for the worst.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to do a gearless video beforehand. Now I want to do a gearless video after the fact because there's a lot of gear I brought that I never used.
Gotcha.
And so you mentioned knives and stuff.
We should do that.
Yeah, I have it all ready to bring at the office tomorrow to do a gearless because I want to, even though this hunt is so out there, but there's a lot of people that go on international hunts.
Yeah.
And there's no good gear list to be found. Like I struggled to figure out exactly what to bring. And now that went over there, like you mentioned knives, I never use my knives the whole time.
Yeah.
Because the guides, they're so good at what they do. And they're like, yeah, you can, like if you want to cut up your animal, you can, but they know how to do this. Like I've never cut a sheep before. I've never cut a sheep for a full body mount. Yeah. I don't know how to, like,
I'm sure it's the same, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know what they do for you. I don't know what's part of that whole package.
Yeah, and I was like, do I bring game bags? And my dad's like, no, that wasn't on the list to bring game bags. So I left all the game bags in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to save some weight and not bring too much gear. Yeah. And so now that I came back from this hunt, literally I have a big pile of stuff I didn't use, so I'm not going to include that in the gear list. And I want to make a gear list for people to help out who are going to do a hunt like this in these cold temperatures. But again, you have to definitely know what you're going into. Like if I was going to go on a horseback hunt and it was a backpack style thing in like Kyrgyzstan, that might be a little different. And I might have, I'll have a sleeping bag and that sort of thing, and probably my knives and probably my game bags then as well. But this hunt's going to be a little different.
I mean, I'll probably never do this hunt, but I'm interested.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'll watch it just because I'm interested to see what it was. I want to know what kind of equipment that you took.
Yeah. And the biggest thing we learned too. So like even the logistics side, like so obviously I have to have gun locks. I get to the first airport. They're like, you need 4 gun locks on your case. I'm like,
isn't it 2?
Yeah. I'm like, no, you don't.
I always put 4.
Well, my gun case doesn't even have
laws too.
My gun
right?
case doesn't even have the ability to put 4 on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you guys don't know what you're doing. And they're like, and I'm trying to talk to them like, no, you only need these 2 locked on there. They're locked. They're like, okay. But like, so I had these 2 locks, but I also brought extra locks. So my locks I brought were TSA approved locks. I normally don't use TSA approved locks. I use my normal locks. But I figured going on an international hunt, all these other international flights I'm going on, even though I looked it up, like, TSA approved, you can have your own ones as well. So I had the TSA locks, and then inside my gun case, I had 2 extra locks as well. So that way, in case a TSA agent had to break into my gun case to see what's in there, and now I don't have a lock, now I could be screwed on the next flight. So I made sure I had doubles of almost everything I went over there with. Even passports, I had 3 copies of my passports printed off. I had copies of my Tajikistan visa, my Turkey visa as well, copies of my gun permits, make sure I have everything just dialed.
I would be so stressed with this.
It's a lot.
It's overwhelming.
It's so much you have to think about when you're doing that.
So I've been to Argentina on a duck hunt. Back when I was super into duck hunting, this is something I just had to go do. Super affordable, awesome, especially back then. So I did that. And so some of this international stuff, the 2 locks, I went through that. And then I've been to New Zealand, same thing. But like, then you start getting into the visas and traveling multiple countries, Turkey to Tajikistan. Like, just what I had to do to go to Argentina and just what I had to do to go to New Zealand is like.
Just got to be super organized.
And
have to be organized.
And then even for the rifle, like a lot of times I'll pull my bolt out and they make those, they're basically those child safety locks that go through the action, and they have a lock on it too. I brought 2 of those as well.
Did you have to have those?
No, but I brought them just in case. What if I got to Istanbul and they're like, hey, you need that to fly, and it's in my case.
That's a good thought. If I was going a country like that, that's a good thought.
I even pulled out another bolt from one of my other rifles, and I brought 2 bolts for my rifle, just in case something went wrong with my bolt.
Yeah,
I'm going all the way over there. I'd rather
Which
have
could
2
happen.
bolts.
This is the Brady Miller I know right here.
Yeah.
How far in advance did you start putting all your stuff together?
The summer.
Like
no joke. I started I knew I had the late season Idaho, Colorado hunt.
Yeah.
So a lot of that gear was going to be going in there, but I also had some extra gear set aside, like all these big mittens, all the blizzard type parka stuff that I had, and then my overwhites and my boots.
You brought the overwhites? I saw you wearing that in your picture.
Yeah, those are the Sitka Nodak overwhites.
I was wondering if that was through the
Yep, they recommend overwhites for sure.
Okay.
And even though I was going to wear the open country camo pattern.
Did you see the new King's camo overwhites?
Those are really good looking.
They look so good.
Yeah.
I was hoping you'd just wear some white painter's coveralls.
Right.
Yes. Go get a hazmat suit.
That's it.
My old goose hunting field days. You just spray paint a bunch of shit white and go lay down.
Yeah.
So that was a college kid stuff right there.
But it is pretty cool now that you can get Sitka
King's
white.
camo, Sika.
Yeah, King's makes the new pattern is sweet.
It looks awesome.
Yeah, the release I saw the other day looks
I,
pretty
I
incredible.
thought of you too when it came out. I'm like, God, that would have looked really good out there.
Yeah, and even though the Sika whites are made for snow goose hunting,
Yeah.
like they definitely work for that.
For sure.
It's basically like a rain shell.
White is white.
It's really.
I mean, yeah.
I wish it had some outer pockets though. Like there's no pockets on the pants to put my rangefinder or anything like that.
Yeah,
So like
that's tough.
But yeah, so we finally gathered all our gear, figured out what we need to bring, what we don't need to bring in Minnesota. And then we headed from Minnesota to Chicago, and that was our first flight. And then you land in Chicago. And then,
How long was the layover? How long did you stay in Chicago?
Oh, I think the layover there was 6 hours.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was pretty
good
brutal.
one. It's a good
So we
one.
had to wait in line forever because we had to basically you land in Chicago, you have to go back downstairs to baggage claim, grab your bags, go back up
to the
stairs,
international
to
side.
international area.
That's what I remember going to New Zealand and going to Argentina. I went through LAX on both. You fly domestic there, and then you got to check all the way back out, go to the international side, which is not easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they are not in the same area.
Yeah.
And then you got to go back through all the bullshit to get back into the terminals for international.
Yep.
It's such a headache.
And then from there, that same night we flew from Chicago to Istanbul, Turkey. And that flight's 12 hours?
Ooh.
So it was my first experience on a flight like that. And I was blown away when you get in those planes. Those planes are freaking big.
Yeah, they're
They're
huge.
huge.
They're absolutely giant.
Yeah, there's
It's
two
a-
aisles.
It's a magic trick that they can stay in the air for that long. It's unbelievable.
But I really enjoy their boarding process though. Like it,
How
this
so?
is a weird turn in the
do
story
tell.
right here.
because you board way earlier, so you have way more time because the plane's so big, so you have to allow other people to come in there,
Mm-hmm.
and they board from the back to the front.
Ooh,
It's
that
great.
is nice.
Like obviously, first class people got to go in first, but
Yeah.
then they board from the back to
I
the
mean,
front.
obviously.
I mean, obviously.
they're
So-
first class for hell's sake.
So my dad and I are, trying to do as cheap as we can. So we're literally in the freaking back of the plane. And so we walk back there, like I had enough time to open up one of my bags, grab my book out. My dad was grabbing his iPad out. Where normally flights are like, you're like sitting in your seat.
Yeah.
The person next to you trying to push you to like get
Yep.
you to sit down. We had so much time. We're sitting there, all of a sudden they walk by, they hand you a little like bag thing with all the, the sleeping mask. And if you want to take off your shoes and put the little slippers
Which
on.
airline did you fly?
Turkish Airlines.
Uh-huh.
And
I've heard of it.
the flight attendants too are gorgeous, by the way.
Not bad.
Let's throw that out there.
You are single, aren't
I
you?
am
Brady's single, everyone.
Yeah, so they're really helpful too. Like I never knew you would get 2 meals on an international flight. By the
Yeah.
way, I
Damn.
got 2 meals.
Not first class. Still got two
Still
meals.
got two meals.
Yeah.
Makes me
And
wonder what
here's
first
the
class
thing-
got. What do they got up there? A steak
And
buffet.
cocktails.
It was
Surf
really
and
good.
turf?
They had some like crazy like meat burger looking thing and a bunch of good vegetables. And like I'm not a big dessert guy at all. I don't eat sweets at all. But I was like,
You
I'm
do
on a
not,
flight. I'm
yeah.
gonna splurge. I'm going to a cool place. So the dessert was really good. But the thing
It's weird. Your 174 frame body at 6'5".
Yeah, you need to be
Doesn't
a
eat
big
dessert.
dessert guy.
Yeah.
I know. But then the biggest thing I kind of regret is like it's an international flight. We found out coming back that beer is free.
Oh, that's a good one.
I did not know that going there. And
You wouldn't have pounded that much going there
no,
anyway, would you?
coming back, we
Yeah,
definitely drank
you
quite a
got
bit.
hearty.
Yeah. But, like I'm so jacked up because I'm flying internationally and like I try to stay awake as much as I can. Like I kept looking at the screen. I kept watching the screen as we're starting to travel across these places, like going over like wherever it was. I don't know.
This is a really dumb question, but you obviously went Atlantic around, right? So went from the Atlantic side around. So you flew over the Atlantic Ocean, not the Pacific, right?
From
that was
Chicago.
a dumb
yeah.
question. I realize how
To
dumb
the-
that is
to
as
the-
I was talking through it.
Sometimes you got to just work it through your head.
Yeah,
in a map.
it's sometimes though you always hear of like a weird way you wouldn't have thought of.
I mean, I couldn't pick out any of these on a map right
Yeah.
now. I mean, I
Did you go up? I
Blatantly
mean,
honest.
the Earth is flat.
Yeah,
let's
we
be
went
honest,
up.
But did you go up and over?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just,
And then
just making sure since the Earth's flat, you know.
the only thing I didn't like on
Still
the international and because we're in like general area or whatever, there's not a lot of room for a big tall guy like me and my dad.
No,
We're both 2 giants.
giant.
And
Clearly, you got your size from your dad.
yeah.
He's giant.
Yeah, so we're like crammed with our knees. Of course, the guy in front of me puts his seat back,
Yep.
and then I'm the type of guy too. Even though I'm a giant person, I never put my seat back on an airplane because I always feel bad with the person behind me. And if I look back and I was like, oh, it's a little kid, kick
Oh,
that sucker
perfect.
back.
Was it a kid that kicked your chair though?
No, he didn't kick my chair.
Oh, that's a good kid.
But it was a little scary though. As we were flying over there, they jumped on the plane announcement thing. They're like, if anyone here has a medical background, please come up to the front right now. They had like a little.
That's unnerving.
Yeah, they had
I've had that happen
something
before.
happen with
Not a good feeling.
a person on the plane. But luckily,
Scary.
they were able to do whatever they needed to do, and it was
Yeah,
okay. But for a while, it was scary. Like people are walking around, people are getting out of their seats, and like letting them do their.
Did you ever
thing.
know what it was?
I
Ever
didn't
hear
know.
what it was?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, that's awful. That's not a good feeling.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
already unusual that you're in the air,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
then to have some sort of emergency like that, it's just never a good vibe.
Yeah. But the crazy thing is, again, international flights. So I think I've hinted at this before. One of the biggest things I was like concerned about in my life, because I think I should know how to do this. I've never actually gone to the bathroom on an airplane. And now I'm at the point in my life where I'm kind of embarrassed about, like, how do I do this? Like, is some kid going to be sitting behind me in line, like, hey, you could go in there right now, and I just don't know how to use an airplane bathroom. So, like, I'm trying to prep myself.
You talking number one or number two?
I never used one at all. I've never gone to the bathroom on an
Are
airplane.
you a camel? Like what?
So
You've
here's the
never
thing. So
taken a leak on an airplane?
My mom and dad are both like, you're going to, like, it's easy. You just go up there and use it. I'm like, I know. I'm 36 years old. I should know how to use an airplane bathroom, but I've never had to use it before.
You were
'Cause
anxious.
I always time it.
You were anxious about this.
Yeah, I always
You've
time
thought about it.
my bathroom break. I always have coffee at the airport. Like, I go to the bathroom right before I jump on the plane. I never have to go to the bathroom. So my dad's like, oh yeah, you're gonna have to use it. Ha, ha.
And
I can't wait to see you be embarrassed and like walk up there. Like, maybe you should do it at like 3 a.m. when everyone's sleeping. I'll throw the story out there. I still, on all these flights there and back, I still have never used the bathroom on an airplane. Somehow, in a 12-hour flight,
Because you're part
I didn't have
goddamn
to go.
camel. How do you not take a leak for 12 hours?
Remember my theory though.
Yes,
I
you
keep
drink
my- I
coffee
keep-
and you dehydrate yourself.
I keep my body at a constant level of dehydration, so it's just normal. So when I'm in the mountains hunting, it's normal to be
and
dehydrated.
I
so
still refuse to believe that there's actual
There's
science
science
behind
to it.
There's
Trust me.
no way.
Were you holding it?
no. That's the weird thing too. And I guess
You're too anxious. You've talked yourself into this. This
Yeah.
is subconscious. You've.
I mean, this
But
is
since we're on
crazy.
the subject, we'll talk about when we flew back. Like when we flew back, we found out beers are free. I had 3 beers, 2 coffees, and a water, and never had to go to the bathroom.
That's weird.
On the return flight back.
You guys are like Navy SEALs. You too. You guys can control.
Trail
It's not me,
hunts.
dude. I gotta pee every 30 seconds.
Yeah, but on the other side of that,
On the other side.
you're
the
like
other side of it,
you're like a Navy SEAL.
I've got some stamina.
So I kind of feel like I was cheated on this because I still have never gone to the bathroom on an airplane.
There's
I kind of want to experience going in there and like.
I'm going to be honest with you. You don't want to experience that.
Okay.
It's
You
not
do not
that fun.
The size of the human you are, you do not want to go in there. I promise.
Yeah, it's like a compressed porta potty. It's small. It's not a very big.
It is tiny. It's so tiny.
But I did kind of enjoy the little slippers they give you on the airplane, so I took off my boots.
That's nice.
But the slippers though are like a size 8. Like my foot was hanging off like 4 inches from the slippers.
Excuse me. Do you have size 15 slippers?
So when you land in Turkey,
Yep.
do you have somebody waiting for you?
Yep.
Hold on.
So,
What did you do on the flight?
Yeah,
so I watched a couple random movies. They were just some,
Dumb
like-
and Dumber.
New movies
Yeah, they were new movies to me.
or old movies? You never seen them before?
Never seen them before.
Okay. What else?
I had my laptop and I had a couple YouTube videos that I'd saved on there for Marco Polo film. So I was watching a couple of that. I did a little bit of writing. I started writing about the trip, logistics of it. Started looking at some things. I did a little bit of work on the plane too. Had some Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So I was trying to like, stay awake and stay excited and keep thinking about what's going to happen.
Was your
on the
dad
hunt.
sleeping?
He was sleeping.
Did you guys sit next to each other?
Yeah, we sat next to
Yeah,
each
that's
other.
nice.
Yeah, my dad has iPads. He was watching a bunch of like Netflix stuff he had downloaded on there.
So did the flight feel long or no?
Actually, it didn't feel that long.
Okay.
Honestly, it didn't. But like I said, I was so jacked up. I kept looking at the screen and kept like panning around like the path we were going to go on.
Yeah.
And trying to look out the window when I could before it got too dark. And like I was super excited. I took so many pictures of the screen and just the
That's
airplane and just trying to soak it up. Like I just like that because like again, the reason I do a lot of this stuff like documenting the whole hunt. Like I have 3,500 photos and an endless amount of photos on my phone and took a bunch of video because I want to be able to document this hunt for people who can't go on a trip like this.
For sure. No
Because it
question.
is such a bucket list hunt. Everyone dreams about doing this, but not a lot of people probably will be able to or can.
Mhm.
And so I think I need to do my justice to showcase it for people so they can see everything that goes on.
Yeah,
kind
for
of.
sure.
That's all you really get in life is memories.
Yeah.
So the opportunity to flip those open and look at them from time to time and just take you right back to that moment.
And even if it was just a photo on the airplane, it's like, to me, it means something.
Yeah.
To other people, it might not, but it's a memory to me.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I tried sleeping a little bit in the plane too, but obviously it was really cramped. And so we're getting over there now. Time's crazy different already. Land in Istanbul.
What time is it in Istanbul?
I think we landed.
Is it dark?
Yeah, it was dark again. So we missed a whole day of daylight going
Yeah.
over there.
That's weird.
Yeah, going that way, you
Yeah,
miss
we
it.
lost
Coming
a full
back, you
lost a
gain
full
it.
day. Yep.
Yeah.
So we get there, and we had a guy. His name's Sonny, who was our person helping us with all of our firearms and
Hunting consortium guy?
Yep, he was paid through the hunting consortium, and so he met us there, helped us grab our guns because we had to take our guns because we were going to spend 2 full days in Istanbul doing a bunch of sightseeing. So we booked the 2 days because we're like, we're never going to be over there again. We might as well see all this cool stuff
Yeah,
in
how
Istanbul.
cool.
Istanbul is such a gorgeous place, like amazing. And
I've heard it's amazing over there.
the funny part is, so we get there, he deals with all the gun stuff, and he's like, all of a sudden, Sonny hands me like a bunch of cash, a shit ton of cash, and it's in
Nice.
it's whatever it is, it's
I want
just
hand me some cash.
it's Turkish money,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I don't know what I'm like asking my dad, like, why did he give me a bunch of cash? Like, what am I doing with this cash? And my dad's like, I have no clue.
Souvenirs.
So I start like figuring this out. We're waiting for these 2 other guys, Brent and Brian. They're potato farmers from Canada. They're also going to be hunting in camp with us, father son.
That's cool. 2
Yeah.
father sons. That's
So it was
awesome.
super great. We had like these guys too were
What were their ages?
same age as my dad, and he was I think he was 28. His son.
Oh, that's awesome.
And
That's
his
really cool.
son's married, has 1 kid. I think another kid on the way.
That's
super
awesome.
cool guys, like potato farmers from Vancouver. So we talked we literally hit it off with these guys right away because
sure.
they're both like my dad. You know, my dad's like doesn't like fancy things at all. He's like blown away with how this whole trip went. But he's like, these Canadian guys are exactly like us. They're like, this stuff's crazy. Like, what are we doing here?
Down to
Like,
earth, yeah.
Down to earth dudes who like I could literally, if they came to Vegas, we'd both be like, let's get out of Vegas and go to some small place over here and just go hang out. Like I could literally hunt
Salt
with
to
them.
the earth people.
I could have them in my house, like super great people. So we land there, and I'm telling them too, like, I have all this cash. Like, this guy just gave me a bunch of cash.
Just you?
Just me. And I'm trying to figure out why he gave me the cash. So we found out later that he wanted to go to the duty-free store because like he wanted to buy a bunch of alcohol for himself. And so he handed us the cash because you can only do it with visas.
Oh.
That's awesome.
So he wanted to get a bunch of alcohol for himself. So we went to the duty-free store.
Did he speak English?
Yeah, he spoke English. So finally, because like he was talking really fast and wheeling and dealing and going over there and yelling at all the guns people, like, hey, take these guns and hold them for these guys for 2 days. And I'm like, this guy, like, that's his job to like, you know, push people around a little bit, but also like, you know, help us with the guns and store them in this place because we have to store it at the airport for the 2 days we're going to be in.
Isn't it a weird feeling? Because I've been in these situations too. It's weird that like here in your day-to-day life, you don't feel vulnerable, really.
Yeah.
Like you're in control, right? I mean, I got up this morning, drove to Vegas. I'm in control of my day. I never really feel this like feeling of vulnerability. When you go on a hunt like that, you go to some place like that, you land, you step off the plane, like there's this overwhelming feeling of like vulnerability.
Yeah.
Like,
I am not in control.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm completely left up to somebody else's devices.
And that airport is ginormous. I've been around a lot of United States airports. That airport, I've never seen an airport that big before.
Holy
it was
shit.
so confusing trying to get from the plane down to customs to check our stuff, but like there was no one there because it was crazy late at night over there. And then we got there, got through customs. Obviously, like met Sonny and going back and forth. But like then we finally went to the duty free store. He literally bought a metric shit ton of stuff for himself because like he couldn't do it. He needed to use our passports. So he used my passport, my dad's passport, and one of the Canadian guys' passports to get a bunch of stuff. He went all in. I think he was
what a nice perk of the job there.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then right away from there, I had to go get a COVID test because I am not vaccinated, of course.
You had to go get a COVID test?
So I had to get a COVID test. So I needed
COVID still exists?
So
Weird.
The scariest thing about this hunt.
How dare you, Trail?
I've not even heard. I could. When's the last time you heard somebody tested positive for COVID?
I have no idea. I have no clue.
I don't remember. Anyway,
We're going to get shut down for talking about it.
Neither here nor there, but.
So that was the biggest thing I was nervous about. So the whole like prep with the hunting consortium, they were like, all right, if you have if you're vaccinated already, you can go travel to Istanbul and get into Tajikistan. But if you're not vaccinated, you have to get a COVID test, and it has to be negative when you land there. I can't do it in Minnesota.
What happens if you test positive?
Quarantine?
Did you know
I
this?
have no idea.
Yeah, I knew this. This was really scary.
Did you test yourself before you got on the plane from Minnesota?
No, I don't believe in that stuff. So I get over there.
That's pretty crazy.
That is
Yeah.
pretty
I mean,
crazy.
that's your entire trip on
So-
that test.
So that's why I
Yes.
was very nervous about anything I did leading up to that hunt. That's why I kept explaining before. Like,
You didn't go to a bar and make
I
out
did-
with
I
some randoms the night before then. is
So
what
I was
you're
really
saying.
concerned about all the hunts I applied for. That's why I wanted to make sure they were early November hunts, and I was done. And once I got back from my sabbatical,
You just quarantined.
I basically did normal stuff like I do to stay at home. Come
That's
to the
why you
office,
were so nervous when I was down here.
probably.
I was,
Stay away.
And then like
I
I'm
was
thinking,
sick too.
Were you sick?
Yeah, now I feel terrible actually.
I was telling some people like I was avoiding people at this office who were.
Do you remember
sick.
that?
Yeah,
I was here that day, the day
Yeah.
before you left, and I actually was sick.
yeah.
Now I feel awful.
And
I felt great about it then, but not now. Now
Yeah,
I feel
not
terrible. I didn't know your entire trip was rested on it.
yeah,
My bad, Brady.
that's all good.
I owe you a burger.
I've never trusted those tests either.
Well, remember the
I swear, you
What
guys
kind of
have
test
you
did
guys
they
ever
get?
been to Mexico?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cleared customs in Mexico off a flight, a commercial flight where you go hit the button, green, red,
It's been a while.
and it's just a totally random green. You get to go in, red they check you. I feel like there's some of that in these COVID tests. Like some of them are just like
Yeah.
preloaded.
Preloaded?
Yeah.
And then the funny part though, so
What kind of COVID test?
it was
Swab?
Just, it was just a nose
Just
swab.
like
It
an
wasn't the
AIDS?
deep one. I had to do a deep one last year when I went to a hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And so before that, we had Dave Brinker here in the office podcasting.
And he had COVID.
A week before I left, he texted.
Yeah, that's right.
He texted Neville, and I was like, "Hey man, I tested positive."
So
for
it is a
COVID."
thing.
Dirty
So
Dave Brinker.
So it's literally a week before I'm going to leave.
Dirty Dave.
He texted me and said, "Hey man, I
Shout
tested
out Dave
positive."
Brinker.
And we were just hanging out with him. So I'm like, "Thanks, Dave. I leave for my biggest hunt of my life in a week."
Dude, what?
Wow.
But luckily I didn't have anything. But then I'm thinking to myself too, like, well, now I'm doing all this international flying. Obviously,
Yeah.
I'm going to Minnesota. I'm in the Minneapolis airport.
Well,
I'm
the
going to Chicago.
the way the airlines recirc the air too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
you got
that's
everybody on the plane.
I mean, you have how
you
many people are on the plane? 1,000 people?
Oh, shit ton.
Were you masked up
No.
on the plane?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
I
He
know
likes
they
to
lifted
breathe.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. My man likes to
I did
breathe.
bring a mask in case we would go somewhere that required it because I didn't want to be limited from going into some mosque or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
in
for
Istanbul.
sure.
So I did have one in my pocket.
I might have been in full hazmat gear if I'd have known my entire hunt was resting on
So
No
the
question.
COVID test.
On a recirced airline air going
That
through
was
airports.
crazy.
So then the crazy thing is too, so I land there right away, get my COVID swab. I'm not going to find the results of that for 2
Were you
more
nervous?
days.
Were you stressing?
I was a little-
Oh,
like I was popping so much vitamin C beforehand and like airborne stuff. I was just like,
yeah, vitamin D,
popping 'em.
everything.
yeah. And so I get my COVID test, and I'm like, you're not going to find your results for 2 more days until you leave from Istanbul to Dushanbe, Tajikistan. So I'm like, all right,
What was the name of that town?
Dushanbe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Douche.
Never-
Dushanbe. It's the capital of Tajikistan.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So
Great name.
Yeah.
so then we finally, get all our stuff taken care of, get my nose swabbed. We go to a hotel, and the next day we start our first day of touring Istanbul.
You're in pure tourist mode.
Tourist mode right now.
You wearing mountain boots?
I had my Scarpas on.
There you go.
Of course.
Is it hot or cold?
It was a good temperature. I don't know, like 50 degrees.
Okay, it's pleasant.
Yeah, it was supposed to be rainy, so it was cloudy, which was really nice because I didn't want to see sun because we see sun all the time in Vegas. So
Yes.
I was stoked. My dad was like, "Oh,
Could-
it's going to be so horrible. It's going to be cloudy and hazy." I'm like,
Could
"No,
not
this is
agree more. That's what I look forward to is
Yeah.
like going on those hunts. I want it to be cloudy and
Yeah.
rainy. It's so nice.
And so the one of the crazy things about Istanbul is we went to a bunch of these mosques. Got to go outside of one of the big famous ones, Blue Mosque. I'm not sure what the other ones were named, but we went to a bunch of different mosques. Super cool to see them. Went to
I
this,
heard
like,
they are insanely impressive.
insane, like the architecture
Yeah,
and like
I've
how
heard
did they
that.
build these things way back
Yeah.
in the day. And I'm not sure I can't remember. I'm not a big like history buff. I wish I was because like when he was rattling, our tour guide was awesome.
Did you have a tour guide lined out?
Yep.
It wasn't Sunny. It was somebody else.
Someone
right?
else, but it was also booked through the hunting consortium. Like these
Oh,
are
okay.
people that like
so it's like
also-
an entire package.
Our entire
all,
package,
all
yep.
taken
So
care of.
this guy, like, he does do this for hunters all the time, but he also does like summer trips, and he'll take families out, and they'll basically
Gotcha.
tour the entire thing in
What's
Turkey.
Turkey sea level, right?
Oh yeah, it was like 30
Right there.
feet above.
Yeah,
sea
that's
level.
right there.
Yeah. So now I'm like super low elevation, but we're like going through all this stuff, walking around, checking all these cool mosques, and like
Do you
Him-
remember
him-
when the mosques were built?
that's
How
what I
old
wish
they
I
are?
remembered right now. They're very old, like crazy old. I can't remember exactly.
I'm into some weird shit right now down the rabbit hole of
What kind of weird shit?
ancient human history.
Yeah.
Ancient human history. There's a
Okay.
show on Netflix called Ancient Apocalypse.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's
Graham-
about Graham Hancock. You know, and he's got that Younger Dryas theory about the big flood and all this stuff, and then pre and post that flood. And it is super interesting. It's got me like into it. That's why I'm asking how old of where it would fit in
I
that.
don't remember.
Field
that
trip.
theory.
Because
We're all
Field
going
trip,
to
let's
Turkey.
go.
because I'm into the hunting mode right now, but I'm also like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to soak it up. I'm taking a bunch of photos. I'm trying to listen to the tour guide as we're walking around.
Were you allowed to take photos? Full blown?
Yep. I asked him a couple
That's
places.
cool.
There was a couple places we went into. It was like a palace of some like sultan guy, and we weren't allowed to take photos at all. So I had to put it in my backpack. I
Yeah.
had to get my backpack scanned. And we walked in this one place where it was like a maze of walking around touring this like kind of this castle looking thing. And there was crystals in the ceiling everywhere. And I can't remember exactly the prices, but it was all these crystals are worth like multiple millions of dollars. Like this place was super amazing.
Damn.
Walking through it all, seeing all the old stuff in the town, seeing everything. But one thing I was blown away with the town is everywhere you walk, fresh food, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables. It's like an open market everywhere on the streets. And like we stopped once, we're like, how much we want to buy some fruit? Like $1 US dollar got us like a giant bag of
The
like,
cornucopia of fruit.
yeah, like
Cornucopia.
US
Nice
dollar.
words.
US dollar
Thanksgiving.
goes a long way.
Big brain
there.
over there.
But then
You know what I've noticed on the international travel I've done too is like we are so commercialized in our food situation.
Yeah.
They are still like very much like family farm to farmers market type thing. I've noticed that everywhere I've gone internationally it is a huge difference.
It's really kind of gross. Like I do my grocery shopping on Sunday, and every week, inevitably, I will look at my cart as I'm going through the checkout, and 99% of it's in a box.
yeah.
And it's just
It's just not
a
right.
gut punch.
Yeah.
Just
It's just
doesn't
not
feel
right.
good.
Honestly, I can't recall if there was much boxed food at all. It was all just
Yeah,
fresh.
it's all
fresh.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
That's-
everywhere I've
that's
gone
cool.
internationally, I have noticed that everywhere I've gone, and it tastes different. Like whether it tastes different because your five senses are, you know, a little more
Heightened.
hypersensitive,
Yeah.
hyper heightened because of where you are, new place. I don't know if it's that, but man, I swear it tastes different.
Food good?
Food is amazing. Oh my gosh. I won't even be able to describe because I'm not a big food guy at all. Like I don't know what really ate, but it was phenomenal.
Food's fuel.
Food is fuel, not
Food
fun.
is, yeah.
But it was like we went to a bunch of
It's my
restaurants.
guy,
It was super
Brady.
cool. And then the crazy thing is about the restaurants though, and walking around the town, I was like, why are there so many cats? Like house cats everywhere.
You mentioned this to me. I got a lot of questions on this.
Everywhere.
He mentioned to me how many cats. I'm
I
like,
don't- I don't
hold
know
it,
anything about this.
hold it. We'll get into it on the podcast.
Yeah. So like as we're walking around, there's cats just all over the street. I look up in the trees.
How
there's a
many
cat.
cats? Like literally, how many cats?
One alleyway, I probably saw 50 cats.
One alleyway.
One alleyway.
Like how normal was it for cat sightings?
They're everywhere. And like so the
Like it's impossible to not see a cat.
impossible to not see a cat.
There's
You-
just
you look-
feral cats.
Look up on the house, like on the house that's right along the side with like a little basket outside the window. There'd be a cat sitting there, and then all of a sudden it would jump down, run down into the street. Not a lot of dogs. Cats everywhere. Like cats on
Did
on
you see
motorcycles.
dogs?
Cats on kitchen table things sitting outside the restaurant. Walk into a restaurant
So,
and eat.
did
All of a
you
sudden there's a cat that comes over and sits next to my leg as I'm in the restaurant. It's totally cool.
Did you see dogs?
There is some dogs, but there's more cats. Like there is dogs just randomly.
So what's the
Like
deal with-
feral dogs
feral
too?
dogs as well.
What's the deal with the cats?
So I think it's a big thing there that they just take care of the cats, and it's a cool thing to have cats. Like I asked but the second day I had a different tour guide.
No one owns these cats.
No one owns
They're
these
just
cats.
entirely feral.
So I was like, I see these cats, and I see like cat food in like little areas of the street, and the guy's like, oh yeah, I love the cats, and he drops his backpack, pulls his backpack out. He had a bag of cat food. He had a water dish for cats, and he had water for the cat as well. And he's like, yeah, some of these cats now know me, and I'll be walking down the street, and they'll come to me. I get out my cat food. I'll put the cat food down for him. The cat will eat it. I'll put the dish back in the thing, and I'll keep walking.
Are they like stringy, weird-looking cats?
No,
Like
they're very healthy looking cats.
clean.
I have a giant photo thing I'm going to post eventually. Cats of Istanbul.
You should
I
have
have-
brought one back with you. You're a big cat
yeah,
guy.
he is a
anyway.
big cat
you
guy.
like cats.
They're clean though.
Clean
Like
looking. They're not dirty. Like you can. I don't know if
Every
they can hear
cat's
English,
dirty.
but I'm like, talking to the cat. Cat comes over to me, sits right next to
They're
me, starts
friendly.
rubbing up on me. Very friendly. They're not scared of you at all. Like I said, they'll be sitting on motorcycles. They'll be sitting on tables. Like while people are eating, there'll be cats on the next seat.
No
over
one
just sitting
cares.
there. No one cares.
My
just
allergies
normal.
would be.
I
That's like
don't-
one of the few things I'm pretty allergic to is cats.
Not a big fan of cats.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting.
Much more
Yeah.
dog
And we
person.
went into this big like underwater. It's basically like a old water holding tank thing back in the day, and it was like these giant. It was underground, so it's like it's very like humid once you walk in there. And these giant pillars are just, I don't know, 100-some foot pillars, like all over the place in this little water thing down below. And that was super cool, like seeing how they used to store water back in the day. Like,
Since you've come home, have you done a bunch of reading and like kind of gone back and looked at the history of the place that you were?
I've been doing a lot more reading on Tajikistan itself.
Gotcha.
Like the Istanbul part was really cool, but again, I'm not much of a tourist person and not much of a history buff. I am when it comes to like ancient Egypt. Like,
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
pyramids,
Yeah.
and that just is mind blowing to me how we did that back in the day. But even like we went to so the first day was we toured the Europe side. So the Europe side, and then there's a big alleyway that separates
full of cats.
Istanbul. Full cast on both sides. But we did
It's so
Europe.
wild to me. The cats, like, why cats?
They're everywhere.
Anyway,
Literally everywhere.
Cats. I mean, cats are like rabbits, if you know
Yeah.
what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they do not have an issue reproducing. So,
No.
like, where does it end? Where does it stop?
There's all over the place. Like I said, we were in a restaurant eating, like a nice restaurant. Like not,
Who like vaccinates these cats and like make sure they don't
Bob Barker's not big over there.
they don't have fleas and like how does this work?
Yeah.
I'm so confused on how this is like just a normal thing.
So Istanbul's got a European side, you say?
Yep, we're in the European side the first day, and there's a big cut that basically separates that section of Istanbul from both oceans, and then the other side's Asia. So first day we toured Europe.
You guys definitely aren't as concerned as me about these goddamn cats. It's so weird to me.
It is weird.
Like, when I say I'm at a fancy, we had lunch at a really good restaurant one day. Tons of just meat everywhere. All of a sudden, this cat comes in, literally sits right next to me. I'm eating, cat's just like chilling.
Do they jump up and eat your food?
No. I eventually grab
They're
a piece
trained
of,
cats.
I grab a piece of food.
It's so insane.
I fed the cat. The cat just lays down right next to me. And finally, the cat knew I was really friendly. And after dinner, cat comes jumping up on me and just falls asleep on my lap as we're sitting there talking. It's just normal. And then we're in a restaurant. This is not just like we're in like a.
How are these cats so trained? My dog at home
Just
jumps
Never
on the
jump
table
on
and
the
eats
table.
food.
Never jump on the table once.
Just used to people, I guess.
But they are everywhere.
That's weird.
And how are all the cats have such good manners? How do they know?
It's probably not much of a bird population.
I was
Yeah.
just going to probably don't have rats or
Prob-
mice or
Probably
birds.
not a lot of birds.
Yeah.
God, that's crazy.
Like, I mean, I could pull up a bunch of photos, but like,
Huh.
This
there's
is
many cats.
so, I don't know.
What kind of food?
Well, what?
What kind of food?
You're asking the wrong person.
Oh,
Just-
really?
Like
You don't- you didn't know?
we would
Like,
show
He just
up.
open his mouth, close
And
it.
we had a tour
Fill
guide
the
there,
belly.
and we're just like, we don't know what really to order. You know, we can't read any of the things that are
Mhm.
on there. And he's like, well, I'll just order for you. And most of the time, they just ordered a big like meat conglomerate of food and just tons of stuff. But there was one thing on this. We were on the Europe side, or no, the Asia side, the second day, where they had these like really long like green vegetable
Asia
things.
side. Is that what you were getting into? Is there
Yeah,
two
so
so
that's
sides
what
to
you're
there's the
European
Europe
side?
side and an Asia side. So it's really crazy about
Huh.
Istanbul is like it's on two different continents, but it's still the same city. And it's still the same country.
I didn't
So
know
there's a Europe side and
anything.
there's an Asia side.
I'm really starting to feel like I did grow up in Antimony, Utah at this point when you're
Yeah,
talking
well-
because I'm just like, I don't know any of I've never heard any of this.
Me either. I'm like, was very blessed as a young kid being able to travel
Yeah.
and like have seen some stuff out there.
Yeah,
I had no clue about this.
I'll pull up GoHunt maps for you,
Asia.
show where we're at. I'll just hand you the phone while I'm talking.
Is it two different culture? I mean, is it culturally different? Does it feel
It feels very similar in a way. Like
Mhm.
Isn't
it
there a
doesn't feel like
U.S.
there's anything different really.
Isn't there a
about it.
U.S. city that's half Canada, half U.S.?
Vancouver, Montreal, Toronto?
I think it might be Toronto.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it would be. Interesting though.
Yeah.
But like Turkey and Asia seems very different. Canada and U.S. are very similar.
Samesies.
Like this is a weird concept.
So you'll see
We're
right
going
here,
from
Lorenzo.
cats to this. My mind right now
Lorenzo's
in a
still back
blender.
on the cats.
So we're looking at GoHunt maps right now for you guys who can't see, but like this is the Europe side, and this is the Asia side.
Holy
So
shit!
it's just basically a big slit that comes straight down and
Zoom-
separates
zoom
the
out.
continent.
Whoa.
So like there's this big little whatever this bay thing is. It separates out that goes into the
Any
ocean.
issues flying that close to Ukraine?
No, nothing.
Nothing?
They didn't say anything or anything like that. No. And here's this trail.
That is
It's a
wild.
big slit that separates both. So second day,
My mind is officially in a blender.
we were in Asia, on the Asia side of Istanbul.
So you just cross a bridge?
Yep,
Just
across a
drive
big
a bridge?
giant bridge, massive bridge. And it was really cool too because we went underneath the bridge at one point too and went down by the water and looked at everything. All these, he's like, "That's a cormorant." I'm like, "Yeah, I know it's a cormorant."
Yeah, got it.
Like, yep.
Shot those
birds.
before.
And
Dog won't even go get it.
so we went in this one giant mosque on the Asia side. And it was one of those ones that was built recently, so it's not like a super old one.
Mm-hmm.
But I was absolutely, again, blown away with how did they build this. Giant, everything's marble on the inside. We had to take off our shoes. We had to wear these little,
That ain't cheap.
plastic things around our feet. And then we start walking in there. He starts explaining, like, these are where these people, sit there and pray, and they're facing a certain direction towards. I can't remember why this monument thing is facing a certain direction towards something else that means something religiously. I can't remember because I'm not a history buff. But I saw the sign that said, "Women are not allowed in this area." So
What?
even in these churches, still to this day, he's like, "Yeah." So I asked my tour guide. He's like, "You can ask us about anything," because I'm like, "This is really interesting to us. We're all asking about religion stuff and how this stuff works." And who can come and pray in here and do all those things. And he was like, "Yeah, see all the balconies up on top?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "That's where the women pray. They're not allowed downstairs."
Why?
Because it's still like way back in the day how men could pray downstairs, close up front, and the women have to be up on top.
So wild. It's like with the World Cup in Qatar. Everyone coming home and talking about, it's just, man, it's 2022. This shit's so wild.
Yeah.
But then honestly, you think about it in, I don't know, in U.S. terms, right? Like the Masters, Augusta, like they barely changed the rules.
Really?
Just barely changed. Yeah. Like women were not allowed to be members there as of, I want to say 10 years ago, maybe
Really?
5 years ago. Yeah. Like
Wow.
it's pretty wild.
Yeah, that's.
But anyways,
bizarre.
like over there, it's 2022 to think about that is just wild.
Yeah, different.
The women literally can't go there.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So that was really interesting to me. But
So you spent you spent 2 days then. So you spent a full day on the European
European
side,
side.
and then a day on the Asian side.
yep, just kind of sightseeing, checking it out. And
Ethnically, on the Europe side, were they European looking? Were they Eastern European looking?
I would say a little bit more Eastern European looking.
So more like Russian type
Mhm.
look?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are there that are Russian, and there's a lot of Russian vehicles, and they kept talking about people coming over from
Russia.
Russia after
I
all
would
this stuff
imagine,
happened.
yeah.
And
And then when you went to the Asian side, was it
it seemed kind of very similar, honestly.
ethnically, it wasn't
Wasn't
Asian
anything
stuff?
different, no.
Yeah.
Like way he was explaining it to, like, it's one big area. Obviously, everything's, there's different religions all across the thing. Sometimes the same, very similar, but like I didn't see a lot of differences, honestly. But
Melting pot of a big city.
yeah.
Just saw a bunch
but
of
you
everything.
could just tell like different parts of like the old town and the new town
Yeah,
area.
for sure.
And like all the big mosques everywhere, and like I can't remember there was like thousands of mosques. Like it's crazy how many actual
Muslim
mosques.
culture?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What a cool opportunity.
Like primarily Muslim culture. Like
Mhm.
that's what it is.
Yep. And every morning they had I think they have 3 different times of day that they pray.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's played over the loudspeaker
Mhm.
across
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
the whole country, like whatever they're doing during the pray thing. But it's every morning at like 6:30. My dad was like, "What was that noise outside?" I was like, "Oh yeah, that's their pray time."
Honestly,
it's really
kind of cool. Like that
It's
sense
really
of
cool.
community of that
And again, I wish I knew more about that stuff.
community
and
ritual.
how
Like
to
I
explain it right now.
think that's a very healthy thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, that kind of stuff when you come home I'd be combing through that just to see.
When I get back to I'm going to go back to Minnesota for Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
and I think me and my dad are definitely
It has
gonna sit
something to
down
do
and
with the
we're gonna geek
sun,
out.
doesn't it? Like face the sun as it rises, and then midday as it's over.
I have no
I don't
idea.
know.
I should. I just.
I know. I don't.
I'm-
I can't remember.
Yeah, I have no clue.
Yeah, there you go, Lorenzo. Just a little cat just hanging out on an orchard.
The healthy looking cat,
Yeah,
like way too healthy.
there's a cat on an e-bike or e-scooter.
beautiful cat too.
Just
That's
sitting
what's
on an
wild to me.
E-scooter, just
Yeah.
chilling.
How do they not look just mangy and nasty?
Very attractive cat. You should have brought that one home with you.
Yeah.
Put it in the new place.
Wild, man.
So on the third day, do you have another flight?
Yep. So now we had to go back into the Istanbul airport, talk to Sonny again, our little guy who wheels.
He only stayed with you in Turkey. That was it.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we're going through the airport, grabbing our stuff, and here's a funny thing: my dad accidentally had 5 extra rounds in his bag. Ugh. That wasn't in the 40, so my dad had 45 rounds. Dad did not know it because we were shooting guns in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And I had this. It was like an ammo wallet.
Mm-hmm.
And we go through. You have to like go through security right when you walk into the airport. You go through a pre-security. There's 2 different securities.
Mm-hmm.
Pre one right away. Check our bags.
Not mad about that. Just
It's pretty. Yeah.
makes you feel
It's
safe.
just different.
Yeah.
And so obviously our guns and our normal ammo is already in the military security area that Sonny helped put our guns in the day before. So we're checking in my dad's Sitka Nomad bag. All of a sudden they're like, yeah, you got some stuff in here. And my dad's like, okay, whatever. Go through it. Like, what could it be? Like, Dad totally forgot that he had those 5 extra rounds. And they pull them out and they're like, yeah, this is bad. And Sonny, this is why like you could do a hunt like this without maybe a booking agent if you knew how to do things.
Man.
But like, this is why this guy, Sonny, just told them basically what to do. He's like, nope, this is okay. Like, whatever, just get rid of it. Like, it's fine. Like, and these guys were like kind of upset that my dad had extra rounds. Like, it's not allowed, you know. It's like when you go through security and actually have a firearm.
This
on
is
you
the
or
Turkish security.
Turkish security, yeah. And
So is it the 40-round law there too?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like, I don't know if it's a 40-round law there, but the ammo was supposed to be somewhere else. It was not supposed to be on our
It's
on
loose
our person.
ammo. Yeah,
it's loose ammo.
Yeah, it'd be the same thing,
Yeah.
right? If you had,
for sure.
If you're going through one of our things
Yeah,
and you had
I
a
mean,
hunting backpack, you know, but this is there and you can't understand him. And so this is why having Sonny there, because he could speak Turkish.
Yeah, right.
And so he's just literally telling these guys what to do. And we're like, whoa, like, Sonny, you're talking, sounds like you're getting fired up here. And basically it's like, yep, whatever, get rid of the ammo. Like, it's okay. We're like, how'd you just do that? He's like, oh, yeah, I deal with stuff all the time. Like, he just basically told them what to do.
Wow.
And like,
not his first rodeo.
smooth it all over.
Wow.
And
Pulled out a wad of cash.
Yeah.
Probably.
Cut into his alcohol budget. But
Yeah.
hey.
So that was a little interesting. And like both myself.
So that flew over good though? Like all good?
Flew over really easy, but it seems really scary at the time.
Yeah.
Because here we
for
are
sure.
about to go in another flight. And we can't get detained here because, you know, we made sure we were there, you know, 4 hours early before the flight. But still, we don't want.
What logistically? How structured are the times and days you need to be in Tajikistan? Like I would imagine it's pretty tight, right?
Pretty
like
tight window.
As the whatever outfit you went with through Hunting Consortium, right? Because that's not the outfit, is it? It's a different outfit through Hunting Consortium.
Yep, it's through Hunting Consortium, but different.
I would
outfit.
imagine they run it like pretty tight logistically.
Yep.
So if you got detained for a day or two, that's probably
because
catastrophic.
then it's going to detain all the vehicles from us driving there, and then those guys need to drive there, and then some of those guys don't. They're just drivers, so they just drive us to camp and then they leave again. So it detains all that stuff. So if you get hung up and if you miss a flight, like.
I would love to talk to Hunting Consortium or the outfit about some crazy
logistics.
Yeah, some bad shit to stay away from.
Because that's why, like I said, having someone to go through like this to help us deal with all the permits, help us have someone boots on the ground with us to help us walk through everything. Because like I said, you could do it by yourself, but you don't know how to go through all this stuff. And then once we got through there, he instantly was like, give me your passports. I hand him all his passports. He goes and deals with our bags, and he's like, all right, now I need to take your passport somewhere else. And it's like, it's very confusing. We went through the pre-security, checked our bags, went through another little area, had to hand our passport to someone else. They had to look over everything. They had to check them out. We're not getting our passport stamped yet. We didn't go through customs. And then from there, we go through then we finally go through customs, and then you go through another security area, like a normal plane type thing, and you're getting checked again. And it's just like knowing all those little pieces we had to go through just to even get to customs, to get to security was very confusing to me.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, like, some of these flight attendant people could speak a little English, but like it's still very difficult to understand.
Yeah, it's still broken.
And
when you're trying to get like foundational information across, that's like a necessity for what you have to do next. That's where there's the communication breakdown. I'm sure like the niceties is very understood. Hello, how are you? Thank you. Right. But when you start getting to like,
I need to do this thing.
And then now here we are in the Istanbul airport, and I have to go get my COVID results.
Oh God.
So now I'm like,
How stressed were you?
I was
Seriously, how
honestly
stressed?
Very, very stressed. Because like, what is going to happen here? How much money am I going to have to pay to get another test right away? Because I had to pay, I think it was $250 US to get the test.
Holy shit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was expensive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
You could have just taken some with you.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
We got him kicking around all over.
Yeah.
So he walks over there, grabs it, and he's like, "Here's your paperwork." He just hands it to me, and I'm like, "What are my results?" He's like, "Open it up. Open it up. Negative." I'm like, "Oh my gosh."
Was your dad nervous?
His dad was vaxxed, right?
Yeah,
Your dad was
my dad.
vaxxed.
My dad got.
He had to because he went to Greenland.
No,
like that.
he was supposed to go on a muskox hunt, but then that got.
Greenland.
He's gonna go to Nunavik.
That's what it was.
Yep.
Isn't it bizarre, though, that your dad is vaxxed, and we
Yep,
know
my-
you can still get COVID and pass COVID
So that's
being
so my-
vaxxed?
How dare you?
But he
Trail?
doesn't have to be.
How dare you
Yeah.
say
So
that?
so my
How
dad- my
dare you
dad's
say
actually-
that the vast majority of positive cases today are actually people who are
Vax.
vaxxed?
And my dad is.
You're
the
not
type
supposed to say that.
I know. I just think that's weird.
My dad's obviously the type of person who hates that he had to do that, but he got it early on because he didn't want to be limited in traveling because he's now retired. He wanted to go on his crazy hunts.
I don't care
But
one
he-
way or the other. I
And
just
he-
think
Look,
yeah,
if
and
I
he
was-
hates it now. He wishes he never got
Th-
it.
If
there's
I
just so many
worked my
things.
ass off in life to be retired and now go on these hunts, of course, like it's just what you got to do.
there's
I mean,
just so many things like that that are just.
You know,
makes no sense, man.
I mean,
and he could still get
Yeah.
it, but he didn't have to get tested. But because you had that stupid little piece of paperwork, you're clear to go. And it's like, and one little piece of paperwork could be the deciding factor if I can hunt or not hunt. That
But
was
for him,
scary.
it's all good. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so wild.
interesting.
So I got that luckily.
Was your
and-
dad giving you shit?
Oh yeah,
Like, you stupid.
yeah.
Why don't you get vaxxed?
And of course the Canadian guys, they had to be because
Canada,
They-
yeah,
yeah.
they're forced
Canadian.
to. So I'm the only one here now. I'm holding up everyone while we're trying to go into this other place, and
Reality, they could have all been carrying it.
you know.
It's so wild. It's so
Very
fucking wild.
bizarre.
So yeah, then we walk into Istanbul airport again, and now we're in the area where we go, gonna go fly. We're
Weight
walking-
off your shoulders now? Like,
weight,
now you're...
everything's off my shoulders. Just super excited. Oh, one thing I mentioned too about before we jump on to Tajikistan, Turkish coffee, phenomenal.
I've heard.
I did bring some back.
I've
You
heard.
did?
Yeah.
So
Nice.
when I was living in Philadelphia with my son, they have a very big Ethiopian culture,
Mhm.
and coffee is a massive thing over there. And one of the guys I would work with over there to help me get this long stay apartment, and he kind of helped with the logistics of the hospital and my son and us going back and forth. He's freshly out of Ethiopia, goes back all the time. We got into coffee, and he was saying Turkish
Turkish
he
is
said
so
it's
good.
amazing.
Like all the little coffee shops. Like I was like, hey guys, I'm addicted to coffee. Like I
Yeah.
want to check out these coffee shops. I went in a bunch of different
Yeah,
coffee
he
shops.
took
got
me to a
coffee.
bunch of-
so freaking good.
He took me to a bunch of Ethiopian coffee shops in Philadelphia, and he's like, Turkey's kind of the only one that's kind of the next thing.
It's probably not quite as good as the Maverick.
No,
Just,
I mean,
Maverick
it's the stop for your next adventure.
I mean, I
Yeah.
hit that one on my way home. It's
Yeah.
pretty good.
It is good. I hit that the Come and Go. Love their
Yeah.
coffee. I'd hit that every day in Colorado, twice a day.
Yeah. So
Maverick's good too.
your Turkish
Just the
coffee
best
will catch
tagline
up.
in the world too for a hunter.
Your
the-
adventure's next stop.
The adventure's next stop.
That's right.
Every time I drive by, I'm like, that's my guy. That's where I'm going.
Yeah. And then we finally get into the airport area, start walking down to our gate, and I'm just like looking around like this airport is so freaking huge again, just blown away.
It's wild, man.
Get all the way over there, sit down, just waiting. All of a sudden, the ladies come walking up like, hey, we need to see your visa. We need to see your, we need to check all your documents, check your boarding pass. They come walking up to you, and they'll walk around and check everyone's stuff because now we're going to fly to a different country again. And they have to ask for my vaccine paperwork right away. And I'm like, yep, here you go. And I'm like, negative. And they're like, okay, you're good to go. And like they asked other people if they were like vaccinated and stuff. I was like, that was weird. But then we had another super long flight. And so now we've been up all morning till this day. We're going to jump on a plane. And this other plane, I think, was seven hours.
So it's another trip.
another
That's a
jaunt.
long ways.
Yeah, from Istanbul to Dushanbe, and we land. So it's another international flight. Get a bunch of food on there, just hanging out. Like again, just trying to soak up what I'm about to do. Land in Dushanbe at 1 a.m. in the morning, and they're like, "Yeah, whenever we get guns, whenever we get baggage, we'll leave from there and start driving to camp."
Mm-hmm.
we didn't get our bags until bags and the rifles checked in. Like, we got some of our bags, and all of a sudden the rifles hadn't shown up.
Ugh.
So we're literally sitting there. All these other hunters are there, and unfortunately, a lot of these other hunters were other international hunters, so we really couldn't talk to them because they spoke another language than us.
Where are they from?
They're all over the place.
Really?
Like, yeah, it was kind of really cool. Like, they're all going to different areas of Tajikistan.
And they're all going sheep hunting. Ibex.
Most of them were sheep hunters. A lot of them are Ibex. There was a few guys going after Markor.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I met a guy.
You ever looked at a Markor?
We talked to Kevin Smalls. Phenomenal guy. We met him in Colorado when we were on our hunt because he was with one of my best friends in his outfit, and we'd meet up for dinner and stuff. Talk to him. The Markor hunts. Whoa.
Yeah.
That's
pinnacle. Those are pretty penny though. Like
beyond a pretty penny.
Going into this, do you know what what your hunt camp will look like? Do you know what your travel look like?
I know what the travel looks like because luckily there's a lot of good YouTube videos out there that kind of describe the whole process, landing in Dushanbe, dealing with all that stuff, driving on some of these roads, stopping halfway at some of these checkpoint areas, and then continue on. So I knew what
when
I was
you say
expect.
going sheep hunting, is it only Marco Polo? Is there anything else? It's only Marco right there, right?
Yep. I mean, there's some wild boar hunting as well in Tajikistan, and then it's just Ibex, and then Markor. And then you have yaks.
I wonder how many...
Marco Polo, not Markor.
Yeah, Marco Polo. But then
Markors too. In Tajikistan? Oh, shit. I thought those were in Iraq.
They have giant Markors.
How many other hunters do you think there were?
I think the majority of the little area we were staging, there's probably like 20 some people, all hunters there, like all waiting for our guns.
Wow. Interesting.
There's so many different outfits and
how many Marco Polo outfits are there?
That's what I'm wondering.
Well, and how does it run? Is it like Canada where they have these blocks?
Yeah, how many total sheep do they take?
So here's the thing.
Great question.
There is a population in Tajikistan of 29,000 Marco Polos.
Really?
29,000. There's only 110 permits issued per year.
Whoa.
Huh.
Talk about game management.
Yeah.
Even though, 110 is... that's quite a few sheep.
And
it is.
The little concession area we were hunting, I believe, don't fully quote me on this, but I believe it was 300,000 hectares. I'm not sure what.
Mexico goes in hectares too.
So that's a giant concession area, and there's 9,000 Marco Polos in the hunting area I was in. 9,000. And in that camp, they do 60 total are in that giant area of Marco Polos. But there's only 110 total tags per year, and that includes residents.
Is it like a we use the term federal as like the government oversight. So using it in the same terms over there, do they have like a federal oversight of these animals?
And what's really cool about this, so the guys I was hunting at, they run the famous Hot Springs camp. Yeah. They oversee it all. It's been the family business for 40 some years.
Family business? I didn't know that. It's
super
awesome.
cool. And
so like the kids have taken it over kind of thing?
So the really sad thing is the one guy who owned it, he recently passed away.
The guy who started it?
Who was like one of the main guys. I don't know if he started it, but I think he actually did start it.
Okay.
So he is, what I was told, the nicest human in the world. He literally lives for wildlife. He's the biggest conservationist ever. He would have people come in from the Tajikistan to stay there to do surveys. He would help them do surveys. He would help them with all the hunter numbers, and they would write down all the sheep they kill, all the measurements of everything, all the Ibex, give them all that data, take them out there, show them where the snow leopards are.
Do they age these animals? Did you guys pull teeth?
They do everything with it.
That's really cool.
And so he was really big.
Or I guess the ram is easier to do.
Yeah, he was really big on just showcasing like what the population is in this area and what they can sustain and how many tags they actually could do, and wanted more wildlife studies and research just to showcase that they're doing so well. And they have proof that they're doing so well because literally they see a metric shit ton of snow leopards every year. So because of their Marco population and their Ibex population increasing, the snow leopard population is also increasing.
Yes,
like he said at that point,
2 + 2 = 4 on that one, right?
So he said while we were there hunting,
I'm not the smartest guy on the planet, but it seems like that would be a natural progression.
So this season, at that point in the season, they had already seen 37 snow leopards.
Wow. Huh. Hey, so on the aging thing, on those Marcos, do they age ring normally, just like our sheep?
Yep.
Okay. Are they not susceptible to disease like sheep that we have in North America?
That's what's really crazy. Like my dad was sitting down, so the guy who passed away, unfortunately he passed away because he got the
COVID
COVID shot, and then later on had some complications. But he was a jacked human.
Can't say that.
He was super cool guy. So like he was talking about his dad and all this. And
Did he have the myocarditis, like the heart stuff? Yeah.
So he recently passed away, but everyone's like, he's the salt of the earth, the nicest guy ever. Like, and now his son and his uncle is also like taking over everything. And so it's really cool just talking to them again about the wildlife side of it and all the research studies they're doing and just, making it what it is today. Not sure where I was going with that, but it's like.
But no disease.
No, the disease part, yes.
Yeah, no
so my dad was
pneumonia.
talking to him about it, and we were like, how do you help deal with, like, there is some sheep down lower, like domestic sheep, and there's goats and stuff like that
How
too.
close?
But they do keep them separated.
Completely.
They try to keep them separated. Like he was explaining that they work hand in hand closely with the shepherds in the area. So the shepherds are just living out in the middle of nowhere with these little tiny, like, meter you away, like, buildings. They're tiny little buildings, all built out of stone and just crazy. So they will go around too and like not try to tell them how to live, but like if you guys want more money in this area, like sheep hunting has to continue. Ibex hunters have to keep coming here, and so you guys, we don't want you to have a ton of domestic sheep in this area because it could impact our wild sheep and even the yak numbers too. They're trying to help them control it because these guys take care of them. Like he's like, when we were driving around and we'd see a shepherd out there, like they're literally, it's negative 15 degrees out, and they just have the clothes that barely looks like they're going to keep warm. Their face is completely covered, little eye slits and little mouth slit. They're just out there walking.
Do they
around
have
with
Western gear on,
No.
or do they have their own?
Their own stuff. We would just give them giant bags of fruit, giant bags of food as we're driving around. He's like, we have doctors in camp. These people use our doctors. We want them to do that.
It's
like,
their own little
they
infrastructure.
help all the shepherds out, and so like the shepherds are in their concession. Obviously, they live there too, and all this land is government land.
Yeah.
It's not like privately owned at all. So like they help the shepherds, and they help the shepherds like determine kind of how much population of animals they can raise, even though they're kind of in a way telling them how to run their business, but not, because like they know the overarching thing is like these sheep and these ibex. That's what brings all the money into here, and it helps you guys out too, because then we get the doctors, we get the health, we take care of you guys. Like we employ some of them.
Yep. One of the coolest things I have seen traveling internationally, specifically for hunting, is the infrastructure that is built on the back of the hunt.
Yep.
Right? Like it provides its own, just like you're talking about. It's so awesome that.
But we were still all concerned, like, how are your sheep numbers so big with having domestic sheep in the area?
Yeah,
where ours are so messed up here.
With your biology, your animal biology background, will they get and transmit pneumonia themselves just in their own population, or does it take an outside force?
Well, they'll get it typically from an outside force, but then they'll transmit it between each other. Yeah.
So if they truly are keeping the outside forces separate, does that keep pneumonia out of the herd?
In theory. Yeah,
right.
In theory, if you keep the two of them separated, I'm just wondering, like, are Marcos not susceptible to pneumonia?
It must not be as much, right?
We were asking,
like deserts or Rockies.
We were asking, they didn't seem too overly concerned with it, to be honest. Like, it wasn't something that's on top of their mind.
It's my own ignorance. I don't know anything about Marcos. I don't know if maybe they're not. Maybe they co-evolved for so long that they're.
I mean, they are so hard. Just in body size,
they're
alone,
a lot bigger animal.
So maybe they are just hardier and less susceptible to smaller things
disease.
Like that. Yeah.
So, but having a population, it's just mind blowing to me. 29,000.
Yeah, that's a lot of sheep
for 110.
Yeah, and obviously they have to factor in, like, there's a lot of snow leopards. Snow leopards are definitely taking a toll. Wolves definitely take a toll, and those are the only predators. There's no coyotes there. There's red fox, but there's no coyotes.
I've been super fortunate to go up north 3 times now. Once to watch a hunt, twice on a hunt of my own, and to get the rams up north over 8 years old it's a task. Like it's the mortality rate of pre 8 years old is through the roof. Do they have that issue over there, or do you see a lot of like those 8-year-old plus type rams?
I'll get in it a little bit, but like
I would think
my ram was 10 and a half years
I was
old.
going to say, given a population of 29,000 and you're only removing 110, I would think that the age structure through that population is probably pretty robust.
Well, up north is the winter that is really hard on that 8-year-old age class.
But there it's horrible winters.
It's so wild.
It's
They're just hardier,
crazy
yes.
to me. And like a lot of them do migrate from Afghanistan. There's also a giant population in Afghanistan because you have that little corridor right there.
Can you hunt them in Afghan or no?
I don't believe so anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, you might be able to do
I wouldn't
something,
think
but
you'd be able
it's
to.
pretty unsafe for any of us to do that. But
Yeah.
So yeah, we left So we're in Dushanbe, waiting for our rifles. I didn't get my rifle until 3:45 in the morning. We landed at 1 a.m. We're just sitting there
Why?
hanging out. Because it took so long to get off the plane or check them or whatever. Because Dushanbe Airport is not very big.
Tiny.
It's the capital, but it's tiny. Like I felt like I could walk around and do anything in that airport without there's no security really. Like the guys are just sitting.
Like Bozeman.
Yeah, and you walk in there.
Bozeman.
There's a bar right there too, like a cool little bar. Like you're always waiting there. So we get our stuff at 3:45 in the morning. Start our drive.
Is it Muslim culture there too?
Yep.
Huh.
So we get all our stuff. Finally, we met our next guy who's going to help us throughout the rest of the way. Eldar is his name. Super awesome guy. He's been working for hunting consortium for a long time. Hunted all over the place. Hunts all over the world. Very smart guy. Get in our little Toyota Land Cruisers. Those are the vehicles we use for hunting. And I was blown away too when I was in.
Great vehicles.
Yeah, when I was in Istanbul.
Yeah, I'd love one.
When I was in Istanbul, and when I was in Tajikistan, I think I only saw 3 pickup trucks the entire time. There's no
Really?
pickup trucks anywhere. And the pickup trucks there, they look different than ours, of
Yeah.
course. But I was blown away. No one has a pickup. Everyone has these Land Cruiser type
It's a
vehicles.
great vehicle. Those things are.
Forerunners.
And
Yeah.
everything's all stacked on top with the big racks
Oh,
on it.
yeah.
You think about how many generations those vehicles have lasted. Those are the ones.
Yeah. So now our next part of our adventure starts. This is where it starts getting wild.
This is the only thing I know about this Marco hunt because I've been drawn to this adventure. I've been drawn to all this stuff. Every time you hear about the car ride, is where
yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know.
Tell me all about the
So
car
so
ride.
at this point now, I've already been flying. I think it was 21 hours or 20 hours. I think it was. That's not including time at the airport. That's actually time in an airplane flying, 20
Mhm.
hours. We get here, and our total drive time now from this spot to camp, and this is broken up in a couple days, is 21 hours of driving.
That's a lot of time.
That's where I just
And-
bow out. That's where I'm like, okay, this is nuts.
This is not 21 hours of driving at 60 miles an hour, smooth roads, just cruising. This is
Dirt road?
from Dushanbe for a little bit, maybe an hour or two. It's a decent road, but it's still really windy. And I don't think there's any laws on speed limits or where you can drive. I think anything goes. Because my driver,
Are you and your dad in the same vehicle
Yeah, me and my-
with
me
the
and my-
driver?
Yeah, me and my dad and the
Okay.
driver. And this driver is hilarious. He couldn't speak any English at all. But we could tell when he was basically swearing at other people. He's constantly honking his horn.
Yeah.
I've never seen a guy honk his horn so much.
Yeah.
We're driving. At one
Those
point
international
That-
cultures
when
when
the
I've
road was
That's a
traveled,
cultural thing.
they
when the road
love
was-
their horns, man. They
Yeah.
love them.
when the road was nice, we're literally driving, I don't know, 50, 60 miles an hour. There'd be cattle on the road, and we're just hauling ass right next to them. I'm like, that cow could step out any second, and we just nuke it. And it's the cows kind of know just to walk in a straight line. They don't run over, but he's honking at them, and he's sounds like he's swearing or whatever. All of a sudden we get to a big band of, goats or sheep in the road, all over the road, everywhere. They're just running all over the place. He's just honking the horn the whole time. The shepherd guys are tapping their goats and sheep trying to get them off the road, and he just flies by them. At one point, the road is literally a 2-lane road, and we made it into a 6-lane road because it was vehicles all stacked up, and he's weaving around these vehicles, and I'm just this guy's a legit wheelman. He's knows how
He's
to
a driver.
He's a professional.
He's literally a driver. That's
This
what he
is
does.
his profession. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you seeing a lot of other vehicles on the road? Are you seeing
it-
houses? I mean, people.
Yeah, we went through a lot of little villages on the way, and finally we got in a place where it was just nothing, and then we got up on top of this big plateau mountain area, and we stopped and took some pictures, and we drove a little bit further, and that's when he kept pointing, and he's like, Afghanistan. So now from there on out, we're driving along the Pang River.
This is the famous, lot of pictures, a lot of videos that I've seen.
This is the area that's Tajikistan on one side, literally Afghanistan right on the other side.
Gotcha.
So this is really cool though, driving.
Massive valley, right? River at the bottom.
Massive valley. The river is just nasty. If you are a person who likes whitewater rafting, this would be the most intense whitewater rafting ever. This would put everything else in the United States to shame. Like this
Yeah.
river is gnarly. There's lots of places where it's meanders and breaks off into big giant valleys, but like once you get in little canyon areas, and this is where you just, excuse me, get into little like small villages here and there, like in those shepherds, sheep crossing the road.
Is it mostly snow covered?
Down this valley, no. It's like a high desert type stuff.
Okay.
And so they don't get like, there's so many 20,000 foot mountains around there that absorb all the snow that some of these
We
valleys
talked
don't
about
have for us.
14ers in Colorado. They're talking
Yeah.
20s.
Not a lot of vegetation?
It's just like a little like high elevation grassland type stuff. It kind of reminds me a lot of just looking around here in Nevada. Like islands and mountains everywhere, valleys, grass, rocks, and then islands and mountains. But really cool about driving along this border of Afghanistan, looking over and just like we were blown away like right away. Like, oh, there's some people in Afghanistan. Like there's like
Yeah,
there's
there's such a
yeah, I
stigma,
mean,
right?
they're
at this
li-
point.
Yeah, it's a thing.
but they're literally like they're normal people.
I mean, yeah.
Like and like they're not like this isn't the Taliban, but like they're literally just normal people living with nothing.
Yeah.
Like there's power lines on Tajikistan side. There's nothing over there. Like when I say nothing, there's nothing. A shitty little dirt road, and that's it. And they're just like walking their yaks. Some people are riding the yaks. Like they're just moving their herds and doing like see all these little like villages. Like they have all these I don't know what you call them. Those little rock things built into the mountain to like hold the like make green vegetation. There's a big rock wall, another little green thing underneath, like little stepped
Like
green
terraced?
areas. Yeah. And there's all that stuff. There's like old little developments that I can see used to be a town, and now it's just nothing anymore over the years. And it's like there's people in Afghanistan, and all of a sudden we were driving along, and our guide or driver, he said something like white flags, and we were like, where's white flag? He's like Taliban.
Really?
You see these white flags on the Afghanistan side, and it's just like I guess probably like us how we have American flag. We're proud to be an American. You know, people have American flags in the yard. Those are the people that are Taliban supporters.
Whoa.
So you drive along, you see some white flags, and that means that's either they're Taliban right there or they are supportive of the Taliban movement.
Whoa. How many of those do you see?
4 or 5 maybe.
Huh.
And so that's kind of wild. Like you're literally driving on the border of Afghanistan for like 8-10 hours the whole entire way, the rest of the way.
You listen to the radio?
No, it was just silent. I kind of wish we would have.
I'm just curious. All the little things,
I
you
know.
wonder. Like,
Yeah.
But the thing that was kind of scary too, which again, why I loved being part of the hunting consortium side of it. Like we had these drivers, they knew how to go through all this stuff. There was security checkpoints all over the place.
oh, so you were continually going through checkpoints?
Checkpoints, like literally there's a gate in the road. Like you can't go any further. You have to stop here. And they always dig in here, grab some coins, and they go and just hand them to the military officer, and they like obviously they can see we have a bunch of gear, and they never had to check passports or anything, but they had to see what we're doing in the vehicle.
Did you ever find out what those checkpoints were for? What they were serving
they're
as?
mainly for like they're so concerned about Afghanistan and Taliban. That's why they're on that side. Like there's literally you'd be driving, you'll see guys just walking with semi-automatic weapons, like the military people just walking down the road, and they just have this certain path they walk every single day. They're all spread apart, and they turn around and walk back, and the other guys come this way to like they're
just
literally
patrolling the
walking
border.
down the road, patrolling the
For
border.
Taliban. That's what
Yeah.
it's for.
Yeah. And so there's all those little checkpoints, and he constantly would grab coins and has to pay them. But all their cars can go by, but like we drive by a little security area, there's no gate in the road, but they would just like be out in the middle of the street flagging us down. Like they would constantly flag us and pull us over, and then another car would drive by, but I think they just knew like, we had gear and stuff.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
want to make sure we're not
Mm-hmm.
some Taliban people or someone trying to help those people out maybe. But so that was always interesting because you never knew like what's going to happen at a security checkpoint, because sometimes they're talking really loud, but that's kind of the culture too. They talk louder. So I'm like, are they?
It's like New Yorkers.
Are they arguing back and forth right
New
now?
Yorkers, it's endearing to be like, fuck you, man.
Yeah.
Hey, I was just gonna break out an impersonation, but I skipped
Yeah,
it.
I was gonna try to.
I thought about it. And
I just
then
left
was
it
like,
at the
nope.
solid FU. That's New York.
So we had a long drive that day just to get to the next spot, which is Karag. It's actually a area that has a university in Tajikistan. And then right on the border, too, is Afghanistan. And the road before there started to get really nasty, and the road after there was super nasty. But we stayed overnight in Karag, and just a little, like, I don't know if it's a hotel. It's kind of like a house hotel type thing. Had some phenomenal food. And this guy, you can obviously tell, is, like, set up for, like, sheep hunters, like, in his house. He had a bunch of sheep pictures everywhere and stuff like that. And so the next morning we woke up super early, and then I think we had another 10-hour drive at this point.
Whoa.
Like, and this is
Is your ass hurting at this point?
yeah. And this is where I jokingly said, next time if we ever do a road like this is like, it's hard to explain what this road's like, but it's like driving a logging road for 10 hours at super slow, potholes everywhere.
Ugh.
One lane, so like you have a semi truck coming by, you have to pull off to the side, and obviously you're hauling ass. My guy's honking the horn the whole time at people. Like,
you're gaining tons of elevation right now, right?
The whole time,
like the whole time you're just gaining.
Yep. And this is the point where I was like, next time we do this, I'm going to bring a football helmet and a neck brace and find something to knock myself out, because constantly you're just like banging your head against the window anyway.
That's the worst.
And like, but
what's the movie? Is it Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo, where the girl has narcolepsy and he gets her a football helmet so she can just fall asleep anywhere?
I haven't seen that in so long.
It is that movie.
Yeah.
That's what you need to do.
Yeah.
The football helmet.
But again, so we're this whole drive even the day before, and then once we left Karag, heading to sheep camp, like I wanted to be awake. Like I didn't want to fall asleep because I wanted to soak up everything we're driving by. Like it was so cool seeing Afghanistan, seeing all the people even in Tajikistan side. Like when we stopped at these security checkpoints, like some of these people are just super nice. Like we stopped at this random like quote unquote gas station once. All right. Like with guys like, we need gas. Pull up and like there's no gas pumps. He literally walks in, hands them whatever money. They come out with 5-gallon buckets. Like that's how they fill up, pay for and fill up gas for a vehicle. So literally they're taking a funnel.
A 5-gallon bucket.
A funnel with a 5-gallon bucket and filling up the vehicle.
Wow. That's cool.
So that was really neat. And like, even like when we stopped at a little town like that, and we're not stopping there long, it's like a little village, like people can obviously tell we're not from there, but they're very friendly. No one's like giving us weird looks or doing anything. Like that was like a lot of the people who would ask us questions who I told who I was going there, like, is it going to be safe? And literally there was not a time where I felt unsafe at all throughout the whole drive, which was really reassuring.
For sure.
Because you're right next to Afghanistan.
Yeah. I mean, it's Afghanistan. There's a stigma, right?
Yeah. But the mountains there, like on that road, are so epic. Like I tried rolling down the window a lot, taking a bunch of photos while we're driving. I had the driver stop a bunch because I'm like, I'm never going to see this country.
Yeah.
I took so many photos, videos on my phone, video on my camera, like just trying to soak up the drive. It was really cool. At one point, we got to this one big check station, like really big check station. Mountains around there were epic. So I'm like, well, we're stopping here. My dad's like, I'm going to get out and like stretch your legs because like you're literally just beating your freaking body.
Yeah.
Like
that's the worst. Drive. I hate that.
That is the worst.
And the problem is too, like I am,
you're tall.
Almost 6'6".
Yeah.
And so when I sit in a vehicle, my knees are always up like this when I'm sitting down.
Yeah.
And so my ass cheeks are just demolished. Like
nice.
I've never felt so demolished in my life. Like just from the drive, like your body's just wrecked. And we had this big checkpoint, so I was like, hey, we're getting out, we're going to stretch. It's obviously daytime right now. I want to take some photos. So I snapping some photos. All of a sudden, Eldar comes like, hey, you should hide your camera right now. I'm like, why? And he's like, well, the security checkpoint's right there. And I thought we were good because we drove through it. But he's like, yeah, those guys could come over any second. Just take your camera, and literally you can see
Kevin
anything.
Smalls, the guy I was just talking about, he said the same thing. Like, you got to be really careful when you have a camera out. Like, it's a thing. Like, there are times to, and there are times to just kind of stay to yourself and not do anything.
And at one point it was funny, like we stopped at another checkpoint like a little while later, and the guy's like right in front of us, and I see my dad like pull up his phone. I'm like, Dad, put that phone down. He's like trying to take pictures of them having the conversation. I'm like, dude, he can see you right in here, and you're taking pictures
not
of him
sneaky,
right now.
Dad.
You got to be a little bit, incognito with that.
You roll into sheep camp.
We rolled into we rolled into what they call Spike Camp.
Okay.
Spike Camp is still 3.5 hours from Hot Springs Camp.
Isn't this for a altitude thing?
No, not really.
Yeah.
So,
what kind of altitude are you in at that point?
we're probably already at 12,000 at Spike Camp, and so once we got to Dushanbe, I started taking Diamox, the high elevation pills. They told us we should, if we have the pills handy,
They told you to
start taking them. So you
them.
take them in the morning and take them in the evening, just to, even though I've been training all year for this, like I don't know how high elevation is going to impact me because we're going to be literally camp's at 13.7. Like that's camp.
Yeah.
And so we're taking the Diamox pills leading up to it. So we stopped at Spike Camp, and Spike Camp is where we were going to split up from our Canadian friends. Like they were going to go at that camp, and then we were going to continue on to Hot Springs Camp and hunt. So we all could have hunted together, but they said they had a bunch of rams spotted in that area. So Spike Camp's one of their newer camps that they just recently built in that area.
So the Canadians were there now. They were in hunt camp.
Yep, they're in their hunt camp, and we stopped there with them as well. We had lunch there together, and that's where we shot our guns. And this is where the gun thing comes into play. I want to talk about with my dad's gun.
Yeah.
So they're like sitting there, get our gear unloaded. The Canadians get their gear stuff. We have to switch vehicles some reason because our driver now was going to drive that nasty road again that same day and go all the way back to Dushan Bay.
Wow.
And I'm like, this driver is amazing because I don't know how he could do that. He did have
Lives in
like
the
he did
car.
have like a
Gotta live
energy
in the
drink
car
at one point, but like he's a baller. He's a beast.
Wow.
Is he listening to podcasts?
Yeah.
He probably does.
That's what
The
I
Go
do.
Hunt podcast.
Yeah.
The Big Hunt Guys podcast.
So,
Yeah.
so we stop at Spike Camp there, and it's really cool. We get out, and I was just like looking around. The guys are like, "Yeah, there's sheep up here right now." Like they already had sheep spotted from camp, and so it's kind of cool. I didn't. They like said they were there a little bit earlier, but once we arrived, like they couldn't see anymore, so I didn't get a sight of sheep yet. But I was like, "Dang it, I want to see some animals."
Absolutely.
What'd you take for optics? Did you take your Swaro?
Yep, I took my Swaro 115 with the ATX.
Okay.
And then I just took my SIG 16, what are they, 16 by 40?
Yeah, the motion binos.
Yep. Because I figured for the terrain we're going into and for how windy it was going to be, the electronic stabilized optics were going to be amazing. And they were absolutely phenomenal.
You had a 115 spotter, though.
115 spotter, yep.
Interesting.
So I busted that out, and of course all the guides were like
whoa,
what the hell is this? Like they had Swaros too, but they had never seen the 115. They're all looking through it. And they were also blown away because I actually had the all-in digiscoping thing.
Yeah.
Like they have the digiscoping setups too because they like to film everything. But I was like, yep, click on there, and they were all taking pictures of the back.
All English? All English speaking?
There was quite a few guys there that could speak English. Like the main uncle who's like now taking over the place, he could speak pretty good English. His son could speak really good English. And there's a lot of other guys there that couldn't speak anything, but they were all like asking what this was and the way that they could, like, how can I get one of these?
You never felt a language barrier, though, because they could translate back and forth the ones that could speak?
Yeah. And when we say, like, Marco and Ibex and all that stuff, they can understand what it was. But, like, the coolest thing I thought, though, is, like, they just would talk the whole time. And I'd enjoy just listening to them talk because it's like it's a mix of, like, they said once you get past Karag, it's a mix of two different languages. It's like Russia and some sort of Pomerian or something like that language. It's like their own language they have up there. And so it's really cool just to listen to them laugh and talk to each other. And I don't know if they're making jokes about me, but I'm
sure.
Who's this big, goofy, American guy?
Look at the size of this white boy.
Yeah.
I'm sure they do.
So right there we started sighting our guns. And my dad shot first. The Canadian guy shot first. They had a 200-yard zero. And I feel really bad for one of the guys, Brian, the son. His gun, they hadn't really shot it in a year. They're really busy potato guys. So they said they didn't have a lot of time to shoot this gun, but his dad's gun was really dialed. So he starts getting, set up to shoot, puts a round in, click, ejects it out, round lands on the ground, didn't go off. Another amp.
Was there a dent in the primer?
Dent in the primer. I looked at it later, and he goes like this, click. He's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? So he either had, it was factory loaded ammo. It was a 7mm Rem mag.
Was the firing pin not hitting hard enough?
Yeah, so we were all like, either the spring is worn out, the firing pin's not hitting it, bad primer, bad powder. It could be
What
be
a bad time.
What a very bad.
I mean, what are the odds that happens?
Oh,
and he said it
shit.
hadn't happened before. Like, the gun had some issues way
Were
back
they
in the
big
day,
hunters? I mean, clearly they're hunters
they
doing a hunt
they
like
had
this.
just gotten into big game hunting like 6-7 years ago.
Okay.
So they've been around. They've done some hunts before. They shoot a lot of mule deer and moose living in BC, And so he's just going through rounds, just click, 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 and finally one would fire off. And like, so I'm like,
Russian roulette.
He's like, what can I do? And I'm like, I know how to fix this right now, or I think I do. I was like, you guys have a piece of string? Like, what do you need a piece of string for? I'm like, well, I can take apart the bolt assembly right now with a piece of string. All I need to do is pull on the back of the bolt. There's a little notch. I can pull that spring back, and we'll twist off the front of the bolt so I can see the spring assembly, so we can see if it's a bad spring. So I pulled it all apart. We just found some random barn twine hanging around, and all the guys.
The luck of this guy having Brady Miller in camp right now is.
Yeah, they're like, even some of the Tajikistan guys were blown away. Like, how do you know how to do this? And I'm like, well, I've had to do this before, just to clean it and stuff like that. And I always carry a string with me in case something happens, because you want to be able to take something apart when in the field. Like, you have to know your weapon and how to repair it.
Absolutely.
Just like, archery, you have to know everything about ins and outs of it. So when you're out there, something does go wrong, you can fix it with a shoelace or something like that with your drop away rest. And so I showed him how to take it apart. I looked at the spring. Spring was fine. I was worried it was like broken. I rotated the spring around. I was like, you guys got any carb cleaner? Of course, they didn't have carb cleaner. So all they had was WD-40, which is not the best to use to clean that because WD-40 eventually you could freeze.
Mm-hmm.
But I cleaned it all off, put it back together, and then he had a couple rounds go off, but then he had a couple rounds not go off again. So it was possibly something with maybe his firing pin wasn't going far enough to dent it.
Yeah.
But normally a primer doesn't take much to ignite it. Like,
No,
you don't
not
need
at all.
It had dents on the primer, so it must have been something with ammo, but it was factory ammo. And he said it was fairly new ammo.
Which ammo was it?
I think it was like HSM ammo.
Is it an altitude thing?
It might have been an altitude thing with his gun. It might have been a lot of
How
combinations.
cold was it?
Cold? Yeah.
It was probably at that point 5 degrees.
Nothing crazy.
It wasn't crazy cold, but like it was very. I was like, can't be good for this guy. And
Yeah.
so it's like his dad did have his gun, but his dad's gun was a 301 mag, so they didn't have ammo to share with each other. Which that's another big tip I would probably give people if you're going to go with someone else. It might be good to shoot the same
gun,
same
ammo.
cartridge. So you have more ammo between the two of you, and maybe
It's like when Trail and I shoot the same arrow. So when we
set
off in the
same
back,
length,
same length, same
weight.
arrow. So like, it is a nice fail safe just to know.
You ever know if things get western.
Yeah, especially when you travel that far, and that's why like I wish I could have helped them more because I had 2 bolts for my gun, but obviously my bolt's not going to fit in his gun. But I had an extra bolt sitting there, but it wouldn't work for his system.
Yeah.
So like trying to figure out what to do with his gun, cleaned it all, put it back together. Like I said, he did get some shots, but it's like not the best thing you want to have in your mind right now. Like my gun.
Yeah, you got that oh fuck moment in your mind when you're supposed to be like.
Oh, I mean, I'm not shooting
game
that
time
gun.
moment.
There's no chance. There's no chance. I just use.
No.
I use.
But
my,
then
my
the hard
dad
thing
or my buddy's gun.
Then the hard thing is too, like we were all like going into it like we're all going to hunt together. Like the father-son Canadians wanted to hunt together every day. My dad and I want to hunt together every day.
Yeah.
They literally told us, and we were kind of like had a little sit down with them. Like we want to hunt together. Like I want to enjoy with my dad and have those memories with him and take photos and video and just hug my dad when he shoots his ram.
Of
and
course.
He wants to do the same thing. But they were both, our guys and their Canadian guys were like, we had some people do this other week. There was a wife and a husband who separated. They wanted to hunt together, and they almost didn't get their animals because weather and just the way the animals were and stalking, and they kept spooking. Like it almost made their hunt not happen because they tried to hunt together the whole time instead of splitting up, because they were all planned on, you have your guide, Brady, and my dad
everybody has
his
their own guide.
Yeah, so it split up. So that was the scary part, because now they're going to split apart, the father-son.
With
He
two
doesn't-
different
One
guns.
son has
He
his gun that
gun's
doesn't really
gonna
work.
go off.
So now they're even more concerned about
There's
that.
no guns in camp. Like
They
nobody.
have guns in camp, yeah. Like a lot of guys,
Like a usable.
there were some guides who had hunted before who just gifted them a gun as a tip. But the crazy thing is they were saying ammo is, like we think ammo is hard to get here.
Oh, I can't imagine over
sure.
there.
They were saying I think it was like $25 or $30 per round.
Yeah, I can't imagine over there with as controlled as that is.
And I think like 1 pound of powder, if you were going to reload, or like I think it was a pound of powder, an 8-pound jug. They were like it was $2,000 or $3,000 in Tajikistan dollars for a pound, which that's what is it? Every $10 of theirs is one of ours or something like that. So it's a really expensive amount of powder. Maybe it was even more than that. It was a crazy amount. So like ammo's hard for them to get even for their camp guns. So my dad ends up sitting down to shoot. His gun's shooting now to the right for some reason. It wasn't shooting like that at home. Yeah, maybe it was travel and all that. So we kind of got dialed back in.
How far?
At 100 yards.
How far to the right?
He shot like 4 or 5 inches to the right.
Oh, so it's
Ooh.
pretty significant.
So we dialed it back over, which was fine. It shot decent right there. He went out to 400 yards and shot decent. But every time he's getting that crazy hard bolt lift where Lily has to take his hand and just grunt and click it up and then pull it out. And then you can see a giant mark on the back of the brass from the ejector.
I hunted with a guy in Nevada, mule deer, that this was happening to. Same thing.
And so we dialed his gun in, but it still kept shooting right. I pulled it back over for him. My dad's like, you get down in the gun because you can shoot better than – he said I can shoot better than he can because I have better eyes. So I laid down his gun. It was in the same thing. So it wasn't my dad. My dad's a phenomenal shot.
Yeah, I know.
He
that
literally
about
shoots
your
his
dad.
whole life. He's a big long-range guy. But this
How many rounds is you burning up trying to set your gun in?
He burned probably 9 or 10 rounds, maybe even a little bit more right there. I mean, only 40. My dad
See,
only
this
40
is what
rounds.
I'm getting at. Is like 40 sounds like a lot.
Sounds
but not
like a
when you're
lot, but
dicking around with your gun in camp.
All that flight, you never know what the elevation is going to do, and now you're burning your rounds. And
Yeah, I know I can go through rounds pretty quick trying to decide to scope in.
So we got his gun dialed, moved everything back in, re-zeroed everything on his turret and his windage. I laid down on my gun, And my dad's like, how many rounds are you going to take? Now he's like joking with me. Like,
Yeah.
my gun has took a lot. Like, maybe yours is knocked off. Literally lay down at 100 yards. Press the trigger.
Not pull the trigger. Remember
Press.
that.
I picked
Press
that
the
up.
trigger.
Press the trigger.
I picked that up.
Literally, it went in the direct center of the bullseye at 100 yards. The guides looked at me.
That's
and
the
like,
Brady I know.
the guys look at me and it's like, all right, go to 400. 400, they had a steel out there. I was like, all right, there's a line right here in the steel. Arranged it, got some wind. I was like, all right, I got to, adjust my wind. In the heat of the moment, because this is one of those things too, where there's literally 15 guys around you watching you shoot. So there's a lot of pressure right now because they're all trying to see how, well you can shoot for the hunt.
They are gauging their customer at the moment.
So I had some left to right wind. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna dial it. I always dial, I don't hold, because my natural point of aim will always, pull me off and make me go back to center. So I dialed the wrong way.
Oh no!
In front of all these guys. But at 400 yards, I only put it an inch to the right. And then I'm like, all right, it was because I dialed the wrong way, and I knew it right away. And I was like, my guns, they were blown away with I was only an inch off at 400 yards. Like,
and you're pissed you're an inch off.
I'm pissed I'm an inch off. And they're like, no, you shot phenomenal. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I actually dialed the wrong way, so I would have dialed correctly.
Also the Brady I know. Or nope.
Were they cheering for you?
Could have been better. Yeah, so they were like, everyone was like, come over, look at my gun. They're picking up like, wow, this thing's heavy. Because my gun's like, 14 pounds.
That's your
6
baggage
ounces.
charges right there.
Yeah.
No shit.
So they were all just like looking at my gun, like, what is this gun? I'm like, well, it's a Browning X-Bolt, 300 ROM, all hand loads, it's completely dialed, and it's like, yeah, your gun can shoot. We're ready.
Yeah.
And so I was still nervous about my dad's gun though, but like he burned a bunch of rounds.
I'm gonna foreshadow here.
There's another.
Cody Bohr showed me a text about this gun and what
About his dad's gun?
No, about his gun.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it was shooting.
It was shooting. So we left there. We had lunch. We literally now we're just grabbing everything. Like, all right, we have enough time possibly to get maybe 3 hours of hunting in. So we weren't supposed to hunt this day. Or the next day was actually the quote unquote first day of the hunt. But like, well, we have 3 hours to drive to camp. Let's just drive partway over there, get up in the mountains. There's already some guys out there that have been scouting that morning, had found some sheep. Like, let's hunt our way back to camp. It's like, this is awesome. We get an extra half day. So my dad and I are just throwing our gear and like, get whatever you need for just the afternoon, some warm clothes, and your gun, obviously, your binos, rangefinder, your spotter.
Yeah.
Like, everything else is kind of on the top racks. And I'm like, do I need my backpack? And they're like, no, don't bring anything, just essentials right now. We have to rush, because that shooting process took a while. So my dad and I are splitting up now, which sucks. I go my way, my dad goes the other way. Canyon guys are staying at Spike Camp. We go off. I go up in the mountains. Finally.
Are you hiking?
Nope, we're just driving. That's what the crazy thing is about this area is you can drive everywhere. Like, you can drive up the mountains.
Road system or just?
There's like a little bit of road system and you get off the road and it's just tundra. It's like tundra, a little bit of snow, a little bit of grass, there's some boulders and rocks everywhere, but you're literally you're driving up in the mountains.
Huh.
You're off-road.
Off-road. Like, obviously there's a lot of mountains you can't drive in at all, but there's enough rolling. They're big mountains still, but
so you're just kind of going up valleys?
Going up valleys, and all of a sudden you're getting on a little knob to kind of glass over the country, and we're just driving up. We start driving up. All of a sudden, I'm like, I see a sheep. I saw my first Marco Polo, and it was literally the coolest experience of my life. Like, all the others of the hunt was awesome, but seeing that first one.
Yeah. That's what you're there for. That's it.
No, it was a ewe.
A ewe.
Of course.
Of course.
How far?
It was like 450 yards away from the truck. And all of a sudden, I was like, there's more down the right. Look down, like, there was a band of like 30 or 50 ewes and some small, like really, really small rams. But I'm like, look at all these sheep. Like, you don't see this amount of sheep numbers in the States.
They're hard to pick out in the country with their
kind of
coat
are.
color.
They kind of blend in really well.
Yeah,
and
like
it's
a desert sheep.
There's a lot of snow, and it's some areas that are not snow, and so they're very well camouflaged for it. But once you see that first one, and I'm
the complete opposite of hunting doll sheep in August.
Yeah, so
yeah, white on a green background.
Yeah. But like, their bodies are so big. I was just blown away with the body size right away.
How big?
Like
what would you compare it to?
A very large mule deer.
Okay.
Like,
so
big, a little bit big. It's definitely bigger than mule deer. Smaller than like maybe a calf.
Spike elk?
No,
not
a little
that
smaller
big.
than that. Yeah. I pulled up a picture.
Caribou.
I'll show you guys this.
Start running through it.
You guys haven't seen this picture yet, but like, we'll get into the story. But you can just look at the body size of my ram compared to the guys.
It's giant.
Giant. Like, they're so big. Like they say they max out at like 300 pounds, but
you ever seen a Rocky? A big burly Rocky on the ground?
Cool.
You ever seen one killed?
No.
I wonder how it would compare to that.
Like look at the body size of that compared to those humans.
Because they seem.
Do you know what that picture reminds me of? Is like whatever that, like from Star Wars. Whatever.
Oh yeah, where he's got to cut it open and go inside.
I knew.
Of course you know.
Of course
I love
you
Star Wars.
know.
Oh, we know, Brady.
That's what that looks like.
Star Wars, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. You know me.
My dad's been fortunate to kill in Rocky, and I wonder because they look substantially bigger, and Rockies top out at that 300 plus, and they look bigger. It looks like a different.
And
class.
Their heads are so massive.
That's it. Like they've got to be bigger.
They've got to be bigger. Like that picture puts it really into perspective.
For sure.
So we're riding up, going up this mountain. Also, I'm like, dude, a deadhead, and like no one seemed to care. But I'm like, there's a deadhead laying right there. And the whole course of this trip later on, rams. There is deadheads everywhere.
They don't pick them up?
Some of the shepherds will pick them up and just stack them in piles, and like it'll be like little teepees of deadheads. There's deadheads all over the place.
Holy shit.
Like most of these are probably wolf kills, snow leopard kills, or died of old age. I was blown away. This is like why the sheep population, like I said, 29,000.
Yeah.
And there's just literally, I probably saw 150 deadheads. No joke. When I say 150, I legit mean at least 150.
Any
deadheads.
giants? Like absolute giants?
Some really good rams. Yeah, there's all over the place. We're driving. Sometimes we're taking the truck and avoiding a deadhead because it's like in our path.
Man.
Like
That
there's
is
no
wild.
joke, just all over the place.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean it's just different, right? It's just it's all relative. They're just common.
Yeah.
I'm sure for those folks with that many sheep, it's just a common occurrence. Sheep die and they die on the mountain. You look at them, dead sheep, no biggie, move on.
Yeah. So
wild.
So here we are. We're just driving up the mountain a little bit slower because we see some sheep. We're got our 4-wheel low, a bunch of snow. We end up getting stuck, having to back up and keep driving up the mountain. I'm like, dude, we're just driving up the mountain. Like literally driving up. When I say driving up a mountain, like sometimes it's steep. And we're just motoring up, super low gear, 4-wheel low, and get up to the top. We start glassing, like, dude, there's a bunch more sheep. Like there's just sheep everywhere now. All over the place.
You're just picking them up?
Picking them up. There's just sheep everywhere. And we're like looking at all these like small rams and ewes everywhere. And we're like, oh, there's got to be some big rams on this backside. We drive up further, get up on this top, look down this little valley. There's rams all over the place.
So like behaviorally, you guys are pre-rut, rut?
We're just getting to the point where it's hard rut. Like it's going to, later in the week is probably when prime time. That's why we wanted to go late November, early December.
So
that's peak rut. And they're coming down out of the mountains.
Yeah,
and
so is it like,
from Afghanistan.
Is it like comparable to us where they're kind of like staging? So if you do find ewes and those lamb rams, they'll be staged somewhere.
So we see all these rams. Of course, a bunch of them spook and run off because we're in a truck. We're just driving around, but it's so freaking cold. It's cold and it never stops. The wind is just howling.
I would imagine if you're that high in elevation.
It's crazy. Like,
are they running from the truck?
They're kind of okay with it as long as you go pretty slow. Like you can get to like 600-700 yards very easily.
Like an antelope kind of a thing.
Yeah, they see you. They're a little bit nervous, but they just walk away and they'll start feeding again. Like they're just no predators up there, and only 110 permits a year. So it's kind of different hunting in a way. Like that day they
don't have that pressure sense.
Yeah. So we get to this one spot, we park the truck, and we look out, and dude, I'm no joke. There's just probably 15, 25 rams, like all over the place. I'm like, oh my gosh, like what is going on? This is like the first 3 hours of the hunt, you know, like the day before we're supposed to start full day hunting. We're looking at all these rams. I'm like, keep trying to the guide's getting out, putting the spotter on them. I'm not hearing what they're saying, because they're just talking with themselves. And he gets back in all calmly. And I'm like, so was that a big one? Because I'm looking at this ram like, oh my gosh.
Did it look big to you?
Yeah. And he's like,
was there any standouts? Like when you're looking at a band of rams?
Once you can see a band of rams, you can start to finally tell them apart. But this ram was by itself, and I was like, is that a shooter? And he's like, no. We can do way better.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, to see a mark. Oh my God.
Just to see one of these like more mature rams, like, no, we can do better. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to do better than that. And that's already like like I said, in my Instagram post yesterday, my dad and I were literally sharing photos all year. Like, what do you think that one scores? Like, I'd crop out the score on the bottom to guess my dad. He would do the same thing back to me. Just trying to get a frame. We're all about score and big, but we want to take the mature
frame of reference.
Possible.
Yeah, it's a frame of reference.
What does a big Marco score?
I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure SEI wise, but like they were all saying like you want something that's over like 54 inches, like everyone wants something over 60 inches horn length. That's from the base 60 inches all the way out. That's like a true trophy in this area. Like he said people will talk about 70-inch rams. Like those don't exist. He's like,
what is that in feet? I'm not a math guy.
12, 24, 36, 48, 60.
5 feet of horn?
5 feet in length.
Holy shit.
So these things are just giant. And so like there's not like the 70 inches you hear people talk about. He's like, he did talk about later, like there is some weird, dirty stories about some of these 70 inchers are actually fabricated.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Like these guys are just chasing,
Did
records.
they score a Marco like they would a Rocky or Desert?
Yep.
You get mass measurements.
Four mass measurements
they're
divided by the
over
length of
they're
the
over
horn.
200. They're over 220, 230 SCI or something like that.
Okay.
Like way high. Like maybe even bigger than that. I mean, I could be misjudging.
Yeah.
But they're giant. So I don't know like SCI score, but I just know everyone talks about inches, like the horn length.
Yeah.
And I always kept showing my guys. I showed them some photos I had. I was like, I want a ram that comes off his horns, loops down, comes around. I want that
next,
double curl.
yeah.
I want that next one, the typical Marco look. And all of a sudden we get this another little area, and he's like, "Get your whites on right now. Get your over whites on," because I didn't have my over whites on yet. We need to.
This is
when
the
you
first.
You guys, hold on.
First 3 hours.
You guys are driving slams on the brakes?
slams
Then
on the
says-
brakes because we could kind of see over a little ridge a little bit.
Did
He's like,
he
"There's
glass
bunch of
it?
He glassed it right away. He like could see it instantly. He's like, "That's a good ram. Get your over whites on," because he knew there was a bunch more rams down below. We could kind of see like he had been out of the spotter looking at this other ram that I thought was really good. But he's like, I think I saw some other sheep down below, like a bunch of ewes. Like there's got to be more rams in the area because, like I said, it's that pre-rut type.
Yeah,
time.
so they're
all
staged
grouping
up
together.
around. Yeah.
Yep. He's like, "Get your over whites on." So I'm like getting really excited. He's like, "There's a good ram down below."
Are you kind of bummed out that you're not with your dad?
I'm so bummed out. Like no joke. It hurts me that we didn't hunt together because that's all we wanted to do.
Yeah.
Like, this is a father-son hunt.
Sure.
And
You don't have to go deep in. I was just curious.
I'm super bummed.
Small detail. You riding shotgun or in the back?
I'm riding shotgun.
I thought about that too.
So I have a new driver.
How does this work? Shotgun, back?
Yeah, I have a new driver. So my one guide, the main guide, he's Russian. His name is Shorty. That's what everyone calls him. And the other guy's like a kid. He's like 26 years old. Shoga is his name. And so the Russian guy, like he can speak pretty good English. He said he loves America because his daughter's going to school, I think in Chicago or something like that. So like, I love you guys. So he can speak really good English, but he's more Russian. But he's like, we got a good ram down below us right now. Get your over whites on. I'm getting my over whites on. I'm getting my gun out, kind of taking my time a little bit. All of a sudden, I see the ram, and he's like, "All right, well, we're gonna."
You glass the ram or just see it?
I glassed it from the truck. I hopped out, and I was like looking down this ridge because like we had a little ridge in between us. And like, all right, we're gonna hike up here a little ways.
What was your first thoughts when you saw it?
Massive. Like I saw it. I'll get into this in a second. So I got out, started walking towards there. My guide's right next to me. He's like, "All right, lay down. We're gonna get set up, and this is a good ram you want to shoot." I turned to him and was like, "If this works out and this is a great ram and you tell me to shoot, I will listen to you. But I honestly don't want to kill one right now." I told him that because I wanted to soak this up a little bit more.
Yeah, first day. I would feel the same.
No question.
And he was super.
And given the fact that the number of sheep you've already seen in the first 2 hours,
I totally agree. That's where my mind's at.
So I was laying down, and I'm like, "Is it a really good ram?" And he has his spotter, and I'm like,
"Did he appreciate that you said that to him?"
Yeah, he said afterwards he was like, because he said he doesn't want, because I was all concerned about going into this, like they're just gonna try to like get you a ram, shoot it, because obviously they want a big tip money too. They want to make sure you kill. I understand it because that's how they make the living. Like these people don't make a lot of money. I heard like teachers or government people like only make like, I think it's not even $100 a month.
Holy shit.
So like the amount of money you get from a tip from a hunt like this is like it's big for them. That's like a year's worth of wages almost. So like I understand everything about it, but he was like, "I'm not going to force you to kill something you don't want to." He did tell me that. If you don't like it, I'm not going to try to tell you this is a giant ram.
Yeah.
Just to make you kill it. He's like, "I am about shooting mature old animals and I love hunting sheep. So like we're not going to rush this." And I was laying down, he's like, "That's a good ram." I'm sitting there and I told him like, "I don't want to shoot one right now if I don't have to." And all of a sudden, like a little bit later, we're sitting there looking at other rams, like, "Well, there's another big ram over here." There was a really big ram that was like 900 yards away. And I was like, I would rather see if we can get on that one.
Yeah.
All of a sudden the wind switched while we're like dealing with all this stuff. The wind eventually came from our back right to the sheep.
Ooh.
They caught her. He's like,
that's bad for sheep.
He's like, that was the one thing you have to worry about. Like,
sheep.
Did they blow out?
They blew out.
That's bad.
So the
for
one
sheep.
down below us blew out. And then it was kind of cool too, because when that one blew out, there was probably 20 some rams below us we couldn't even see. And that's why I also like am very hesitant about shooting some. I don't see everything around me because all these other rams are running out, and I was like, holy gosh, look at all those other giant rams. And those other rams up there were still like, it was a band of 3. And it was one of those other rams that I'm not actually sure what the name of it, but it was a smaller one, different species. Like there's a very rare chance you'll see one, and we've got to see one. Some guys like to go there to shoot that one if they've already shot a Marco. But
is it hard to pick out like the big from the big?
I'll get to my dad's story.
Okay,
and we'll talk about that. But like after that ram blew out, I'm kind of like in a sense, I was okay with it because like I said, I didn't really want to kill something right away, and they blew out. Like it was 530 yards. I could have shot that ram. I could have got down a lot quicker, but I was going slow because I didn't want to take something right away. Mm-hmm. So now all these rams ran off. Just whole giant valley starting to just sheep everywhere. There's probably like 100 some sheep right in front of me. Just wild.
How many days are you booked for?
I think we had 6 total days to hunt.
Okay, so you got
six full days of hunting.
6 full days of hunting.
Oh yeah, I would
I would. Like I think that was my gun in the truck.
I think that was Tuesday, and we had until Monday the next week to hunt.
Wow. Yeah, I would. That'd be tough. That'd be really tough.
So now it's starting to get dark. We see those other big rams over there, and I'm like, I'm gonna get my spotter. I want to digiscope them. Start digiscoping them, and my gosh, one of these rams was just picture perfect. Everything I want. Had the double curl coming down, just sitting up on that mountainside feeding. I got to watch sheep and just soak up how sheep react to everything. Like that was the coolest part because now the hunt's over because those rams that were close to us are now at 1,000 yards. Those other ones are still like 800-900. They're just chilling out there. We're like, well, we'll come back here in the morning. And I'm like, I want to get a bunch of footage of these rams because I don't know if I'm going to have more chances to get digiscope. Somebody's digiscoping like crazy, all these rams. All these other rams are walking up, digiscoping them. And I was just blown away with how epic like that first 3 hours were. Yeah. Got into an absolute metric shit ton of sheep.
Yeah, you don't ever expect. I mean, I went to Alaska on that moose hunt. Mm-hmm. We got in the boat, motored. We took off up, and all I ever hear about moose is like you may not see any. Yeah. You might, I know a lot of guys that have done 10-day moose hunts and never seen a legal bull, right? Mm-hmm. Like we're 45 minutes into the trip going upriver, and we come around a corner, and there's like a 65-inch bull standing in the river, and it's just like this can't be happening. Yeah, it's just too. It just never happens like that. So I can imagine what that must feel like to go through all the travel, all the dreaming.
Everything we've been through.
And then the first
day, you're like sheep everywhere.
I mean, and so got dark. We started driving down. Buried the truck, of course. We tried to go a different path down.
If you're not burying the truck, you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah, and so they get out. We're starting to shovel. I'm starting to help them shovel a little bit. I stop shoveling. They're like, "Oh, we got it." I'm like, that's what's kind of weird to me about going on a guided hunt like this. Like they really want to do everything for you.
Culturally too, though, there is a cultural thing. Not everywhere, but and I haven't been there, so I probably shouldn't be speaking on it anyways. But I do know. Some of the cultures of that is like, no, like this is my job. Yeah. Don't take my job from me kind of a thing. Like I take pride in my work. I want to do this work. And so culturally there is that. And I would imagine that's over there just because of, proud people and don't come from much, that kind of a thing. Yep. And I've been around that type of culture before on the international stuff, and it's a real thing.
Yep. So we start driving down, and then we have, I don't know what it was, like maybe an hour and a half drive back to the hot springs camp, which I had never been to yet. My dad was out hunting at the same time. And he actually went to an area where they legit spotted a giant ram earlier in the day. And that's why my dad went there. They're like, we think we can get on a good ram. It's not going to. My dad was really concerned about this hunt because he got knee surgery the same week of SCI previous year. So
tall guy problems, man.
2020 knee surgery because he was a crazy person back in the day and was all into dirt biking when he was younger. And when he was like 18 years old, had a dirt bike accident. And jacked up his knee.
So not only tall, he also did that.
Yeah. So he had knee surgery in like January of 2021. But he wanted to do it that time because he knew his doctor kept saying, "You'll be fine to go on this hunt." My dad stopped training all year, but my dad was like very concerned about blowing himself out on that first stalk. Like he's in great shape. He's been working out all summer, biking, doing all that stuff. But they had a good ram spot in an area where he could probably get to really easy. And so I got back to camp. My dad's there. And everyone comes over, and my dad's like, I shot a ram.
Holy shit.
I was like, wait. He shot one that night.
I was like, wait, what? And he grabbed my hand and gave me like the biggest hug ever. He's like, he even said like, I wish you were there. It was the most amazing thing I've ever experienced in my life. And I'm like, my gosh, like, you have to tell me this story right now. Like, stop whatever we're doing. It was dark out. It was super freaking windy outside. And we're just like standing outside in the dark, like talking to each other.
Only, by the way, like we would do it in Porter's hunt and call. Only hunting does that. You notice that? Like only hunting, recounting hunting stories. You don't go inside.
No.
You don't. Remember, we were all standing out there.
Talking.
Like you just, it's
stand around outside.
Hunting is the only thing worthy and cool enough that like that's what happens.
Yep.
Like you just don't even change setting. It's just right there, immediate in the moment. You just start talking.
You didn't see his sheep then when you pulled into camp?
Pulled into camp, no.
So you had no indication that
my dad did not have his sheep yet either.
Oh, okay.
So that's the crazy part too. So he said they went up and hunted, got in a similar situation like I did, driving the vehicle, getting up in the mountain area, and there was just rams everywhere to the point where they could hop out, do a little bit of a hike, set down, and they're within distance. Like these rams were 400 yards away from my dad.
Was it the ram that they were looking for?
The ram that they were looking for.
Okay.
That so definitely doesn't always happen.
So they were like, this is a definite shooter.
Yeah. Well,
like you should shoot this sheep.
Yep. And so my dad's again the same thing. It's like I didn't know what to do. This is the first day, literally, my dad shot his ram 2 hours into the hunt, which set a camp record, they said. No one does it that quickly. But I'll get to the details later. This ram was one you instantly see, and there's no way you're passing this ram.
I don't know if I've seen a picture of your dad's sheep.
I can show you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
So he's setting up, and this is this crazy story. My dad had 37 rams in front of him. At 400
Holy
yards.
shit.
37 rams. He's like, almost all of them were very mature.
But this one stood out.
This one stood out a little bit. So here's the crazy thing that happened. They were like, all right, your ram is 9 from the left. Oh, now he's 13 from the right.
That would be awful.
Just moving into the big herd, like a giant herd of rams going back and forth. So they're constantly like, okay, count. 1, 2, 3, 4 from the back. Okay, now come from the front. They're trying to like make sure it was the right ram because they had all the time in the world. These rams, I guess, were very docile. They didn't see him. He had all the time in the world. So he's trying to pick out the ram. And my dad's like, he wants to make sure it's the ram. Because like, all right, it's now the ram that's feeding. Okay, now he just picked his head up. Now he's turning around. My dad's like, all right, I think I got him, but maybe I don't. I see another one did the same thing. Like, so trying to communicate back and forth with this. And my dad's also like me. He like didn't want to shoot one on the first day. Yeah, of course. But the guy's like, this is an absolute giant ram. Like, this is one you have to shoot right now. And my dad just kept explaining to me how crazy it was, trying to count the rams and figure out which one it was. And then the ram stopped, and all of a sudden when he got on it, another one walked in front of it, and there was one behind it, so he couldn't shoot. And just the chaos of all these big rams moving around. My dad said it was the coolest thing in the world. It's like watching these rams. And, of course, that's why I wish I was there, because I wanted to film all this stuff.
Yeah, yep.
I wanted to be behind him and just enjoy that with him and like help him walk through. And that's why he kept telling me too. He's like, I wish you were there because you could have also helped me guide me through. Because obviously the guide's telling him things, but he's like, if I take a shot and these guys aren't going to know like, oh, come down half M away, or they're going to say things like totally different than how we interpret our shooter spotter scenarios when we're sitting
There's
down.
nothing where, the only thing I could relate to that is like hunting late season cow elk, and you get into a herd of cow elk and there's might be 50 or 150 or 300. It's not too bad being able to pick one out, but as soon as you shoot, the first shot goes off, it's a complete shit show.
Yeah, where is she? Where to go?
Like, I have no idea what one I shot at. You don't dare shoot at another one, so you're basically waiting there and watching to see, like, okay, does one of them look hit? It's a cluster.
So finally, my dad said the sheep moved away from all the other sheep, and they communicated that this was the ram to shoot right now. So it's 410 yards, and we had all the trouble early with my dad's gun. Thought we set it all in, but something's still going on with his ammo and pressure.
A lot of gun trouble on this trip.
Yeah, no kidding.
And so he shot his ram. It went right in front of the shoulder. The guy's like, oh, yeah, you hit it perfectly, but later on they found out it was in front of the shoulder. Ram runs off by itself, and my dad's just sitting here like everyone's celebrating, like, you just shot a ram, you crunched it, like, congratulations. Like, my dad's like, but is it dead? And they're like, yeah, it's got to be dead. So he's like, well, you stay here, because again, it's one of those things where like my dad wants to go with, like he wants to.
Yeah, of course.
He wanted to be there when they recovered the animal. Like, no, you stay here because it did drop down on this big canyon, tons of snow. We'll go over there. We'll grab your sheep, and we'll just bring it back to you.
Not knowing if it's dead.
Not knowing it's dead. And here's the crazy part too. They didn't grab my dad's rifle. Somehow they, the heat of the moment type thing.
Of course.
They went down there.
Nice to know what happens to those professionals too.
Yeah,
not
so
just
they got down there. My dad was blown away.
Doesn't
like, these
sound
guys,
that professional to me. Nope.
It's like my dad's like, it's like when my dad's hunted Africa several times. So like the guys in Africa are tracking masters.
Yes.
Obviously, there it's a little easier. There's snow on the ground everywhere, so you can track things. But to like decipher what tracks are what when all these sheep are running off together, and kind of like the ram went by himself around the corner. And like we'll go get it. They walk over there. One guy comes back. He's like, yeah, your ram's still up. He, we accidentally bumped him. He's now further along. Like, my dad's just like crushed right now. Like,
yeah, nightmare.
because his gun, they thought it was great. It was windy too.
What's the wound policy over there?
Blood and done.
Blood and done. That's how it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, don't get mad at me for the one saying it. That's how it should be everywhere.
Yeah. So my dad's also has that in his head. Like, oh my gosh, like my gun shot to the right again, which it shot earlier, but we corrected it. But now, for whatever reason, it still shot right, or it could have been a little bit of the wind, because like I said, the wind is howling. And that's why also my dad was like, I wish you were there with your Kestrel. My dad had a Kestrel too, but the heat of the moment, he didn't pull it out.
Yeah.
And it's 410 yards, which is a fairly close shot for what our capabilities are. And the guides are like, well, we're going to track the sheep in the dark. My dad's like, you guys are going to do it in the dark? We're going to do it right now and find this ram. And I was like, we can wait till the morning too. Like, it's no big deal. Like, no, we'll find it. Another vehicle is going to be coming up in a little bit. You'll hop in that vehicle. You'll go back to camp, and we'll stay here and find it. So we're back at camp. My dad's telling me all this. My dad hasn't even seen his sheep yet, but he's trying to tell me all the excitement moment. But it's like, it's not really that exciting yet because I don't have my ram, and I'm fully concerned about this.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, like, I think it was 9:30 at night, I heard a truck roll up. The guys come in like, Steve, got something to show you. They found his ram. It was just like they tracked it a little bit in the dark around a corner, another little corner, and it was just laying there dead. In the hole.
So his shot did kill it.
It did kill it. The exit wound on that thing is literally like a pie plate. It's just a giant hole in it. He's shooting 195 burgers. Like
it did go right into the shoulder or through.
He went. So I guess it was slightly quartering to him a little bit. So I think it went to the right.
So the exit came out the back side of the shoulder.
Yeah. It blew a giant hole in it, but these animals are tough.
Oh, I can't imagine how tough these things are.
And that's with the terrain and everything. And like, my dad had the gun. They would have walked down there. They could have shot it again, but like it kept just walking around the corner, and finally it just naturally died. And so my dad had his ram, and we're both just sitting there like, what did you just do? Like,
what did you do?
What did you just do? And everyone's like, this is an absolute slammer of a ram. And of course, we're all sitting there in the skinning shack right away. And I'm like, the ram's down in the skinning shack. I'm like, guys, I hate to say this, but like they drug it down whole, like guts in and everything. Like they're just dragging the snow. Like, and then they can obviously find a way to get the vehicle around there. And I'm like, I hate to say this, but can we take this ram outside right now? I want to get a photo of my dad.
Yeah, field photo.
Yeah, because I guess the only downside, like my dad's field photos aren't the greatest because he had to take it in the dark back at camp. It wasn't on the mountain, so we didn't get all that snow and stuff. So the harvest photos are just right outside the skinning shack. But we carried it outside, set the ram up. My dad and I got a bunch of good photos together.
Shit, all that matters is you have a picture and you guys are both in it, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
And we're both so like, you shot a ram on the first day.
Yeah.
Like, my dad's very quiet, as you know. He doesn't get super excited, but he was pretty excited. He was smiling, like he was really giddy, just like shaking everyone's hands, telling everyone thanks, like, talking to all his guys, like you guys.
It's a 16-year-old dream. I mean, it's
He's
insane.
He's really been dreaming about it since he was 16 years old. And then we finally we need to get a tape measure. Like you hate to do it right away, but like you want to see what it is. Busted the tape measure out. Tape measure keeps getting longer and longer and longer as you go through the curl, and it was 58.5 inches long.
Holy shit!
Which they said is the third biggest ram killed at that camp this year. Just absolute slammer of a ram.
So it was a no-brainer. It was one that you shoot on the first day.
Yep, 58.5 inches long, and was 8.5 years old. So it had some potential if it could got older to be an absolute giant. Like the mass wasn't giant mass on it, so it had a lot more potential for it. But it was just one of those rams where you look at it,
had everything,
had the look he wanted, the scenario he wanted, the distance, everything was perfect, and he had a ram in 2 hours on opening day.
Was he no regret? He was just excited.
He was super excited. He said he felt like he didn't get a sheep hunt that much, but he's like, I couldn't pass up this opportunity. And because there was 37 rams in front of me, I did get to experience it for a while. They were laying there in the snow, looking at which ram to shoot. And he said that was the coolest experience, counting the rams, trying to figure out what it was, communicating with the guide.
Yeah. And then, you think about that, the two of you, you're both going to kill sheep at that point, it kind of frees him up to be able to hunt with you. Right.
Well,
did he get to?
Well, so I told him my story and everything. And then the next day, you're going Ibex hunting. My dad was like, I can, I'll sacrifice a day and
okay, so he's going Ibex hunting.
So now
immediately.
He's like, no, you're going Ibex hunting
1
tomorrow.
to the next.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So the next day, we all wake up, have breakfast early. Breakfast is phenomenal. Dinner was phenomenal at camp too. Like we had, I think that night, we had some of my dad's back straps of his ram.
How'd he eat?
Oh my gosh,
It's good.
Sheep is
Really?
so good. Marco is phenomenal.
Really?
Like, oh yeah. Like I don't like. You always wonder, like, is it the environment? Are we just out there?
Yeah,
But,
is
like,
it the other senses being hyper?
It was-
hyper.
How'd you eat it? Pan fried? Just
I don't actually know. It was just like little cuts and steaks.
yeah,
you
just
know?
steaks.
Yeah, it was like the seasoning too, like all the presentation of how they put food on the table for us, and every time I would, like they would stack up.
Are the guides cooking, or do you have camp cook?
No, we have a camp cook, and the really cool thing about the camp cooks is, so these camp cooks are there all season. They don't go back to Karag, which is still like 10 hours away. They stay here all hunting season, and then in the off season they go to restaurants in the town and are chefs at the restaurants.
Gotcha.
So
Wow.
they learn a bunch. They said they learn a bunch of new cooking methods and
Yeah.
how to prepare stuff during the off season, and then they bring all that stuff over here and do some more experiments with stuff.
That's really cool.
So they're really, really good chefs. The presentation of food, they kept bringing out, more food. I'm like, I thought that was the main course, and then it's the main course afterwards, and then it's, fruit, and then it's more bread, and then it's soup, and then it's
Holy
snacks, and just craziness. And then they had like a bottle of this vodka there that was called Marco Polo vodka. It was like a big old ram on it. It was a Tajikistan brand. If he toasted to some vodka that night for celebrating for his ram, but
Well, you're close to Russia. I mean, you got to.
Vodka.
yeah,
Kind of a thing.
so next day we woke up and
You
I'm-
got a couple potato farmers in camp.
Yeah.
yeah, and like I'm like, well, I'm going sheep hunting tomorrow. We're going back to the same spot. My dad's going Ibex hunting.
You're going back to the same spot that you'd seen these sheep.
Yep, because there was so many sheep there.
And you said one was big, right? The
One was-
900 yard away.
Yeah, one was really, really big.
Yeah.
And so like there's so many rams. There was probably way more rams we didn't see. And we're going to go back in the same area. We're going to, like, all the rams kind of move this certain direction. So we're going to approach it from a different way tomorrow. So we start driving up the mountains. I see this giant peak in the background, just freaking massive peak. And he's like, yeah, we're going to go to the base of that. And then we're going to climb up towards that peak. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun. Like, today we're going to hike.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to be able to get all the way up there. We're going to park this truck and we're going to start hiking. We start navigating up the mountain. All of a sudden, we stop at one point and they're glassing over here. And I was really proud. I looked over to the right and I was like, there's a ram. Like, I got to spot the first sheep of the day.
Yeah.
I was super jacked. It was a small ram, but like,
Hey.
there's sheep here.
Yeah.
And
First
I
sighting, huh?
spotted them.
Yeah.
And we started working up the mountain a little bit further. And we parked the truck, and right from the base of that peak coming down, like, no joke, this is 16,000 feet up here. There's just a band of rams in the snow just working across. And I'm like, this day is going to
Wow.
be phenomenal. We get out, start hiking towards them, more sheep everywhere. We're just like passing up small rams as we're hiking, trying to hide behind all these boulders. We have a bunch of ewes like literally 200 yards in front of us. We're trying to like hide from them. There's big giant boulders, so we're working in and out of these boulders, starting to hide behind these boulders because the wind is just freaking ripping like 25, 30 miles an hour. Snow's just blowing everywhere because like just picking up from the ground. We get going up this mountain, and we're going after some more sheep that we think were down below this next little basin. We still have those one rams way up on top that we wanted to go to. And we knew there was more sheep over here to the right that were just over that ridge. Like, we'll go look at these ones first and then come back over here. We want to be able to check out all these rams to find out which is the most mature. All of a sudden, I start hiking a little bit, and I'm like, oh gosh, my stomach's not feeling good.
Oh, no.
So I'd been warned that one of the side effects of Diamox is diarrhea.
Oh, man.
No.
I signaled to Shoga,
Oh, no.
the younger guide, and I was like, he couldn't speak any English at
How
all.
many people are there?
It's just, so the driver stayed back in the truck. He's just a driver.
Gotcha.
And then Shoga and Shorty.
So
Shorty's
there's
the
you
taller
and two
Russian
guides.
guy. Yep.
Okay.
So it's just us making the stock. And again, it's that same thing too, where they didn't want me to carry my rifle, and I'm like, no, I'm totally fine. I can carry my rifle.
Yeah.
And Shoga's like, no,
Yeah.
so he's
It's that
carrying my rifle.
I can only imagine that's that cultural thing over there.
And I felt so weird about
Yeah,
that,
that
like,
would
not having
feel
my
weird.
rifle.
Super weird.
And then the guy,
But that's their. I mean, they
That
take
would feel weird to
they
me.
take pride in their work and
And
what
then-
they do.
and then the guide, I was like, no, take my spotter and my tripod because I want to be able to digiscope. So he had my 115 Swaro, and he just has that sucker just thrown over his shoulder, and I'm like, hope that plate's on there strong because it's just like the lens caps are off
Yeah.
and everything, and I'm like, oh my
Dude.
gosh, that's my baby.
Yeah, my gun and my optics, I would
So-
like on me.
So when I was working way up there, and I was like, guys, my stomach, and I'm like, cause he couldn't understand English. I couldn't say, hey, I gotta take a shit. So I was like motioning, like my pants like pulling down,
Yeah.
like I gotta go to the bathroom, and he's like, so he walks like literally 10 yards and stops, and turns around. I'm like, no, keep going. I will catch up. There's literally no cover.
Yeah.
Like these boulders sometimes are like maybe a little like 2 feet high off the ground. So I'm gonna try to hide behind a boulder.
I've watched the videos. There is no cover.
No cover. So I literally just barely get my pants off, and I'm just wrecked.
The Oh No Express.
So Diamox is not sitting good right now. I mean,
But you got wet wipes, I'm sure.
No, I hate wet wipes. You know that. They'll freeze in that environment. Because this day, I had my inReach, and so I pulled
Brady
up
does not like a wet butt.
So I pulled up my inReach and got some weather report, and it was calling for like negative 14 degrees that morning. So it was freaking cold, and it was windy. So I don't know what the wind chill would have been with negative 14 with 30-mile-an-hour wind. But
yeah.
Cold. And
Too
so
cold for wet wipes.
So I do my business. I catch up to them, see a bunch more sheep, and look down this just giant basin down below. And I have this little iPhone video. I'm like, there's a giant band of sheep. There's a giant band of sheep. There's a giant band of sheep on top of the mountain. Just sheep everywhere. Like there's probably 200 sheep right here. And I'm looking at all these rams, and I actually can now tell like these rams are not very mature.
Yeah, you're starting to put the puzzle together.
Yeah. And then we had some more rams come around the corner, and they were like 450 yards away, and they're like, all right, get your gun down just in case there's a big ram, like get comfortable. And I'm like, get comfortable. There's boulders everywhere. It's snow. It's wind's like knocking me over, and my stomach again's like gurgling.
Oh no, the true Oh No Express.
These guys are giggling at you at this point, aren't they?
No.
And so finally we figured out these
They can't. I mean, if that is a known side effect.
Yeah, it's probably happened to other people.
Yeah, I'm sure they know it's a thing.
Yeah, and so like you have to take it because you don't know what that elevation is going to do. Because they did say there's guys that come up to camp and are wrecked and literally are sitting at camp for a couple of days because of the elevation.
Are you having a hard time breathing?
Luckily, no. I'm able to keep up with them still,
so
and they're totally fine.
No,
so that's why I'm like
no issues
very
other
fortunate.
than your stomach.
Yeah, of all the other hunts I've done and all the training I do all year, just literally that's why I built my home gym and did squats and deadlifts all freaking
You're not
summer.
having headaches or any other symptoms,
just
stomachs.
So I'm like, this is maybe 10 or 15 minutes later since I already went to the bathroom once. I'm like motioning again.
Oh.
I had to do it again. At this point, I ran on my toilet paper at this point.
Oh no.
So now we're hiking up.
You're like a dog on carpet.
Oh.
Yeah. So I use it. So I use it all right here. We start hiking up again. We see another band of, like, this is why it's crazy. Everywhere we look, there's sheep. We're just hiking. There's another little like canyon area. There's just ewes and small rams walking across. And we figured like, well, we're going to keep walking. They'll see us and just keep spooking that way. But we want to see all these other sheep that we saw over here in the higher part of the elevation up to like 16,000 feet. And again, maybe 20 minutes goes by and I'm like, I got shit again.
So this is number 3 now.
This is number 3 in a very short period of time.
Oh no.
You're starting to wonder what you ate too, probably.
Yeah, and they told me too, like the fruit could be, there's no coatings like you guys might have back here with how they coat the fruit, or it could be salad and vegetables. So like later on, they told me like maybe it is something in the foods, maybe avoid fruit, avoid salad.
Maybe lay off the fruit and veg.
Plants are trying to kill you. Just saying.
So yeah, and I love meat, so like that's easy to me not eat vegetables.
Of course. Plants are trying to kill you, man.
But they definitely said it's probably Diamox. So now at this point, I don't have toilet paper. I had to do the old take my hand.
No.
I took my hand.
Did you have a knife on you to cut the undershirt?
I did not have a knife or anything.
I always have a T-shirt. Yeah. Always. I can't tell you how many T-shirts are in.
These guys if they had any.
I can't tell you how many T-shirts.
I asked them later because I was like, I need some. Like, we don't have any on us, and like they had some like weird napkin things in the truck or whatever, just like paper napkins. And so like I'm on the mountain squatting down, realizing I don't have any toilet paper, using my hand, having to wipe my hand in the snow. And now my hand is numb because it's negative 15 degrees.
No. No, Brady.
I
don't know if I can shake hands with you anymore. I
left hand or right?
T-shirts.
Right. I'd use my right hand.
No. No.
My left hand, I don't use it very often, so I don't.
That's the point why you use your left hand. That's why you use the left hand.
So, yeah. So this is now just like, wow. I'm sheep hunting, and
you're wiping your ass with your hand.
And my body is in shape enough to dominate these mountains, and it's the freaking Diamox that is killing me.
But
wiping my ass with my hand.
Oh no.
And then the problem is now I'm like. So my hand, I'm trying to clean it off. I'm like, my hand looks clean, but it ain't freaking clean. I'm having to put it in my glove.
Do you still
Oh
have,
no,
So I,
Brady.
had some Traverse gloves.
do you still have
And that-
these gloves?
Yeah, I've already washed them a couple times. So I had Traverse gloves. And then,
Oh
and then I put
my God.
And then I put my gunner glove over top of it. And I'm like, okay, now I'm ready. But
My
just
palms
that-
are sweating. This is
Dude,
making me nervous.
No. I do shirts, man.
yeah,
I have
yeah.
100 shirts in my closet with the front missing.
Yeah, so not good right now. Just my mind is just like, what is going on? My body is not feeling good because I constantly just have to take a shit. This is
Oh
probably my third
God,
shit
Brady.
in like an hour.
Did this keep going?
Luckily, I felt a little bit better. You know, I did my thing I needed to do. I caught back up with them. The guys are still sometimes like near me too, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope they're not looking at me. I'm just bare ass down in the snow, like hiding behind this rock, and now my hand too.
Why don't you just drop your ass straight to the snow and
Just dog on a carpet.
just
Look how cold it is.
run it downhill?
and so then we start moving up the mountain a little bit. I catch back up to the guys. We're starting to walk. We're starting to walk towards this one ridge where I said all those sheep are up at 16,000. And again, luckily, like I was behind a shorty, so I'm like kind of looking around. He's like making the path, and so he's basically post holing in the deep snow. So I'm following his post hole. So he's worrying about the snow, and I'm looking up, and I'm like, I slap him on the back. I'm like,
With
sheep.
your right hand?
Yeah, I had gloves on.
Okay.
They're definitely not
Just
letting
making sure.
you walk ahead of them down.
No.
Yeah.
They're like
So-
you in the back.
So I slap him on the back, and I'm like, sheep coming over the ridge. And all these sheep are just on these ewes on top of this ridge, like working towards us. And he's like, all right, we jumped down in the snow as fast as we could. We lay down in the snow. And this is the most magical thing I've ever experienced in my life. For the next hour or so, just watch sheep come over the mountain onto our basin. More sheep, more sheep, more sheep, to the point where there was easily, no joke, over 300 head of sheep. In
Holy
front of me.
shit.
They're just coming over the top
Coming
of the
over.
ridge.
And the first, like he's like, get on your gun, get everything ready. He had the spotter. He's looking at him. I keep pulling my binos up, looking at all these rams. A bunch of rams are just coming over. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the most magical thing ever. All these sheep, like the spot where they're coming over is like 550 yards. So I'm like, I am in range. Anything has to happen.
Yeah.
All these sheep are just piling into us. A bunch of them are bedding down like at 450 yards, just on this little small area. There's no snow, like a wind-blown area. More sheep are piling over. I asked him, like, what are we going to do? He's like, well, there's a bunch of rams here. I'm seeing some of these rams that look mature. He's like, we're going to wait as long as we can, as long as these sheep, because we had the wind now too, because the wind is coming from right to left, and the sheep are coming from the right.
Yeah.
So the wind is perfect. And we're just like, we're going to wait until we have every sheep in the valley in front of us so we can look over all these rams. Because, like, he's like, we don't want to shoot a ram and then have a bigger ram come behind it. Like, we're going to wait. And so that could be iffy because we're going to have some rams that might come close to us.
And
or
get to the
maybe
left of us into the wind.
Yeah, but, like, we had enough, like, in front of us where it would be a while before they would get into the wind. But, like, we don't know what these ewes are going to do. There's a big pile of ewes everywhere. Sheep are piling over. I'm just laying in the snow, like. Every
You
now
cold?
And then, oh yeah, I had to turn and face away from the snow for a while and put my hands in my pocket, dig my hands way down, and just try to warm up. Because I only had my Traverse and my gunner gloves, which was fine moving around. But once we started stopping, I was getting a little cold. That's why I normally would have my backpack, but he was like, no, just leave your backpack. And I should have grabbed my ultimates and put those on, but I'm just laying there getting all my stuff ready. I had my Kestrel wind meter out. I had my GOHUNT ammo wallet plug.
Shameless plug.
Because that thing's awesome. So I always, everyone knows I single feed everything. So I had 2 rounds on the side. I laid my ammo wallet down just in case you need it. You never know. You have to be prepared. This is now coming to the point where it's going to be the biggest shot I've ever taken in my life, the most pressure in a way.
No question.
Because all the travel, the cost of what this, sheep hunt is, I have all this effort going into this. My body is kind of destroyed right now internally. So, like, I don't know what I can keep doing. And I'm definitely gurgling inside when I'm laying there, but I'm like, I'm just got to focus and, forget about it. And all these sheep are coming over. So, like, at some point right now, it's probably going to happen where I'm going to have to take a shot. And so I'm just ranging these sheep. I'm pre-dialing for what I expect to happen. I'm reading the wind constantly, pulling my Kestrel up, checking where the wind is, adjusting my windage. And finally, we had a bunch of sheep in the area and in the valley, and we're like, there's still some ewes coming over, but there was no rams anymore. And usually, the rams are in the back, so we're still like, maybe there's some behind there. And all of a sudden, a couple more big rams came over. It's like, okay, we have a lot of rams now in front of us. I don't know how many there were. Easily 40 some rams. Like, no joke. But luckily, they were spread out enough where we could easily determine and talk to each other which one we're looking at. And finally, it's
Take
like,
inventory easily.
Yep. So he's like, I've looked over them all. There is an absolute giant in the middle, right next to this little wind-blown area, and there's a bunch of ewes around it. And you'll see there's a broken horn ram. There was a broken horn ram right next to him. That was that other sheep
That made
species.
it easy.
And that was the same broken horn ram from the night before. And I do believe this was the ram I was looking at the night before. It wasn't the big curl one, but this was another one I really liked because he had mass.
Yeah.
And he still had that look. So I believe it was the one I digiscoped the night before. He's like, that's your ram. And I'm like, are you fully sure? And he's like, yes, that's the biggest one. It was 410 yards. Perfect. And I think I said before wrong. My dad's shot was 411. Mine was 410,
Yeah.
which is crazy too. Like both shots are really similar. So I'm laying there. I grab my Kestrel again, grabbing the wind, grabbing the range a bunch of times. I know I have it dialed, but there's sheep, there's kind of moving around a little bit. I think I have the ram. I hand him my phone. I'm like, all right, record some digiscope, get on it. And so my ram has its head down the whole time. And so the ram was kind of in the way. Finally, the broken horn ram moved away. And he's like, take it whenever you want. And I know I said something to him. I want to get a good look at this ram. Like,
Yeah,
like,
you want to be sure.
I didn't want to say, like, I fully trust your opinion.
Yeah, but I want to see
I want to
it.
make sure. So his head was down,
But
and
it's
it
also
was
your
sideways.
hunt.
Yeah.
Head was down sideways, so I can only see, big horn coming out, but I want to see a front look. I want to make sure it wasn't broke. I want lamb tips. I want them way out. The most I'm going to say it a lot, most magical thing happened. He lifted his head up, turned, and just like not looking at us, but looking in our direction.
Yeah.
With his
The perfect
horns
look.
just showed perfectly.
Yeah.
Like that memory right there is literally etched forever of him looking at me. And now I'm like, he said, shoot him. The horn is in the vitals because they're so freaking long. So I can't.
Actually, I can't
shoot
thinking
him
of that.
have to
I would
shoot him with
imagine like the angles really matter because their horns tip out so far.
Yep. So, and what's
That's
crazy?
a wild thought, actually.
So his horns are literally in his vital area, and so I can't shoot him looking at me. And I also have I dialed the wind already. Like it's 25 to 30 mile an hour wind.
Yeah.
At 410 yards, I had to dial almost 20 inches of wind.
Holy shit.
So everything now is leading to literally like I've taken animals a lot further distances.
Mm-hmm.
I'm totally comfortable with that. But like the wind, the species I'm hunting, the terrain, my body being destroyed, like everything just leading up to this shot means more to me in my life than any other shot I've ever taken. It's such an animal that means the world to me. And I owe it to this animal to make the perfect shot in this terrain. And that's why I think you can't go over on an international hunt without having tools and know how to use them. Like that wind meter, if you go to Tajikistan on a Marco Polo hunt and you don't have a wind meter, I don't know how you're going to kill one of these things. Like it is never calm. It's always 20 plus mile an hour winds.
Yeah.
So you always have some sort of crosswind. So if you don't know how to adjust for that, you're going to shoot that animal poorly and it's blood and done.
Yeah.
So like all that stuff's also weighing on me, even though that's how it should be on every single hunt, but it's just like different because you're in a situation like this.
Yeah.
So I am literally on the gun, safety off. I have a round in, getting ready to press the trigger.
Are you prone?
Yep, laying on the ground. So I had my bipod all dug in, all fully situated as best I could in these rocks. I had my rear rest on there. I'm trying to get the rear rest in the right position. Ram's moving. So when he looked at me that one time, I'm like, well, I can't shoot. What am I going to do? Like, I have to wait till he put his head down. I'm like, I totally got it. I'm still trying to like feel that wind coming on my face to make sure it still feels similar to what it was. So I'd make sure I'm not going to overcorrect. Because sometimes if we had some lulls, but then it would really gust again, like higher than that. So I want to make sure I'm shooting in a good area. The ram is facing to the right. He all of a sudden turns completely around and looks straight away from me. I do believe it was straight away. I touched it off and literally, like no joke, I have it recorded on Digiscope. You could not place that bullet any more perfect. That was the highlight of that experience was I hit that ram perfectly.
You made the shot.
Made the shot right behind the shoulder. In that wind, at that distance, everything that was going on leading up to it.
Little adversity, no big deal.
And I'm laying there, and they're slapping my leg. Like the ram runs, and it's chaos. Like I said, there's sheep everywhere.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to get on some sheep, and all of a sudden you see a bunch of other sheep run up, and those are giant rams. But my ram went, no joke, 60 yards and piled up. I didn't know it at the time. He was like, they're slapping my legs. I'm like,
yeah, where is he?
Did I kill it? And they're just like, they're all talking like they were talking their language at first. And I forgot to like say like, hey, you nailed him. So I'm like, kind of like, what happened? I heard it hit him, but I don't know it's a perfect shot yet. And they're like, he's down. I'm like, say it again. like no joke. I said, say it again.
I'm going to need you to verify.
I'm going to need you to tell me again.
I jumped up on my knees and turned over and gave him the giant bear hug. Biggest bear hug I've
Shorty?
ever given. Yeah, Shorty.
That's awesome.
I even said, like, man, like, I absolutely love you guys for what you did, like, today. Like, they know how to stalk the sheep. Like, yeah, I've hunted mountains all the time, but they know, like, even earlier in the day when we were moving on the sheep, they were kind of looking at us. He knew when to wait to move when they were more comfortable. Like, we didn't try to rush anything. We got over the right area. We worked all those different sheep bands of sheep.
They got
to
you
get to that point.
They got you 400 yards from how many sheep? That's pretty incredible.
And right where we were was 15,500 feet. Wow. I shot my ram at 15,000.
Wow.
I think it was 800.
They have eyesight like our sheep do. They got that optical zoom in there.
They can definitely see, but they're comfortable with you.
They don't have the pressure.
At a certain distance. And so turning into him, I just gave him the giant bear hug. Literally, I started crying. Like,
I don't know how you won it. It's wild.
Most amazing thing in my life. And then, like, obviously Shoga gave him a giant hug, and I'm like, I want to see this ram.
Yeah.
Like, I want to make sure he's down.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want anything moving. I grabbed my spotter, put it over, and I could see the ram just, his horns are on the ground, legs are just laying there, he's dead.
And they got the whole thing on
Digiscope? Digiscope film, yeah. Just most, I've replayed that a ton. I have a screenshot of him looking straight on at me in the video. Like, it's the coolest look ever. That's the look I wanted. And I'll show you guys.
It's like when a mule deer breaks skyline and turns back to look at you, and you're just like, oh my god,
just cool. Absolutely epic. And then they're like, we're gonna go recover him, and I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I want to go up there. Yeah. They're like, no, we'll hike up there. You can stay here. And like, my hands were, like I said before, my hands were cold.
Yeah.
Completely numb. And so I had some hand warmers in my pocket, but totally forgot I had some hand warmers buried underneath all my clothes because I was maybe moving it around trying to find toilet paper earlier. I was a mess. And the guy had a hand warmer handed to me. He's like, you just stay here. We're going to go drag it down a little bit, and then you can meet us whenever. So they hiked up, and I was watching them hiking up, and I was like, holy shit, like, they're taking forever to get up there because it was super steep and deep snow, and like, he was just shy of 16,000 feet.
Wow. That's unbelievable,
elevation,
man.
And just like,
that's
they probably,
crazy.
And too, like with them living there, probably like they don't want you doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they're used to it.
Some safety protocol there.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's, you guys aren't going to see it on film. Maybe I'll throw it on there, but that's the look he gave me.
Oh my God.
And that's when I knew.
Bro, it looks bigger than a Rocky.
Look how big their bodies are.
It looks so much bigger than a Rocky.
Yeah.
That's so incredible. That's great to just go.
So while I was sitting there, while they were up there, I was like, I'm going to, I didn't have my film camera on me or my photo camera. I had my phone. So I'm like, I'm going to turn around. I'm going to try to talk through what just happened. Like, I did my best to film this for a, GoHunt original, but like, I also wanted to soak up some of these moments.
Of course, man.
So a lot of times when this was going on, I would black out and forget to film. I'm like, I got to capture this right now. Like, my emotions, like when I say like, I could not talk, I like literally couldn't talk because it was so emotional.
I don't doubt it, man.
Like, everything dreamed of how this hunt was going to go and how it happened on like my first full day. And I got to witness.
What time did you kill it at?
Oh, like 11:23 in the morning.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Boy, they're stocky.
Yeah.
So stocky.
Blocky-bodied suckers. Look at that.
Yeah. Doesn't it look bigger than a Rocky to you?
They're
so massive.
They look
like their hoof, no joke, is as big as my palm.
That's wild.
On my hand. Like, they're just giant. And then so finally they started dragging it down. I was watching them drag it, and they're just struggling dragging this thing down. Like, it is deep snow. They're constantly stopping. I was digiscoping them dragging it down. And finally they dragged it down a little further. I'm like, I need to go over there right now. Like, screw what they told me to stay here. Like, I'm going to start hiking over there. So I grabbed all my gear, my rifle, my Kestrel, my rangefinder, put all back in my stuff, started walking over there and grabbing those horns for the first time and just even touching the hide. Just like,
I can't imagine that.
Pretty cool.
They're like, there's nothing that describes that moment when I first walked up on that sheep and realized how big it was, how cool it was. Just everything about it. Just the sheep is gorgeous. The mass on it. I'm just like.
He does look heavy. Looks really heavy.
I just could not put anything into words. And then just have those guys sitting there with me and then, soaking it up a little bit. We're just sitting there laughing. And then Shoga's like, oh, I'm going to go back and, we're going to go try to get the truck. See if we can get the truck over here. And somehow.
They got it?
They got the truck over there. He said it was wild and really crazy.
Sure.
but he got it really near us, and we had to drag it down a little bit further, but they got it near there. I got my big camera up. As I'm sitting there talking to Shorty when everything else was going on, just like, I'm like, why do you guys, love sheep hunting so much? And we're like, because of what you just experienced.
Yeah.
They literally said, we love how much you cared about that moment. And that's what it means to them. And I was like, well, that means a lot to me too. Just like to understand
sure.
that they love it to see you be happy. It's like, all I care about is you're happy. Like, if you're happy with this ram, we are 10 times happier than you. I guarantee it. Like, we're over the moon right now.
That's awesome.
And then as we're sitting there taking photos, like Shoga, I don't know if he's ever held a DSLR camera before, because he obviously he's taking much pictures on a cell phone, but like trying to walk someone through how to use my mirrorless camera, it's like, it's confusing. I'm like, yep,
for sure.
I set it up for him. Just, push the button. Don't have to worry about any focus, autofocus. Just make sure this little green box is on me. And I saw him pick up the camera, and he was like this, like totally like sideways with it, like at an angle. And I'm like, no, we got to do it this way. And we got a bunch of really cool photos, but like, it's also kind of hard too, because I wanted to sit there and just take photos for hours.
Of course.
But it was blowing snow, super windy. Like,
sure.
Like, we had to get that animal taken care of, so I didn't get as much photos as I want. And then the wind's just freaking ripping. Like, there's some photos where I'm like squinting like this, and there's just see like snow flying everywhere across the sheep. Like,
that's part of it though.
Snow.
That's actually really cool to have those kinds of photos.
It was like, even though some of them are blurry and whatever, and then we got him in there, and Shoga's things, I always like, I've seen a bunch of other pictures at camp. He always stands back there behind the ram. Like, that's a big thumbs up. Super cool guy. Or no, that was Shorty. Sorry, Shorty is in that. So that was like just super cool memories. Then we drug the sheep back down to the truck, and I'm like, do we cut it up? And like, no, we're loading that sucker whole.
Just in the back of the Land Cruiser?
Land Cruiser.
Tarp down or anything, or just throw it right in?
They had some tarp, a little bit of tarp down, but not a whole lot. So we throw this ram in the back, and I was like, how's this sucker going to fit? They're just like loading up there, and I'm like, I'm going to help. And they're like, you don't really have to do anything again. But like, the driver and the two guys were loading it up. And then we busted out like one of the, like, no joke, because of everything that happened, the best lunch I've ever had in my life. It was, a bunch of cheese, a bunch of, summer sausage, salami. Like,
but you could appreciate
the cheese at little charcuterie board. Yeah, the cheese would be nice for Brady in the moment.
And I don't know what
your stomach settled down?
No,
still going.
It's gonna get way worse than this.
Just tell me you had toilet paper.
Yeah, eventually I had toilet paper. No wet wipes. Hate those things. But yeah, we had tons of, like, the big thing there is like green tea. We had, lots of green tea, and I don't know what kind of cheese it was, but it's like, I'm not a big cheese person, even though I grew up in the Midwest, but like, that cheese was the best cheese I've ever had in my life. I don't know what it is. It's a phenomenal cheese. We had a giant lunch. We're just soaking up, sitting in the snow, like super cold, but we're all just laughing. They're talking. I'm just like, I can't understand them again, but I appreciate them wanting to talk all the time, like with each other. Like, I'm just sitting back doing my thing. They're doing their thing. Just super cool to experience that with them. Had a giant lunch. And I'm still on cloud 9, and they're like, Shorty turns to me and is like, let's go Ibex hunting. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, now we're going to go Ibex hunting.
I mean, just the feeling of being able to keep hunting, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Same day.
It's got to be such a good feeling.
Yeah. So then we started running down the mountain, driving around, but now we're getting into Ibex country, which Ibex country I was really excited to get into because it's gnarly.
Yeah.
Like, where those buggers live is straight vertical. Like, I don't know how those things navigate that mountain. Like, you always see it, when people hunt in the Floridas down here and stuff like that, like the stuff they go through. And
yeah, it's a little different up there, though.
Even watching films over there, I've watched a lot of Ibex films as well. It's like, you're going to work for your Ibex, and these suckers are spooky. Like how we said before, we're driving trucks up the mountain, like looking for sheep. Like, you can't do that in Ibex. They're literally spooking when you're a mile out, running up the mountain. And so we get into all this nasty, craggy terrain. And again, deadheads all over the place, or rams. I'm just like, stop.
So wild.
I want to take a picture of that deadhead. I hop out, go hike up in the snow a little bit, take a picture of the deadhead, hop back in. We start driving. All of a sudden, we're like, had a little tea break again in the middle of the day. I'm just like, if nothing else happens today, I don't care.
It's a fucking great day.
If you guys want to stop,
it's a great day.
You don't want it to.
Yeah,
even.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so we're sitting there. All of a sudden, like, we spotted a bunch of Ibex way up on top of the mountain, too far to go after. And we start driving again. All of a sudden, we spot like one Ibex bedded, and you can just see its freaking horn sticking up, like skylined a little bit. And like, wow, that's a big Ibex. Like, let's go after that one. So we're driving up the mountain a little bit, and I'm like, guys, stop. And they're like, what? I'm like, I got to go to the bathroom again. I'm sorry. No. We're on a freaking approach to get closer to park the truck to go hike up to go shoot this Ibex, and I have to go do my business.
That's the worst feeling too. Oh.
Did you have You were at the truck, so you had your backpack, right?
I didn't have any extra toilet paper in my backpack for some stupid reason, but we had a bunch of napkins in the truck, so I had a bunch of napkins. And it's still just that, not to dive into it, but still not the kind of shit you want to have.
Of course not.
So obviously those Ibex get away because
those Ibex get away.
Probably because they smelled me. And I'm like,
I love the fit. Obviously, those Ibex get away.
Obviously, those ones are gone.
So we were driving around all day looking at Ibex. Kept having more Ibex get out in front of us and spook. And we're driving all these nasty mountains and buried the truck again. Like, just completely buried it. And I saw another deadhead. And I'm like, I'm going to go hike up that mountain and go take a picture of that deadhead while you guys are digging it out because they didn't want me to dig it out. And I ran up there really quick, took pictures, and just looking back at this valley again, like, how am I here right now? That's what I kept thinking is like, look at the place I'm in, and
that's
I'm hunting.
Wild.
Like, these mountains are like nothing I've ever seen in my life, and I'm up here just hunting. It's like, why would you ever go to this spot if it wasn't
for
hunting?
Hunt. Yeah.
And that's what's so cool because it's not just a hunt; it's the adventure side of it, and being in that spot to see all that, just epic. And I had the most amazing day ever. And then we drive back to camp, and of course my dad's like, says again, like, oh, how'd your day go? And I'll like started trying to explain to him like my day, and then we just giant bear hugs again, like recap the whole story.
Did you tell him about the shit?
Oh yeah, they were all laughing.
Did you shoot the shit literally?
Yeah, I told him about my hand and all that stuff.
Did he shake your hand?
I had gloves on. But yeah, just a wild day. And then I finally was like, so enough about me. Like, what happened to you? And he's like, shot an Ibex. I'm like, my gosh, Dad. Like,
so he's
2 days.
Yeah.
So he's done.
Yeah, this is like officially day 1, and he's tagged out because he shot his ram the day before.
Wow.
An extra half day. But then the crazy thing is, again, his gun. So he shot his Ibex, and I guess it hit it in the front leg, like not high enough to do anything, but you could definitely tell it was hit.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of Ibex again, and they were doing the whole counting game, trying to find the biggest one. And he hit his Ibex, and unfortunately they had to leave it overnight. And it's like, we can't go up in that terrain. It's really sketchy. We're going to come back in the next morning. And so he had to leave it all night, and he was on pins and needles the whole entire night. I'm
sure, dude.
Holy shit. He's like, I'm glad I'm done right now. He's like, I was hoping that my hunt would go further, and I wouldn't take an Ibex, and I could use your gun for the rest of the time. She's like, there's something wrong with my gun right now. It's not shooting very well. And he was on pins and needles all night, and this was the night of terror for me as well.
With your stomach?
Yeah. Like, no joke.
Do you have food poisoning?
No, it was strictly Diamox. Like, so the
Diamox is that rough on your it can be that rough on your stomach?
Yeah. So like the one kid in camp, I honestly can't remember his name. I feel horrible about it, but he's the son of the guy who used to own it, and he has a medical background. So he's like, yeah, dude, like you need to start like probably getting off the Diamox. I'm like, maybe I'll try to get off it tomorrow. But this night, literally, I ate dinner. I was super, slow at dinner. That night.
Were you getting dehydrated at all?
Yeah,
because when it's that cold too, you don't drink much water.
Yeah. So I had a bunch of supplements. I had Seminole, Mountain Ops electrolytes and stuff like that. My dad brought a bunch of Pedialyte, like a giant bag of Pedialyte. Luckily, he brought all that. Like, I was pounding Pedialyte like it was going out of style all night long. But I was like kind of feeling a little iffy at dinner, and at one point I had to get up and walk away, and I went to the bathroom back at camp because I didn't want to go to the bathroom in there. Yeah. At our cook area. And came back in, they were all laughing. Like, they knew what I was just doing.
For sure.
And I was
Your dad had no issues?
No issues at all. One of the other guys said he felt a little bit, like one of the Canadian guys. He had a little bit of the same thing I did. And so I went to bed early that night. Those guys stayed up. And I think they went in the hot tub that night because we had
a hot tub.
Yeah, well, like the
it's
camp's
natural.
The camp's called Hot Springs Camp, so there's natural hot springs.
Hot springs.
So they basically, a lot of the heat in some of these camps too, they pipe it through
the spring.
The
system.
Water. Yep. And they have all the hot water you shower with is used from that, and the camp's heated with it.
Is it sulfur smelling because of
not actually that bad?
No?
It honestly isn't. It's like weird. You think it would be, but so there's hot spring things all over outside, and so they pipe it into this. Basically like a hot tub looking thing.
That's
and
cool.
You can jump in the hot spring right there. And so they did that. Now, I went to bed early, and from 8 o'clock until 9 o'clock, I shit 8 times.
In 1 hour?
1 hour. Could not get to sleep. Every time I would go to the bathroom and come back, literally a little bit later, I'd puke early again and have to go back. And at one point, I was like,
How angry was your beehole skin?
it was pretty good. It was
How
pretty not
angry
happy
was
with me. It was on
That's
fire.
You're like barely walking the next day.
So
just chafe
So I kept
central.
doing, like, that was, like, it continued through the whole entire night, too. I barely got any sleep that night.
That continued through the whole night?
Continued through the whole night, but that first hour was the worst. Like,
That's
I remember I
awful.
couldn't sleep at all. My dad's like, yeah, you kept breathing really hard. You were tossing and turning. Like, I had the craziest dreams I've ever had.
Is that Diamox too?
I don't know.
Or is that elevation?
I never had a headache or anything, really, but I just had crazy dreams. Like the dreams were, like, forcing me to, like, kept thinking the whole time and not allowing me to sleep kind of thing. And then I was constantly waking up,
Yeah.
going to the bathroom,
So you're
coming
just
back.
in super light sleep the whole night?
Just pounding Pedialyte the
How
whole
chafed
night.
were you, honestly?
Oh, it was the worst I've ever been in my life. Like, it hurt.
Like you were walking like a duck or what?
Luckily, I wasn't that bad, but, like,
Oh, God.
yeah. So
Ouch.
all night long. So the next morning for breakfast, I barely ate anything. You know, I had some porridge and just didn't really eat a lot. And I was just like, my gosh, like, I need to get off this Diamox. So I got off the Diamox then. And luckily, it was another, like, maybe 24, 36 hours of a little bit of this. But I finally...
Never as bad as that night, though?
Once I got off Diamox,
Started to clear up.
started to clear up.
Wow.
Because they were like, yeah, you're keeping up
Man,
with
that's a
us.
catch-22. That's a big catch-22 there. Like,
Yeah,
what do you
have to take it for the
do?
elevation, but maybe I didn't have to because I
You didn't
trained
have
so
it-
much for it.
Yeah, you didn't have any issues after you got off of it,
No,
right?
They were like, wow, you're keeping up with us totally fine. Like, yeah, totally get off Diamox.
Hmm.
And so the next day,
Yeah, it's the lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
next
no
day we had to
question.
split up again because my dad's going to
To get his-
recover it.
yeah.
But ended up being, I'll tell my dad's story first. My dad just stayed at camp. They're like, we're going to go up there. Like, you can come if you want to, but we're going to go up, hike all the way up there. We're just going to take your gun and go up. And they're like, yeah, we found it right away. We had a bunch of birds flying in the air, a bunch of vultures and whatever else they got over there, crazy birds. And found where his Ibex was. And they started stalking up on it, got to a close distance, and they took the first shot, missed. And
Oh,
the other
no.
guy took another shot, missed. And the Ibex is now getting up, walking away. And the other guy's like, well, you shoot it. Maybe I'm, not shooting it correctly. Shoots it again, misses. They figured out it was shooting like a foot right all of a sudden.
Your dad's gun?
My dad's gone.
Jeez.
So finally they killed the ram, but it took them a bunch of shots because they finally figured out they had to aim way.
Yeah.
opposite
So he
direction.
was hurting bad, like he wasn't getting
Yeah,
away.
he wasn't moving
Yeah.
around that fast. But, like, the scary thing too, because like I said, blood and done, and
Yeah.
my dad's gun had some issues on it. And
Yeah.
it was a distance that my dad's totally capable of shooting at it, and just the gun was just not right. From the travel,
terrible
and then
timing.
the whole, like, pressure signs on the ammo, like, not good.
Got to have a little adversity on your dream hunt, though. You have to.
Yeah, my day
You
was,
know?
but
Got to have it.
Was he bummed out?
he was bummed about that because he's like, I'm
Yeah.
a way better shot than this. I hate that these people think that my gun was off
Yeah.
and maybe I wasn't prepared or whatever. But
Yeah.
like, he is very dialed on everything.
Just terrible timing.
Terrible timing.
Yeah.
And he didn't we didn't have time to change anything. So then, I'm out there driving around. All of a sudden we come across a giant herd of yak, and I'm like, stop the truck. I want to take a bunch of photos of these yaks.
Yeah.
These yaks are just like giant, kind of like the size of bison. They look like basically a cattle, but they have giant horns. Super cool. Took a bunch of pictures of these yaks walking around.
That's cool.
And we went through a big, like, little shepherd camp area. All these little communities we're driving through. We stopped and talked to one of the guys, gave him a bunch of food again, and kept driving through. Went up this big, nasty mountain range because, again, we're just hunting ibex, getting way up in this basin. And all of a sudden we're driving, and I'm like, stop the truck. Look out. I'm like, those are wolf tracks, right? Because they're pretty small looking to me. But, like, oh, yeah, there's all wolf tracks. Because, like, there's no coyotes in Tajikistan.
Yeah.
So I'm like, sweet, there's wolves up here. But, like, obviously they look like they're a day old. Keep driving up this nasty freaking 2-track road. Like, I'm like, where's the road? Like, oh, it's a road right here. We're just driving up, deadheads all over the place again.
It's so wild to think that.
Yeah, that is.
We get by this, like,
So wild.
old shepherd hut that had, like, these old concrete walls. Obviously no one lives in them anymore. And there's just deadheads stacked up on this, like, retaining wall thing.
Ibex?
There was a couple ibex, but it was mainly all just rams.
Okay.
Just probably 10 of them.
Wow.
All over the place. Drive up a little bit further. I was like, wolf. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, wolf right in front of us. It was like 400 or 500 yards away. I'm like, I want to shoot that thing.
Single?
Well, no, there's 2 of them. I should back up, though. A little bit before that, I did spot some ibex on this mountain.
Mhm.
And we put the spotter on them, and it was 5 ibex, and they were all very big, mature ones. So then we spotted the wolves, and I was like, I want to shoot them right now. And they're like, these ibex are really good. Like, if these wolves go to the right basin, away from these ibex, and we see them again, sure, but right now they want to go after the ibex. And I'm like, all right, I'm not one to question my guides. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I want to shoot a wolf badly, but they really want to go after these ibex, so let's go up and try to get these Ibex. So of course the wolves run to the left, the opposite direction where they said they can go. We start driving a little bit. All of a sudden the truck stops working. Just stops working. I guess there's something wrong with the fan or the belt or something like that. So
it's not like one of those vehicles.
Out in the middle of nowhere.
Out in the middle of nowhere. So all of a sudden I start wrenching on it, grabbing some parts out of the back, and I'm like, wow, they're really doing this. And as the driver's up on top of the truck, he just has, big old cigarette lit right in front of the
smoking
engine.
A dart out there.
Yeah, just burning a heater.
Classic.
Getting under the truck, he fixes everything, luckily, and the other guide was off walking around looking for Ibex. And so those Ibex that we saw were up on that mountain, and they were still there. So we drove the truck up a little bit, parked. He's like, all right, just grab your gun, grab your essentials again. I already had my overweights on. So we start hiking up the mountain, and it's just straight up, like crazy, like elevation, just right up to the snow. And obviously both of us were breathing hard. We're stopping a lot, taking breaks, get up a little bit higher. All of a sudden we see some nannies. And I'm like, oh, there the Ibex are, but we can't see any of the billies. Like, where are they at? We keep moving up a little bit higher. We're starting to hide behind this one boulder for probably 30, 40 minutes because this one Ibex is like a smaller,
got you pegged.
just looking right at us. I'm like, oh gosh. And it was like 500 yards away, but we're pegged. Got to hang out here for a while. And again, that's what's really cool about these guys, knowing when to stop, when to wait.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, we're just going to wait them out. As we're sitting here waiting, I look down the basin, and two little dots are walking down the basin on this ice.
Wolves.
They're coming back down the drainage towards us. And I ranged it, and I'm like, dude, these wolves right now are 450 yards away, straight down the mountain, like literally straight down the bottom. I turned to my guide, and I was like, how big are these Ibex again? He's like, yeah, they're good. I'm like, are they giant?
Yeah, like
absolute giant.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, no. And I'm like, can I shoot one of these wolves right now? And he's like, you really want to shoot a wolf? I'm like, yeah. I don't care at all about the Ibex right now. I want to shoot one of those wolves.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, we've been sitting here for a while, like, sure, if you want to try to shoot one of those wolves, get on the gun, shoot the wolf, instantly grab the gun, turn it around, and we'll see if those Ibex are like some rock cliffs area that are close to us, so we just can't see them. So I get down, I'm literally laying straight down the mountain, trying to shoot down to the bottom. These wolves are on this ice band. I recorded on my phone a little bit, walking across the ice. They're just like milling around, must be hunting or whatever. Finally, one of them comes walking over and beds down behind a boulder. This other one's way behind it, walking around. I'm like, yeah, they both look about the same size. Maybe the one that's standing up is a little bit bigger. But they're both walking around, or the one was walking around. The one was bedded. I ranged it 291 yards. I was like, oh my gosh, get on my gun as fast as I can and comfortable. Obviously, it was bedded. I had all the time in the world. Super windy again, coming down the canyon. Had to take my wind meter out again, grab the wind, figured out where I need to hold, or I dialed. Getting ready to do it. He's like, all right, remember, shoot the wolf, turn around, get the gun ready. I'm like, this is going to be wild.
He doesn't want you to shoot this wolf real bad.
He really didn't want me to. And like, they have a thing too about wolves where I think it's maybe some religious thing, or like no one wanted to touch a wolf at all either. Like, they were really sketched out about touching it, like make me wash my hands after the fact of all this. But
really,
I'm jumping into it. But anyway, I get on the gun, laying down. I'm like, this one of the wolves that's walking comes right next to that one. I'm looking at them both. I'm like, well, the one standing, that wolf's been walking around all the time and it's kind of fidgety. The one that's bedded down looks nice and easy. So I had it dialed there. I just touched it off. I heard it smack, and he's like, wolf didn't move. Grab the gun, flip it around. So I barely even got to soak up. I just killed a wolf.
Yeah.
And I'm turning my gun around looking for the Ibex.
In Tajikistan, he killed a wolf.
Yeah.
It's wild.
And then these Ibex are, now they got up, at least 5 billies, and they're walking up the mountain. He's like, all right, yeah, the third one. They're from the back. I'm like, I got to range, and I got to get my gun settled and lay down. And it was like 550 yards. So I'm like, I have to make sure I am rock solid. I can't be just like shooting here. This isn't like a 200-yard shot. The Ibex are walking up. All of a sudden, this big, giant gust of wind comes by and totally whitewashes out where those Ibex are. And he's like, you see the one that's standing there? That's the big one. And I'm like, no, it's whited out in my scope right now. And I'm getting a bunch of wind blasts, too, and snow flying. And, of course, the Ibex just get away.
Over the top?
Over the top. But, like...
Are suppressors legal over there? I doubt they are.
I doubt you could probably travel with
I
them
doubt
all the way
that.
over there through all the other airports you got to go through. So I had a wolf down, but the problem was right after I touched that shot off on the wolf, the other one just stood there. And I literally could have just... put another one in and
shot both.
Shot both of them. The other one just stood there, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And I had to, throw the gun over and turn around the other side.
Is there no tags? No.
It cost me $1,900.
Okay.
But
so it's just like a running total kind of a thing on wolves, not necessarily.
You can shoot as many as you want. You can shoot the same thing with Ibex too. You can keep shooting Ibex as long as you want to keep paying. And
really?
And you could.
Human arcade or the adult arcade right there.
Duck hunter.
Yeah. So I had a freaking wolf down on the bottom of the mountain, and I'm like, ecstatic, and he's like, yeah, the Ibex got away. Like,
Yeah.
He was
really wanted
bummed.
me to shoot
He
an
was
Ibex.
bummed out.
They just didn't really, like, they didn't understand how exciting it is for probably us to like
Shoot a
not
wolf.
wanna shoot a wolf.
Yeah.
And he did say like, yeah, you just saved like 30 sheep. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, they kill a lot of sheep every single year. These wolves do. Like, they're a lot smaller. Like, they are like just a little bit bigger than a big coyote. Like, maybe my wolf was maybe 60, 70 pounds. Like, it was not a big wolf by any means. But that's just the size that they are. Like, they're crazy colored too. They're not like our wolves at all.
Do they see him fairly frequently?
Yeah, they see them quite a bit.
Didn't you tell me they don't like the wolves?
Yeah, they want to get rid of them, but like they're really weird about.
Yeah, you told me this.
So when I walked down there, I was touching the wolf or whatever. Like, those 208 Barnes bullets put a giant hole in the exit wound, which I hope they can repair because I'm just gonna get a hide.
Yeah,
hang it
just
from the
tan it.
nose. Yeah, just tan it. And I'm like looking at the teeth and stuff like that, looking at the paw, touching it, all that. And I'm like, all right, so we're gonna load it in the truck. And like, no, we're not putting it in the truck. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, we're gonna put it in this little basket outside the truck. Like, they didn't want it inside the vehicle with us.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's telling. I told him to save it for this, but like
Did you skin it out or load it whole?
No, it's loaded whole.
they don't want to touch him. They don't.
Yeah. So to skip ahead, when we got back to camp later that night, I was touching the wolf, taking pictures of my dad, and I went back inside. They're like, or I was outside the skinning shack, and they're like, wash your hands right now. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, go wash your hands and wash them twice, and maybe wash them 3 times. He's like,
Do you think it's a disease issue?
they think they had diseases, stuff like that, or
Gotcha.
like they're just like, yeah, they're nasty, and like they also notice like we're not taking the wolf into the skinning shack. They're not going to take it into the normal skinning shack. They're going to go to a different shack and skin it out. And like the guys are going to wear big giant gloves, and they kind of like don't really like touching them and skinning them. So I wonder if it's like some of these people too, if it is a religious thing or what's going
or
on.
something about it. I don't know. Yeah, it's
Because I've
weird.
handled a million coyotes with mange and nasty stuff
course.
before, and like I get it. Maybe
part
it's
of
like
it.
a thing to them, or just what they.
It's got to be a cultural. I don't know, something different over there.
Yeah, and so I killed my wolf, and we're still going to go Ibex hunting. So all those Ibex are gone. We drove out of there and went to a new area. Saw some more Ibex again. More Ibex spooked and got away. And finally, we got in this one area where we had a big Ibex spotted from a long distance away, and it was the only male in there. And it was a giant-looking Ibex at that distance, and there was a bunch of females all around it. It's like, all right, we're gonna try to see if we can drive the truck close, get below the mountain. They're on this other hill behind the mountain, so we can stay hidden. And I'm like, all right, we'll park the truck and hike up. I'm like, no, they're gonna drive the truck up again, which is like their whole style. Like, just want to drive the truck up as far as they can.
Well, it's
before
probably
we get
got
out.
a heater, right?
Yeah.
It's always cold.
Out of the wind.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so we start driving on this mountain. I'm like, I wish we could stop right now, and I just want to stalk and shoot this thing because like they're calm. Like I said earlier, every time we spot an Ibex, they spook super easily. Like, they're on edge all the time.
That's crazy.
And so we're
they must not see anything. It's weird they'd be that skittish.
So we're kind of behind the mountain where they can't see us, but I'm like, they can hear us. It's windy. Like, the wind's coming again from the right to the left, and we're driving up, and the wind might echo through this canyon or whatever. And we're just going up in low gear all the way to the top. Finally, we park, and I'm like, now can we hike? And he's like, yeah, now we can hike. So I'm like, now we're finally getting out and hiking. So I hiked up a little bit, saw the Ibex. He's like, all right, we started crouching low, lay down this one little ridge. And it was one of those ridges, too, that's perfect, how it's like just lays over so I can get perfectly on there.
Sloped over, yeah.
Set my bipod up. I range it. It's at 620. It's obviously the only big one in there. And he's like, take it whenever you want. And the downside is we didn't have my spotter, so we couldn't get digital.
Yeah.
Is there any question about distance with those guys to the hunter? I mean, did they ever talk to you about like, hey, this is what we feel comfortable with as far as distance?
They said expect long shots when you're there. Like, that's kind of the name of the game, unless you want to, work it closer. But I told them earlier, like, I am comfortable.
And I guess with the policy of blood and done,
it doesn't matter to them.
It matters.
Yeah. So
right.
as they knew if I'm comfortable with it, they're okay with me taking it. I told them I can take this shot right now.
Gotcha.
And so it was all, I laid down. I had I had a lot of time to dial in for the first shot. I could grab the wind again. I could get comfortable. I'm laying in the snow, got my rear S set up, got my front bipod dialed, leveled the gun, executed what I thought was an absolute perfect shot. And all I saw, I could watch it in the scope, which is why I love having heavy gun again with a big, nasty break. I could watch that bullet impact, and that Ibex pancaked to the ground. Just pancaked to the ground.
Hell yes.
Perfect shot.
That's awesome.
And
3 for 3.
yeah.
Yeah, 3 for 3 now at this point.
Batting 1,000.
That's day 2. And so pancake to the ground. Get up.
Day 2, you got all 3.
We're starting to celebrate. We're doing all this. I'm like, I'm going to go back down to the truck. I'm going to try to get my cell phone. I want to get my camera. I want to take pictures of my gun and the setup and the mountains in the background. All of a sudden, I start going back there, and like maybe 5-10 minutes had gone by. And he's like, Ibex's head's up. I'm like, what? Like, no joke. Good amount of time had gone by. Ibex's head's up. He's just like laying there, head up. And I'm like, all right, I'll shoot him again. Like, I just got, my gun is literally sitting in the exact position. Rear rest is all dialed. I just made that shot the first time. I'll make it again. Like, maybe my bullet drifted a little bit different because of the wind, and maybe I hit him, front of the shoulder instead of right where I wanted to. But he pancaked to the ground, just pancaked. And they're like, no, let's hop in the truck and drive a little bit closer. And this is, again, these guys are experts at what they do, and I am a guest in their area. So it's probably those things that maybe should have voiced my concern a little bit more and like, no, I'm going to shoot this animal again because I am comfortable that's an easy shot for me. And like, no, we're going to hop in the truck. So I've trusted my guide in this, which I think you always should do and really shouldn't question yourself when you're in their area, their hunting terrain. Like, yeah, we'll just hop in.
I entirely agree.
Like, we'll hop in the truck, we'll loop back down, get a little bit closer. And then you could just take a shot. He's not going to go anywhere. You pancaked him. He's been laying there for a long time. Maybe you hit him high and broke his spine. He's just laying there. We, no joke, drove 50 yards in the truck. Ibex gets up, starts freaking just walking up the mountain. I'm just, at this point, crushed.
Do you have any indication of where he's hit at that point?
I think, like I said, it might have been front of the shoulder, kind of that neck area, but it did something to pancake him, dropped him to the ground. Like, he wasn't moving. Yeah, I'm like, what is going on? They kept saying like how tough Ibex are. Like, Ibex are way tougher than a sheep. Like, they have the will to live, and they live in national.
I got a buddy who's killed a lot of Ibex, that TJ Sanchez, and he says they are unreal tough.
Really?
And they're big body
unreal
too.
Tough.
How big? Like, how big's an Ibex over there?
Bigger than a mule deer still.
Really?
Yeah.
What species do you know? Like, as far as Ibex, I mean,
this is a mid-Asian Ibex Premier is what they call it. They just recently reclassified them on November 24th. They actually, Tajikistan's Ibex look totally different because they have these like patches on the back.
So they're big, size of a mule deer.
I think they're size of a mule deer, yeah. Like, not like tall. They have shorter legs, but big stocky bodies.
Gotcha. Huh.
And so my Ibex is freaking walking up the mountain. And I'm just like, what is going on right now?
Yeah.
Like, I literally could have killed this thing. I'm kind of getting like frustrated, honestly, because like,
what's bugging Brady episode right there in the moment.
I know my gun. I know I could lay down and make that shot again, and then we'd be done. Yeah. Now my Ibex is walking away and blood.
And you don't know if you're going to get it at that point.
And like, the mountains in front of it are just straight up, and there's so many places this sucker could go. And so now we stop the truck. I get out, and they're like trying to rush me to do everything. It's like 800 some yards. So I'm like trying to get my gun all set up, take a shot. Obviously, I miss it because I'm in a rush.
Yeah. You're flustered.
Yeah, and I'm trying to get range. And every time I'm getting to range, the Ibex continue to walk. So I have to re-range again because at that distance, 10,
it's huge,
15
massive.
yards is a lot of difference on my dope. And I also have to figure out what the wind is doing, and it's snow everywhere, so we're not able to see exactly where I'm hitting. Like, give me an idea where I hit so I can make a better shot. Ibex keep walking up the mountain. I'm like, blood and done. That's all I kept thinking about.
Yeah, that would be really frustrating.
And he's walking up the mountain, and who knows what's on the other side. Is there an area we can go? Is it just sheer everything nasty up there? And this is, I think, almost 15,000 feet here. Like, this is going to be crazy. Like, way up on tops, giant mountains, and this thing's just going up. And so now we just start hiking. He's like, we have to hike towards this thing. I'm like, good. We're not in the truck anymore. We're hiking towards it. Finally get over there, get set up. It looks like the Ibex was bedded. I'm like, okay, that makes me feel good. I can just see his horns, though. I'm like, I can't shoot. We can't get any closer because if we get closer, it's going to make the Ibex lose distance. We're getting too close to the mountain. Won't be able to see him anymore. So like, I'll just wait it out. All of a sudden, a little bit of time went by. Ibex starts getting up and starts going down this little chute. Comes around this little chute. I'm like, he's like, all right, there it is. And he's like telling me range because that's what he does. But like, I need to use my rangefinder because I have to grab all the atmospherics and get my dope. So I can't do anything with that. And I'm trying to get steady, lose sight of him again. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I have to make this happen. Finally, there's like two little big boulder areas, like of no little avalanche chute thing. He's going to come right in between there. I grab the ranger there. The Ibex walks right through there. I can see his head, and he's slowing down. And finally, he stops literally in the middle of the chute. Couldn't have asked for a more perfect situation. Enough time.
He did the thing that he needed to do.
He already bedded once. He stopped there again. I'm laying down on my gun. I'm really comfortable. Got everything dialed now. I think I got the exact wind I need, exact dope. Another one of the most incredible shots of my life because I needed to do something here.
How far?
1,200.
Holy shit.
It was
Holy shit.
just a poke. And I'm like,
I mean, you got nothing to lose at this point. You
Yeah,
got
you got
one
one
in
in
him,
him,
blood
right?
and done.
Yeah.
You got nothing to lose.
Because earlier I'm rushed, and I can't.
Yeah.
I can't make a shot rush because I need.
You have your system.
I have my system, and I have to follow it. And this time I could fully get everything dialed in. Bipod just ground in the ground. Rear rest is all steady. I'm barely putting any pressure on the gun because I'm just laying there perfect. Touch it off. And I see his back legs kick up. I'm like, I hit him. You could hear it too. Like, it's such a far shot, but I could slightly hear it. And I saw his back legs kick up, and I'm thinking in my head, like, no animal when they're just walking is going to kick his legs up. If I miss him, he's not going to kick his back legs up. He did the whole like bucking horse.
The classic
Yeah.
kick out.
The
And
mule
like I
kick.
hit him.
Yep.
And then he, of course, goes behind that next little cliff area, and we lose sight of him. And we're like, all right, well, we can't go to the right a little bit. We won't be able to see past that little cut.
Did they
where he's
have
at.
eyes on him at all when you shot?
They did, but it was such
Didn't
a far
know.
distance. It was they only had binos
Yeah,
at
that's
that
a
point.
long ways.
And so I saw it kick in my scope because again my gun's so heavy I can watch
Mhm.
it impact at that distance. And I'm like, all right, he's behind that cut. He's like, we just got to back out now. And like we're not going to be able to go up there because we're going to be in the dark. It's super sketchy up there. Like
So it's just before dark.
just before dark now. And now I'm on pins and needles.
Yeah,
I
that
bet.
sucks.
And so it went from the best day of my life killing a
To
wolf
high stress.
to high stress situation, and I'm not very good. Like I don't like leaving an animal, and I'm already like kind of upset at myself that I didn't voice my concern to shoot that shot. when I had it
Yeah.
at
You got
620
that
again.
weighing on you for sure.
And so then blood and done, and
Yeah.
it's just like, what's going to happen tomorrow? Like, go back to camp, tell everyone the story, tell them about the wolf and all that stuff, and I shot something, and listen to my dad. He reassures me again because like, well, we found mine, and
Yep.
your shot sounds way better than what his shot was. And so we get up early the next day, drive all over there, and now this is finally like we had a weather window that was really good, and later in the hunt was going to get nasty. That's also why they really wanted us to split up.
Yep.
White
That makes
out.
sense.
Complete whiteout. You could barely see the road in the morning when we were driving. I'm like, how are we going to recover my Ibex now? Now everything's going against me.
Yeah, he's gonna be buried.
Yeah. And it snowed for how long last night? It's been
Mhm.
snowing all morning. All the mountains are white. Like, can't see the road. Keep driving. I'm like, how? I'm like looking at myself. Like, when I drive up mountains or hike in the mountain train, I'm always like, looking at a map, trying to navigate up there, like know the turns. And you can't see anything. These guys are like, oh, turning here, turning there. Like, this driver knows exactly where
Yeah.
to go to get
Oh,
right
I
to
think
that
it's a
Ibex.
lost skill. I was telling my brother this the other, like when I hunted in Idaho with him. I think there was a time in my life back before GPSs when I paid a hell of a lot more attention
Yeah.
For
going
sure.
to and from. And I
Yeah.
could tell you, I walked past that rock, and I
Yep.
would walk back past that rock in the dark, and I could tell you exactly what it looked like. I think that's one of the things that technology is actually maybe. I mean, it's a good thing, but I think it's kind of taken away some of that base.
Yeah,
that
'cause
we used to have.
The classic skill.
The classic skill, of being
I
way more
agree.
observational.
Yep, I totally agree.
And I don't know if it was that I couldn't see the mountains because I was starting to get familiar with some of the terrain as we've been hunting the last 2 days and knew where we were at. But I was like, my gosh, this drive seems like it's taking forever because we're going
Mhm.
slower. I just want to get up on there. I want to put eyes on that mountain and try to find
Yeah.
this Ibex. Finally, we get over there and drive up to the same exact spot where I shot from. And miraculously, the storm is breaking. I'm like, what is
What are
going
the
on?
chances?
What is going
Yeah.
on in the world right now? The Ibex last night stopped in the perfect spot. Like
Yeah, and now
today,
you get a break in the
break
weather.
in the weather, and the weather went away. It was like snowing a little bit, but
You're living right, or you're just getting paid back for what you had to live with the first couple days.
yeah, the mountain,
In a
like-
bad hand.
yeah.
Pun intended.
Yeah,
So-
pun intended.
We start hiking up there, and we keep glassing. Like, I can't see anything. We keep glassing super close. We finally get down below the chute where, he was up there, and you can't quite see around that stupid little corner.
Yeah.
And we're pulling for binos. Like, I'm glassing everything. He's glassing everything. Shoga's glassing everything. And finally he's like, I think I see something. I'm like, don't shit me right now.
Yeah.
Like, literally, shoot me straight. And he's like, no. Look up, way up on top, like almost at the freaking top of the mountain. Look up right there. There's a big boulder. I'm like, yeah, I see that boulder. He's like, you see those other 2 smaller rocks? I'm like, yeah, I see the 2 smaller rocks. He's like, look right in between there. I'm like, what? I was like trying to focus everything, and I had 16 power binos, which did make it a little bit easier. And I could just see a horn sticking out of the snow, and that's what he saw. My Ibex was laying up there dead in the snow.
Was that close to where you?
It was probably 100 yards away.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit more, because it was a little bit uphill. So after I'd shot, he somehow might have went
Made
back
his
out
way
in the
up.
open and then just
The
laid
death
down there and
run,
died. So he was up there dead in the snow. I was like looking at it, I was like, dude, his whole body is like buried in the snow. Like literally that horn. And a little bit of the back of it, the black part of his back is just showing, like I could see that. But like, it didn't snow
Holy
enough to bury
shit,
the whole
man, that
thing,
is
but like
wild.
it buried a bunch of his body where it was just one horn. Like, I wish I could have had my
Good
spotter
thing they
and,
got
like,
those horn
scope.
shapes, huh?
Yeah.
Was the plan to go up there and start looking? Had you not glassed it up?
We glassed it from
like-
the truck, and then we were working.
You were
time
going
we
to
going,
go up there and comb it.
Yeah, we
comb
were
it
just gonna
out.
start hiking. We're gonna go all the way up, and
Gotcha.
like, I had the guide again was carrying my gun, and I was like, you don't have to do that. Man. Like I can, like literally, this is on like me right now because
We're going to give you a lot of shit in the coming years.
I know.
You know, be like, oh, don't go hunt with Brady. You got to carry his gun for him.
Yeah, because it's 14 pounds. So yeah, like seeing that Ibex, just a relief of thoughts and emotions swept over me, and I was like,
Yeah,
I'm so
I bet.
thankful that we spotted this. I made 2 shots on him, and then again I'm like talking to Shorty, like I'll go up there, like we're a team, like we're literally a team right now. I was like, you guys are my brothers, like we're a team. I want to go up there.
Band of brothers.
I want to go up there and recover it.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you're not. And I'm like, I like had this motivational thing, like we're a team, we're gonna go up there together. And he's like, no, we're gonna stay here. I'm like, okay. So
All right. Cool.
So Shoga went all the way up there and just drug it down in the snow. And I forgot to. There was actually one of the other guys had came with too,
On that day.
and so he went up there as well. And they started dragging him down. We're sitting there for like an hour and a half. Like it was no joke, straight up.
I bet, man.
And so
Was
the
your
guy-
dad with you
Ibex-
that day?
No, because he wanted to go explore and possibly hunt wolves.
Okay.
And so my dad wanted to go with, but he's like, if I'm going to go in that vehicle, and I'd rather have another guy go with who can hike up there and probably better eyes than my dad.
Sure.
And so he was like, I want to go with you. I really do, but if this other guy can go and
And
he
I
had
can
another
go wolf
spotter,
hunting.
and go wolf hunting.
Gotcha.
And so yeah, they went up there. It took them forever, and all of a sudden they started dragging it down. I could hear them, and they're yelling back at each other. And all of a sudden they get to this one spot where there was literally like a big snowshoe. And I'm like, what are these guys going to do? Are they going to loop around, which would be smart, like the easy way?
They're
Did
going
they
to
just send it?
write it down.
All of a sudden they sent it down. I'm
Just
like,
sent it.
and Shorty's like, record this. And I'm like, I'm worried about this thing breaking because there's cliffs all the way down this thing. And this Ibex is coming down in the snow. Snow's flying everywhere. Boom, boom, like smacking his horns against rocks. I'm like,
It's pinballing.
oh my gosh, if that thing's broken. Like they recovered it for me, and I'm very thankful for that. We can recover the horns because we'll probably be able to find them. But if it breaks right now,
Yeah,
this is
that's
just
a whole different
adding
story.
to another thing. And luckily it didn't break. And I thought at one point I had to run out there and grab it because it was coming down fast down the mountain. But it was like, part of me was, we had a lot more snow, had a lot more adventure side to it. The stress was not needed, but I got to take pictures in the most picturesque thing on the side of the mountain, all that deep snow.
Yeah, we'll have to throw some pictures up because the pictures are pretty incredible.
Yeah,
For
the step
sure.
to the valley, everything. And the problem is, too, again, I blacked out here and forgot to take any video of my Ibex, like, on the ground and sitting there because I'm just, like, trying to soak it up, take some pictures, and then they're always like, wanting to, hurry stuff down. But, like, I didn't get a lot of good video of the Ibex on the mountain right
Where
there.
were
but-
the
It happens.
Where
I
were
mean,
the
when
shot
you're in the
placement?
moment.
So the shot placement was front of the shoulder. So
First one?
First one was front of the shoulder. And it blew, again, like my dad's did, a giant hole in the back. Like you could see muscle and bones everywhere. Like just melted. Like
Didn't
it looks
kill
like
it though.
it didn't kill it right away. And the other shot was, I don't know, high like towards the back area, but like it was probably like kicked up. But like all I want to do at that point is get it
get
around
one
and
more.
do it. And it's probably some of the wind stuff too. And it's 1,200 yards.
Yeah,
like,
that's
I mean,
a
just
poke.
to touch him at that far is
That's
pretty
a
incredible.
long
And so-
ways.
yeah, far, but I owed it to him to put another shot
Sure.
into him. And he probably might have died with the first one, and who knows? But like it made it
It's your
easier.
own- it's your only option. You
Yeah.
got one open. You
Got
got
nothing
a
to
clear
lose.
shot,
Why not?
And you,
Yeah.
you have the tools. You might as well.
So, just epic beyond belief. Everything I experienced up there, and like food, camp, everything. Those guides are amazing. Mountains are amazing.
So what's travel like coming back as far as like getting your trophies?
So we actually, when we flew over there, we brought these like what they call trophy bags. They're just giant, like, I'm not sure what you would call them. Basically like those river type bags, but like a pull closure on the top,
Like
that.
Like a dry bag?
Kind of like a big dry bag, yeah, like rubber ones, like rubberized ones,
Mm-hmm.
like you would just have in a raft or whatever. And we flew those over there, 2 bags, because they told us we could take our Ibex back home because they don't require all the CITES permits and stuff. They do have a CITES permit, but not as extensive, I believe, as the sheep and the wolf.
Mm-hmm.
So we were actually able to, so every night they scun everything, did it a full body. I was going to do a full body on my Ibex and a full body on my Marco.
You get a full body both of those?
Yeah, I figured I have to do it justice. Because once I saw my Ibex, at first I was like, I'm just going to do a shoulder
Did
mount.
you get a pay raise?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's a taxidermy bill right there. Holy shit!
Hey, man, when you just got to soak up these memories.
I agree. Priorities,
I'm
man.
just
It comes back down to priorities.
I'm just kidding you.
So once I saw the little patches these Ibex have in Tajikistan on their backside towards their like butt area, that's like really defines what
That's
they
really
are.
cool.
You're not going to see that on a shoulder mount. And I just figured they're gorgeous. They're absolutely so pretty of an animal, like the big old, beard on the front. And so I was going to do a full body on both of them. But we could actually ship them back. So every night they scun them all. They actually had a little heated floor area because of the hot springs where they could salt it, do all the prep work, turn the ears, the nose, eyes, everything like that, salt it all, and then dried everything. So we could just fold the hide up. And then they boiled all of our skulls too in the hot spring.
Wow.
So they have another little hot spring, but they call it just their skull pit, where they
It gets hot enough that they can.
Yep. So eventually they throw the ram
Don't dip
horns
your
in
toe
there,
in that one.
throw all the Ibex in there, and eventually it'll break apart that core, so you can pull the horn off,
Pull
and
the sheath.
dry everything out. So they got my skull plate of my Ibex, and the horns were able to fly back home with.
So you have those then?
Yep.
And sheep?
Sheep's going to be, like, they told me it could be a year for all the
Okay.
permits, but I guess they said they just had a meeting with United States Fish and Wildlife Service and Tajikistan, and actually United States apologized for how slow the process is, and they're trying to speed that up. They said, they gave the excuse of COVID and little things like that, but it was always slow before. But they said they're working on making that process
Everyone
a little
uses
faster.
that excuse still, right?
Yeah. So hopefully it could be 6 months.
Huh.
And I don't have them here in Vegas right now, otherwise I'd be showing you guys. But because I'm going to get them taxiderm in southern Minnesota. My dad is a really good taxidermist, so he's done a bunch of his Africa stuff.
Do they do anything? They don't plug those sheep or anything like that, like they do
I'm
here.
not honestly sure. I hope they do because I think that's kind of cool.
The plug's awesome. I love having those plugs.
Yeah, it's part of the process here in the lower 48.
Yeah. So
do they plug Alaskan sheep?
Mm-hmm.
They do.
Yep. You got to go check it in and get it plugged.
Same process.
Same thing. Yep.
So it's a little bit nerve-wracking to, trust that everything's going to go right with my hide. It's all salted and everything, but just make sure it stays in a good environment and nothing chews on it or whatever, bugs get in it or whatever it could be, and everything just makes it back safely because, I have photos, I have the memories, but I want to admire that animal for the rest
That's
of
your
my life.
art piece. It's like my dad. You can either go buy art or you can create it yourself. And if you're not an artist, this is like our version of it,
That's
right?
why I
like
mount pretty much every single mule deer I kill that's over a mature age.
Art is what you draw out of it, and if it's something that you have gone through and have that intimate relationship with, of like the adventure and getting after it and all that, that's the best art piece you can ever create.
Yep. So it's wild. I wish I could have taken my wolf back right away, but there were some CITES permits for that too, so I had to wait on my wolf.
Yeah,
get my
my
skull.
wolf took a while.
Triple a lifetime?
Absolute triple lifetime. Like I said, you have expectations of what you're going to experience when you go over there, and you've hyped yourself up, for 3 full years. Once I fully realized we're doing this, been dreaming about it for a long time. My dad's obviously been dreaming about it for his whole life, but to have it happen how it did, I could have never dreamed it would have been like that. Because my Ibex, 43-inch Ibex, they say average is 36.
Wow.
Hammer of an Ibex.
Yeah.
My Ibex,
Yeah,
Ibex is also 10.5 years
No
old.
kidding.
My dad's Ibex is 46 inches long.
Whoa.
Just an absolute cranker. Because Kyrgyzstan is where they have the bigger Ibex. And so that's why you want to go to Tajikistan for Marco.
And then go over. Yeah. Yep.
Kyrgyzstan.
Because they have they're like a slightly different species. I think these ones are bigger bodied, but a little smaller horns.
Are those ones the Kyrgyzstan, the Himalayan?
I honestly wouldn't be able
I don't know either. I don't know those species.
I had that screenshot
well.
from TJ Sanchez that he posted to his Instagram before I got over there. I was looking at it, but I can't remember exactly. But to take, all the animals we took were absolute giant animals, like above average and just super old. I took a 10.5-year-old ram. That's
awesome.
An amazing life.
That's badass to kill an animal that old anywhere.
Anywhere,
let alone on your once in a lifetime, unreal hunt.
I just keep thinking too, how cool would it be to see what that Marco has experienced in his life? Was he ever in Afghanistan? Was he one of the ones that migrate over there? Because
he probably saw some shit in Afghanistan. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
10 years. What would you say? 12 years?
10.5.
10.5 years of.
20.
He's seen some shit
12.
for sure.
Yeah.
What would you tell people about like adventure style hunting? Like what did you bring home from that?
You got to do it whenever you can, man. Like, yeah, it's super expensive. Like, that's the biggest hurdle, and the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm fortunate that, you know, you guys gave me the time to go over there, because like that's pretty crazy too. Like, but like, you only have one life, and this is how I want to live my life, is just hunting. Like, everyone knows how I don't do anything else. I save money at as much places as I can. Like, I cut off all hobbies. Like, the
I
adventure.
can validate that, man. That is genuinely true.
Like,
You don't spend money elsewhere.
I'm a hunter.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to do. Like I've said before, like if I wasn't hunting, I'd be some crazy like mountaineer person, because I love mountains and that adventure. And like, yeah, there's amazing places in the U.S., but I had never been outside of North America before. And yeah, I'm fortunate to do it at 36, finally leave North America and do something like this. And now it's like, to do that, and that was the top of my bucket list. I don't know where I'd go from here, but it's like
Blue sheep, Russia.
I really want a tur.
That would be awesome.
Sick, yeah. But like, you just, gosh, it's the adventure side, like seeing all the culture, the food, the people, like everyone's so nice, and it's not as dangerous as people say it is. Like, I looked it up before, like deaths per capita or whatever of Tajikistan compared to the United States. Like, there's some places in the U.S. that are a lot scarier.
It's all relative. Whenever, going down to Mexico, you hear all this shit, you hear everyone talk. It's all relative. Like, I can tell you where is dangerous in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
Equally as dangerous. I can tell you, go downtown Chicago. Yeah. When I was in Philadelphia, if I went a couple streets north, it was like game on. It's all relative, right? It's just there's certain ways to travel and do it,
but it's way
kind
more
of stay away from it.
I think there's a hell of a lot more. I mean, I don't know what's the saying. Something about like an unlived life. Essentially, is more. I mean, I would rather put myself in some of those situations and have experienced some things.
Yeah.
Than just like
Absolutely.
sit around and fear death, or fear something bad happening.
I completely agree.
Yeah. It's like, rather die with memories, in my life. And like, this is how I choose to live my life. And I hope, maybe listening to stories, and I'm trying to do a bunch more gear stuff, and I'm trying to do a lot more content around this hunt, because it is so special, that maybe inspires someone to want to do one of these hunts, because it literally is almost life-changing. Like,
yeah, I think it is.
When I come back here now, it's like I have a whole new perspective on everything. Like, I've been to the top of the world. I was 7,311 miles away from home. Like,
that is pretty wild. That's really wild, actually.
It's mind-blowing to me. Like, what else is out there in this world, and I've barely scratched the surface on it. And I love everything here, but it's like that international thing. Once you do it once, it's, my gosh.
International is pretty incredible.
Pretty amazing, especially what they do with wildlife and how they manage everything over there, and how everything does revolve, and like a small place like that revolve around hunting.
It creates its own infrastructure. It's wild.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, cool. We're glad to have you back.
Definitely
Good
glad
to
to have him back.
We just got to find a place in this office for some new mounts coming up.
We'll find them. We'll definitely find them.
Full body.
I'm never worried about that. We will definitely find it.
Yeah, full body will take up some space.
So yeah, the story's pretty crazy. It was really long, but I mean, it's so much to talk about.
It's
and I could probably
worth it,
go into more details. You guys know me; I'm a detail-oriented guy. So
yeah, I mean, if you want to, we can release this in 1 or 2. Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. It's cool to sit
awesome.
and just hear the whole story. I mean, I'm genuinely
all in one piece. Yeah.
Yeah, genuinely really fascinated by. I mean, and the reason I asked that question is like, what did you learn, or what would you pass on to people? That's been my experience. I mean, anytime I've ever done any kind of hunt like that, Alaska, even a different state. It changes your perspective. I mean, it really does open up just so much more possibilities. I think it's a great thing, and I would highly encourage everybody to do it. Start looking, get outside your box.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
because tomorrow is never guaranteed in life.
No.
It's just not.
And like you said, even if it's the Alaska, or even the Alaska thing, or even if it's 2 states over, just something entirely different from what you're used to.
Yep.
Hunting the plains somewhere, hunting, big mountain stuff if you are from the plains. Like, it just completely changes everything.
Yep. It's a good thing to do. Well, good deal. We appreciate it.
Thanks for letting me blab for a while.
No, you're
It
good.
was awesome. I loved hearing it all in one.
Cool.
One
Since you're here, Trail, I do owe you a lot of photos, so I'm going to probably show you a bunch of photos on the computer, because
I do want to see it.
It's literally endless.
I want to see the kill shot of
I've only
Marco.
ever seen a few. I do want to see
the kill shot's amazing.
I want to see the kill shot.
Even like I said, driving those roads, like I get so many pictures of vehicles and giant semis coming back, because that road leads to China. So like, cool, just all the cool things you see like when you're out there. I was trying to just document it all.
Let's go eat some food and look at some videos.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
See you, everyone.